The story kicks off with this old guy, chilling at his desk, scribbling stuff down. He calls himself Shartya von de Kremsley, and he's the big boss chancellor for the Inox Empire. Shartya pretty much says he's always been the type who'd rather serve his master than go out chasing the throne or trying to be the king of all vampires. Serving was just his thing. A glowing book floats in the air above a wild-looking magic circle. Charsha's got his mind made up. He's set on writing down everything his master has pulled off, no matter how insane it gets. Everything kicks off with this wild moment. One day, the sky just blows up with a massive streak of purple lightning. It's not something you see every day, the whole place gets lit up, and that's where the story really starts. Out of nowhere, this guy just showed up, like he dropped straight in from some other world. When he arrived, everything went wild. A massive dragon was right there with him, and the whole place looked wrecked. They started pushing into Arx, taking over land bit by bit. After what happened with the invasion, people showed up in huge numbers, hyped and cheering for the emperor of the Great Arx Empire. Everyone was celebrating his win like it was the best thing ever. Chancellor Kremsley walks up to the emperor, clearly hyped about the win. He's pretty much buzzing, telling the emperor that now, every dimension is in his control. But the emperor just sits there, totally unbothered, repeating those words without any energy. The emperor kept talking as he turned away from his chancellor, just putting his thoughts out there. He said nobody really knows what's up with his homeland. Kremsley watched him, worried something was off. Kremsley jumps back into the story, letting everyone know that this guy is actually his master. Ever since the day the dude showed up, it only took him 50 years to take over the whole continent. Kremsley keeps talking about how insane his master's powers are. This guy can straight up control millions of dead people just by thinking about it. His sword skills are so insane he could literally slice through mountains and cut across the sea. Everyone calls this guy the Emperor of the Onyx Empire. Nobody really knows what to make of him. He just showed up out of nowhere from another world, and straight up, nothing can kill him. The King of the Dead wasn't just some legend. He actually ran things for the living too. Kremsley knew for sure that out of all the titles people threw around, nothing really hit like his real name. Everyone bowed down when he showed up, and anyone dumb enough to step up got smoked, turned into one of his undead followers, stuck serving him forever. Nobody could stand up to his majesty. He took down the dragons that had everyone freaking out across the continent, wiped out the Demon King, beat all 7 top demon archdukes, crushed the heavenly demon, and even the boss of the martial arts world couldn't touch him. Even the King of Spirits, the one who watches over the world tree, was there. Every world linked to the continent of Anox basically ended up under his control. Kremsley can't help but wonder how someone as regular as him is supposed to figure out what his master really wants. He honestly just wanted one thing, and it wasn't anything wild. Deep down, he was just hoping to make it back home to Earth. He'd searched everywhere, even jumped through all kinds of different worlds, but still couldn't figure out how to get home. At this point, the Emperor just called in every god of war he had to help him out. Sitting on his throne, he looked out at everyone, letting them know he needed their attention. He told them he was worn out and just wanted to crash for a long sleep. His followers couldn't believe what just happened. One guy started thinking about what this decision was actually about, while another, who looked like a total lich skeleton, made it clear they weren't giving up. They were still on the grind, trying to find a way for him to come back. The Emperor didn't really see the point in going back, saying it had been almost 300 years since he'd left home. He thought about his family and friends a lot, missing them like crazy. By now, he figured they'd gotten old, maybe even passed away. The Emperor just accepted it. He realized he was way too late. His followers just stared at him, looking down. After that, he told everyone to drop what they were doing and only work on figuring out how he could finally rest for good. Everyone in the crowd started freaking out after hearing His Majesty's choice. Nobody was cool with it. You could just feel the frustration in the air as they pushed back against what he decided. Kremsley explains how the crying in the palace just kept going all day, but at the end of the day, nobody could really go against what the Emperor said. When it was all said and done, the old higher-ups in the palace set up this wild disintegration magic circle that basically just erased anything in its path. The Emperor stared at the magic circle, thinking he could finally see everything for himself now. Right after that, his master just walked straight toward the magic circle by himself. Kremsley trailed behind, not wanting to let him go alone, calling out as he went. Right then, Kremsley showed up out of nowhere, sprinting hard and yelling for his master. He didn't slow down, just kept chasing after him straight to the magic circle, basically letting everyone know he was down to follow his master no matter what, even if it cost him everything. The Emperor put his foot down right in the middle of the glowing magic circle. Everything just felt done. Kremsley thought everything was chill, but then out of nowhere, this super bright light lit up the place. Someone started talking, asking why it was dark. Kang Jun, who's actually the Emperor in a fresh body, shows up out of nowhere with a baby girl in his arms. Kremsley wakes up freaking out, totally confused about where he is. Kang Jun isn't having it. He calls Kremsley out for being cheap and tells him to keep the lights on when he's home. Kremsley's chilling in his modern sports gear, holding his head like he's got a lot on his mind. He basically points out that when things get really dark, even a little bit of light stands out way more than normal. Kang Jun shoots him a dirty look, thinking this guy really has the nerve to talk back. He basically tells him that if he's got to start talking all polite, he might as well keep quiet. Kremsley just coughs awkwardly, clearly embarrassed. Kremsley noticed it was super late and asked his master why he was still up. Kang Jun, chilling in a room packed with kids' toys, just looked at him, kinda confused, like he couldn't tell if Kremsley was being serious or just messing around. He says he hasn't gotten any sleep since the baby's been up all night. Kremsley feels bad and bows, clearly sorry about it. Kang Jun just tells him to keep it down, thinking the last thing they need is the baby waking up and losing it again. Sure enough, baby Sol started moving around and then just started crying super loud. Kang Jun was clearly annoyed, basically telling Kremsley that since he's the one who woke her up, it's on him to handle whatever comes next. Kremsley, doing his usual thing, politely brings up if she might be hungry. But Kang Jun shuts that down fast, saying he already gave her some baby food. Kremsley, still keeping that same vibe, brings up checking her diaper. Kang Jun just shrugs it off, saying she's all good and there's nothing to worry about. Kremsley finally owns up, saying he honestly doesn't get why she's upset, even though he's tried to figure it out. As usual, Kang Jun just calls him useless. Kremsley's back at his desk, scribbling stuff down in his notebook. He's busy writing when his phone suddenly blows up with a call that totally catches him off guard. Kang Jun lets everyone know there's a late-night snack on the way, and it turns out his sister hooked them up. As soon as Kremsley hears snack, his eyes light up. He's instantly hyped. Kang Jun lets him know it's chicken, and right away, Kremsley just jets out of the room yelling about chicken and totally forgetting his book wide open on the table. The story picks up right where the book left off. Kremsley talks about how, since the magic circle didn't work out, his master ended up heading back to the place he'd always wanted to go, his real home. He mentions that, in this spot, there was something around that his master would have never expected. He'd never even dated anyone before, let alone been married, so this whole thing was new territory for him. The scene flashes to a red hair tie, hinting at the princess like she's always on his mind. Right now, Kang Jun, Kremsley, and baby Sol are chilling together, about to dive into some chicken. Kremsley's just enjoying it, thinking chicken always hits the spot. Kang Jun's sister Subin shows up and tells Kremsley, the old guy, that he should eat plenty. Subin steps up to help out with Sol, holding her and feeding her so he can finally eat without any stress. While they're sitting there, she looks over and asks if he was home all day again, noticing he's still acting kind of out of it. Kang Jun just kept eating, acting like he was totally chill since he was at home. He didn't look lost or anything, he seemed pretty sure of himself. Subin watches him, clearly worried, and points out that he's definitely lost right now. After what just happened, Kang Jun tries to act like everything's normal, but Subin cuts him off. She doesn't want him to fake being okay, and honestly, she's just relieved he made it back in one piece. Subin points out that he vanished back when the first gate opened. She's trying to figure out how long it's actually been, since he got stuck inside for years and only just made it back. Honestly, it'd be weird if he bounced back right away after all that. Kang Jun, pretty much used to this by now, reminds her again that he wasn't stuck in some gate. Out of nowhere, he just got yanked over to this place called the continent of Annex. Subin rolls his eyes, thinking this guy's probably about to start bragging again about how he used to be some overpowered emperor from some far-off place. Kang Jun just nods, making it clear he's not lying. Then some info pops up about Lee Kang Jun, he's the emperor of Annox, survived the gate, but right now, dude's got no job. Subin keeps up her sarcastic vibe and gestures over at Kremsley, clearly curious about who this random old guy is. Kremsley just goes ahead and tells her his name, kind of trying to make things less awkward. Kang Jun goes on to say that Kremsley is his right-hand man and another survivor from the gate, though right now he doesn't have a job. Back in the day, Kremsley helped him out with almost everything, even talking about government stuff. Kremsley points out that, as someone totally loyal, he was usually the one handling most of the paperwork and admin behind the scenes. Kang Jun's older sister, Lee Subin, who works at a factory, just nods like she gets it. Subin lets out a tired breath and explains how most people who make it out of the gates end up messed up in the head, sometimes even losing the ability to talk because of all the trauma they went through. She's honestly relieved that Kang Jun and the old guy Kremsley only seem a little out of it instead of dealing with anything serious. Kang Jun looked pretty annoyed. Even though Subin's his only sister, he clearly wasn't cool with her calling him crazy. Subin just brushed it off and tried to calm him down, patting his shoulder and reminding him that he'd just come back after 3 years, so struggling to fit in again was totally normal. Subin keeps hyping him up, letting him know he's still got a lot ahead of him and he shouldn't stress, just stick with whatever the doctors are telling him. She quickly switches it up, calling it adjustment instead of treatment, and promises she'll handle everything until he's good. Kang Jun just sits there, not saying anything. She looks over at the old guy and lets Kremsley know he can chill with them as long as he needs until he finds his family. Kremsley's super thankful to Subin Mama for helping him out. Kang Jun glances over at Sol, kind of confused, while his baby daughter Lee Sol, just a little kid, not even old enough for daycare, starts making some noise. Sol walked up, holding her bib, the strings all loose. Kang Jun noticed and just decided he'd tie it for her. He grabs the bib strings and remembers how, back in the day, he used to tie the same kind of knots to hang people who got caught for high treason. Sol stares at him, eyes wide, really struggling to say what he just heard. He's trying hard, but the words just don't come out right. Kang Jun nods, all serious, and tells her to pay attention. He grabs a chicken neck and starts showing how to tie the bib using its strings, making sure she sees every move. He points out that when the knot's this tight, it snaps the neck right away. Right as he's about to get his words out, Subin pops up out of nowhere and just yells his name. She just freezes, not believing what she's seeing, and tries to figure out why he's even talking like that to a baby. Kong-jun keeps his cool, saying he's just teaching some dad stuff. Subin's had enough. She tells him to quit it, cleans Sol up, and makes it clear he's not allowed to tell any more weird stories to their kid. Kong-jun grumbles under his breath, looking like this whole parenting thing is next level tough. Kong-jun carefully wipes off Sol's face, making sure he's gentle the whole time. Subin notices Sol really seems to enjoy it when her dad is around and gives her attention. Kong-jun scoops up the baby, noticing she's already looking sleepy, and lets everyone know he's about to take her to her room. He sets her down on the bed, moving slow, and his mind drifts to his daughter. She was born when he wasn't even there. Kong-jun thinks back to when Subin held the baby and introduced her as Lee Sol. She explained that Lee Sol's mom passed away giving birth, which happened while Kong-jun was nowhere to be found. Subin also wanted to know if he could remember anything about what went down. Kong-jun remembered and said this all went down about 300 years back. Subin almost started saying 300 again, but then she paused. She got it now. She looked at him, reminding him that she's still his daughter and just wanted him to treat her right. Right now, King-jun is chilling beside Sol, who's out cold. He crosses his arms, thinking things could honestly be a lot worse. Kong-jun starts thinking back to his old life. He remembers standing out in a field while the sun was going down. Kremsley had asked him what he'd want to do if he ever got the chance to go back home. Kong-jun just threw the question back at him, kind of lost in his own thoughts. The emperor thought about it and said he just wanted a chill, normal life where he could blend in and nobody really paid attention to him, just kind of there, not standing out. Right now, Kang-jun just pulls a blanket over his daughter Sol, making sure she's comfortable. He realizes that just being there for his kid and living life is actually one of those normal things people do every day. Kang-jun stands up and spots some papers just sitting on the desk nearby. He grabs the stack of papers and sees a bunch of bills, plus a notice saying he's late on a payment. The next afternoon, Kang-jun showed up in a new shirt, spoon in hand. He looked serious and let everyone know something was up. Kang-jun is over there chilling and feeding Sol with a spoon. Meanwhile, Kremsley's just hanging out in the back, kind of watching everything go down. When Kang-jun suddenly mentions there's an issue, Kremsley's brain instantly starts running circles trying to figure out what's up. Kang-jun checks what's going on, then turns to Sol and asks about the food. The baby just nods, basically saying, yeah, it's good. Meanwhile, Kremsley is sitting there, kind of frozen, wondering if the absolute legend himself really just dropped the word problem. Kang-jun points at the papers and tells Kremsley to read them out loud. Kremsley grabs the stack of papers and starts reading. It's a debt notice, something about phone bills not getting paid. Kang-jun's not surprised and just wants to see what's next, so Kremsley keeps going. This time, it's a warning about their water getting cut off because they haven't paid up. Kang-jun's like, alright, what else? So he tells Kremsley to keep it coming. Kremsley keeps scrolling through the overdue bill notices. First, the electricity's getting cut, then there's a warning about the gas getting shut off too. Kang-jun interrupts him, saying that's plenty, and just keeps feeding Sol, not looking too bothered. Kremsley, kind of awkward but trying to be real, looks over at Kang-jun and wonders if all these papers are just bills that haven't been paid yet. Kang-jun nods, realizing Kremsley's got a point. He thinks about it, his sister never brought it up, but it's obvious now that their money situation is totally out of control. Kremsley, totally confused about who'd even try to charge someone from the royal fam, starts thinking out loud. He figures they could just bump up taxes for a while and hit up the nobles and local lords with higher rates, just to cover things for now. Kang-jun tries to hold back, but ends up cracking up at the thought of progressive taxes. He grabs his head, just losing it, and Kremsley just stands there, stunned, not sure what's up with his master. Kang-jun just grins, looking like he knows something nobody else does and lets him know he's way off. He breaks it down, saying that if they lined up their lives on Earth next to the social ranks in Anox, they'd barely make it past being treated like slaves or just basic commoners. Kang-jun keeps talking, using his finger to show what he means. He explains that everyone has to push through tough work and serve the higher-ups, just to get a small amount of cash and make it through each day. Kremsley just stood there, completely stunned. He remembers that he's got the purest vampire blood out there, and even made it all the way up to Vampire Lord before. He earned the Archduke title after putting in serious work for the king, pulling off a bunch of impressive wins. In this world, he's just stuck being a slave. Kremsley stumbles, barely keeping it together. He tries to chill out, reminding himself that real loyalty shows when things get sketchy. Kremsley drops to one knee in front of Kang-jun, making it clear he's down to help Kang-jun build up a new empire and take back the throne. Kang-jun just kind of shrugs it off, acting like he doesn't really care either way and telling Kremsley to do whatever he wants. Kang-jun lets out a deep breath and pulls Sol closer, letting him know they've got to start making cash. Later on, Kang-jun grabbed some baby food and tried to feed Sol, holding out the spoon and basically waiting for her to open up. But Sol just wasn't having it. She straight up refused, not even giving him a chance. Subin shows up, checking them out, and mentions how they made this baby food with black sesame seeds just for Sol. But honestly, Sol isn't vibing with it at all. Kang-jun thinks back to some advice he once got. If a kid doesn't want to eat, don't try to force it. Instead, it's better to help them get into eating by making it feel like a game or something fun. Kang-jun says they're about to play a game, so Sol and Subin turn to him, curious to see what he's got planned. Kang Jun lays out the rules. It's all about who can eat faster and finish their food first. He grabs his spoon, eyes lighting up like he's really into it, and throws down a deal. If she wins, the day's hers to do whatever she wants. Then he checks if she's down for the challenge. Sol's eyes lit up and she instantly got hyped, not holding back as she loudly showed she was all in for the challenge. Subin grinned and hyped her up, telling Sol to eat and go beat her dad. Sol's eyes lit up, totally ready for it, while Kang Jun just smirked, thinking she was moving way too slow. Kang Jun looks back on how things started for him, remembering when he got dropped right into the chaos on Annex. He knows the main reason he managed to climb all the way up and become one of the strongest. He always put in max effort, even if he was just going after one rabbit. He just digs into his food, barely stopping to breathe. While he's stuffing his face, he lets her know that she's way too slow to ever beat him. Sol just freezes, totally caught off guard. She hears her dad challenge her, and suddenly her eyes start tearing up. The baby suddenly starts crying, and Subin hurries over to pick her up. He looks over at Kang Jun, clearly annoyed, wanting to know what Kang Jun did to make her upset. Kang Jun tries to explain that he didn't mean to make her cry, but Subin isn't buying it. She says it really looked like he was out to make her upset. Kang Jun watches his daughter break down in tears. He tells her that if she thinks life's unfair, she's got to get tougher. Subin just stands there, not saying anything. Sol just starts crying harder, and Subin lets out a sigh, trying to help her chill out. While all this was going on, Kremsley sat down and started jotting stuff in his journal. He wrote about how the Emperor had thrown down a food challenge to the princess earlier that morning. Even though the princess was barely 3, the Emperor went all in and somehow managed to pull off the win. Kremsley keeps jotting stuff down while glancing out the window. As he wraps up his notes, it's pretty clear he's got some worries about what he might do next. Later on, Kang Jun shows up carrying Sol and asks his sister Subin if he can head out today. Subin, who was in the middle of cleaning, pauses and looks at him, kind of caught off guard that he suddenly wants to go somewhere. Subin was honestly worried. It was her day off and she figured she could look after Sol, but the idea of him heading out by himself just didn't sit right with her. Kremsley jumps in, cracking up, and lets Subin know everything's chill because he's tagging along with him. Subin looks at him, caught off guard, not expecting that he'd actually want to tag along too. Kang Jun and Kremsley are sitting on the bus, just cruising. As they ride, Kang Jun starts thinking back to when he talked with Subin about cash. He thinks back to when Subin told him she was completely broke. She explained their area is sketchy, so rent is dirt cheap, but now she's burning through her security deposit just to get by. Kang Jun thinks back to when he asked her how much money she needed. She brushed it off, telling him to chill and just handle his own stuff. She even laughed a little, saying she was hoping her lottery ticket would hit big this week, like $1,000,000,001 big. Subin kept thinking that winning meant they could finally get out and find somewhere safe to live. Then she could really look after Sol until he landed a solid job. Subin glanced down and saw Sol crashed out, still holding onto her leg. She thought about how Sol was at that stage where she really needs people to show her love and pay attention to her. Back on the bus, Kang Jun figures this is just something money can fix. He lets Kremsley know what's on his mind. He lets him know that if he wants his money moves to go off without a hitch, he'll have to switch up his name and start over with a fresh identity. Kremsley starts to think maybe the guy's talking about his name. Kang Jun nods, totally sure about it, and lets him know he's got a new name lined up, one that just fits this place perfectly. Kremsley tries to keep his cool, but he's actually hyped inside, thinking the Emperor might hook him up with a brand new name. Right then, Kang Jun steps up and drops the news that he's not going by Charchiev onto Krabsley anymore. Choi dollars. Kremsley hears the name, kind of thrown off, and realizes he hasn't even been around this world that long yet. Kang Jun spots the look on his face and wonders if he's not vibing with his new name. Kremsley just shakes his head, letting him know that's not it. Still, Kang Jun can't help but question what's really up with that expression. Kang Jun talks about how the name Dalsu isn't just some random name. It's been handed down for ages, only given to the most loyal guys in the crew. He breaks it down. Dal means rock, Su means steel, so basically Kremsley's loyalty is built different, solid and unbreakable, just like rock and steel. Kang Jun mentioned he'd switch up the name if it didn't vibe with him, but before he could finish, Kremsley jumped in, looking hyped. Kremsley wouldn't even think about questioning a name given by the Emperor. That's just not something he'd mess with. Kang Jun nods, looking pretty happy that he actually likes the name. In his head, he's kind of relieved too, since it sounds way better than Kim Gai-dong, which was the first name he thought of. They pull up to a busy bus station in the city. Kang Jun lets Dalsu know they've made it and it's time to hop off. Dalsu, who everyone calls Kremsley, glances around, kind of lost, and thanks Kang Jun for having his back, but he can't help but wonder where they're actually headed next. Kang Jun lets them know they're heading straight for a gate. Dalsu's eyes light up, and he gets hyped just thinking about how the gate's probably packed with monsters. He laughs to himself, pretty sure he made the right call. Kang Jun noticed Dalsu, also known as Kremsley, was way too hyped and couldn't help but ask what was up. Dalsu started explaining in this deep, almost wise way, trying to break it down for him. Even the coolest sword gets rusty if it just sits around doing nothing. He couldn't help but get hyped just thinking about getting back into action, realizing it's been ages since he last faced real danger, where every second could be your last. As they walked, Kang Jun mentioned it probably wouldn't be easy. Kongjun told Dulso they were just there to carry stuff, and Dulso didn't really get it. Turns out, if you want to hunt inside the gate, you gotta get a registration card first. Each one costs 1,000,000 per person, so it's not exactly cheap. Dalsu dropped to his knees right there in the street. He just couldn't handle being stuck as a porter. No way. He asked his master to let him handle things on his own for a while, at least until the family's money problems got sorted out. People started crowding around, all curious about what was going on, so Kongjun told his friend to chill out since everyone had their eyes on them. Dulso just stayed on the ground no matter what anyone said. He made it clear he wasn't about to start carrying other people's stuff even if things got real dangerous. A shadow slid across Kongjun's face as he leaned in, voice low, wondering if the guy was actually going to stay down. The next second, his tone switched up sharp and cold, basically asking if he had a death wish. Dalsu freaked out for a second, thinking his master was mad at him. He remembered the warning and realized if he messed up like Jianma the heavenly demon, he could end up just as bad. He jumped up fast and said sorry to his master, really hoping he wouldn't get in trouble. Kongjun rested his hand on his buddy's shoulder, letting him know he understood that everything he said was just because he had his back. Kongjun let him know not to stress too much, saying he heard porters make around 300,001 a day. He pointed out they'd only need a couple of days on the job to stack enough cash for the registration and bills, so they wouldn't be stuck doing this forever. As they were chatting, some random guy walked up to them. A guy showed up in full hunting gear with a backpack, checking if they were the ones trying out for the porter gig at the D-rank gate that day. Around the entrance to the glowing purple gate, guards hung out and random people were just moving around nearby. Dalso noticed that even though the place was wide open, everyone just kept walking past like it was no big deal. The guy said his name was Kim Bong-gu, and he was a C-rank hunter. He let everyone know who he was and then made sure the rest of the hunters got to know each other too. A massive, bald hunter named Lee Byung-kaol looked over and clearly wasn't impressed seeing an old dude and a skinny kid show up to work as porters. Dalsu said he could still handle the job even though he was older. He started to tell everyone about himself, but Lee Byung-chaol cut him off and started making fun of him. Lee Byung-chol didn't hold back. He pretty much trashed the porter job, saying it was so tough that even the strongest guys out there couldn't handle it. He just looked at the old man and the skinny kid, clearly thinking they had no shot. Dalsu leaned in close to his master, trying to see if he should just end things right there. But Kongjun shut it down quick, saying it wasn't the right moment yet. He told him they just had to grind as porters for a few days, stack up enough cash, and then they could finally get their Awakeners ID cards. Dalsu caught on to what his master was really up to and just sat there, kind of impressed. He realized he almost messed up big time if he hadn't figured it out when he did. Kongjun moved up and wanted to find out who was running things in the group. Kim Bong-gu let everyone know he was running the squad. Kongjun wanted to know if Kim was holding back on hiring them just because they didn't look all that reliable. Kim basically said yeah, that was the reason. Then Lee Byung-kaol jumped in, backing them up and saying they were solid and wouldn't start any problems. Kim Bong-gu just stood there, not really sure what move to make next. His mind kept running through his options, but he couldn't decide what to do. He thought about his family stuck in the hospital and realized just how badly he needed cash this week. At the end of it all, he let the two guys join the squad, thinking there was no way he was going to sit this gate out. Lee Byung-chaol just stares at Kim Bong-gu, kind of stunned, not sure if the guy's for real. Kim Bong-gu stays chill, letting him know it's just a D-rank gate, nothing wild should go down. He's pretty confident the two of them can take care of it, no problem. Kim Bong-gu brings up Lee Byung-kaol's money problems, pointing out that he's got a lot to cover this week. His mom's hospital bills, his brother's academy payments, and his own field trip fees. Lee Byung-kaol isn't really happy about it, but in the end he goes along with it. Kim Bong-gu showed some appreciation to Lee Byung-chil for being chill about everything. Lee Byung-chil just brushed it off, acting like it was no big deal. He pointed out that they had that F-rank hunter on their side anyway, so there wasn't really anything to stress about. Lee Byung-chil figures the F-rank hunter isn't really going to help out in any fights, so he might as well just help carry bags with the porters. Problem solved. Kongjun catches what's going on and realizes someone else is in the mix now. Right then, Lee Byung-kaol spots the F-rank hunter coming over. He calls out, kind of impatient, hoping the guy will finally speed up. All he wanted was a cup of coffee, and after all this waiting, the dude finally shows up. The F-rank hunter jogs over, out of breath, and hands over the coffee, tossing out a quick, sorry as he does. As Lee Byung-kaol grabs the coffee, Kongjun just stands there watching. He starts thinking about how hunters with lower ranks basically get treated like they're just there to serve the stronger ones. It hits him that the world now isn't really that different from the continent of Arcs, where the strong just walk all over everyone else. For some reason, that thought kinda stings. Lee Byung-chaol drops his bags on the ground, clearly annoyed, and looks at everyone like he's trying to figure out what's actually going on. He's got questions, mainly if they're really bouncing tomorrow or not. The F-rank hunter starts to speak up, but Lee Byung-kaol cuts him off and basically tells him to hang back and give the porters a hand. He throws some shade, asking if that old guy and the skinny kid could actually handle all the bags on their own. Lee Byung-chaol keeps going off on him, making it clear he only got in because someone was feeling generous. He doesn't hold back, saying if the F-rank hunter tries to get involved up front, he'll just slow everyone down. The F-rank guy just takes it, nodding and accepting it without putting up a fight. Lee Byung-Kal looks over at Kang Jun and straight up calls him clueless. Kang Jun just stands there, replaying that word in his head, caught off guard. Lee Byung-Kal locked eyes with him and made it clear he was talking straight to him. He pointed right at the guy, letting him know there's no room to stress about staying safe here, so he better not get in their way. He points out that the same rules hit the old man too. Dalsu just loses it, his mind racing, trying to figure out how that guy could be so bold. After Lee Byung-Kal dips out, the F-rank hunter steps up to the bags, making it clear he's grabbing the heaviest one to carry. He swings a big bag onto his back, kind of flexing that, sure, he's only F-rank, but he's still awakened. He knows he's not really built for fighting, but honestly, carrying a couple bags, that's easy work for him. Kang Jun checks him out and nods along, but when the hunter pauses and wonders what's up, Kang Jun says he's got some advice for him. The hunter looks at him, kind of confused, wondering what he's talking about. Kang Jun just tells him straight up that he needs to make cash today, no matter what, and really doesn't want to mess around with any problems. Kang Jun watches the hunter stumble around, clearly lost. He gives the guy a look that basically says he's not buying the whole clueless act. Kang Jun knows the hunter is faking it, playing up the weak and innocent vibe, but for now he tells him to keep it up until everything's wrapped up today. Kang Jun just says he's supposed to help with their bags and then bounce, thinking it shouldn't be that complicated. He looks over at Dalsu, hinting it's time to bounce, and Dalsu's totally on board. When they get to the front office, Dalsu wonders if this is just how you're supposed to check in. The guy working at the desk calls out Kim Bong-gu's name and lets him know their booking for the gate near Goro Digital Complex Station is set. He says they're good to go in now, but there's something else he's about to mention. The employee lets them know that even though it's only a D-rank gate, people have actually died here lately. Kim Bong-gu kept thinking about those fatal accidents, kind of worried. The staff member nodded, explaining the management already marked the place for investigation. He mentioned it's not supposed to be that tough, but no one really knows why, so he told Bong-gu to watch out. Bong-gu appreciated the heads up. Out of nowhere, this purple gate just lights up right outside. Kim Bong-gu, Lee Byung-Chil, and the F-rank hunter took off running and slipped through the gate together. Kang Jun nudged Dalsu, signaling they should follow. Dalsu was down for it, so both of them headed in right after the others. The second they step in, Kang Jun finds himself just standing in this pitch-black space, and suddenly, a game-like screen pops up right in front of him. It's got all these updates flashing stuff about setting up his player info, checking out how strong he is, and showing his stats, with little loading bars ticking up as it goes. 2 last notifications popped up. Turns out, this guy's stats are so high, the system can't even process them. Right after that, it confirmed his profile was all set. Right after, the squad ends up deep in a creepy forest. It's dark, the vibes are off, and Lee Byung-Kal can't shake the feeling that something's up with this gate. Lee Byung-Chil kept talking, kinda curious if the group already knew undead monsters were about to show up. Kim Bong-gu just nodded, saying they had to lock in and wrap things up fast. Kang Jun trails after the group, just doing his own thing. Out of nowhere, this massive blue system window pops up right in front of him, and no one else seems to notice. On the screen, it shows Lee Kang Jun's name, his class is Necromancer and level 1. All his titles and stats just show up as a bunch of question marks, like the game isn't ready to reveal anything yet. The system also points out that he can't summon anyone because he's still too low level. Kang Jun just stares at it, low-key confused about what's even going on. Kang Jun keeps staring at the window, kind of annoyed. He can't believe he's stuck at level 1, it just doesn't make sense. Honestly, even he struggles to figure out how strong he really is, so he can't see how anyone else could measure it with some random system. As he thinks it over, he starts to wonder what this whole divine power thing actually means. Kang Jun actually thinks titles are kinda cool, so he figures he must have picked up the Absolute Necromancer title when his black magic hit level 9. Seeing the title, Dimension Invader, he figures it's probably because he messed up a bunch of dimensions while trying to get back to Earth without even meaning to. He figures with a name like Demon Slayer, he's probably taken out over 1 million demons by now. He figures the Dragon Slayer title must have come from that time he took down the dragon. After that, he checks out the next one, the one who plundered the World Tree. Kang Jun can't believe they gave out a whole title just because he grabbed the divine tree from the spirit world. All he did was take it back to the palace garden since the place looked empty. He honestly had no clue the thing would die off that fast. Kang Jun checks out his followers tab and figures out that if he levels up, he'll actually be able to bring out the followers he's already made deals with. Kang Jun grinned, thinking how easy things would get if he could bring not just Dalsu and Kremsley, but also the ministers, palace staff, top military leaders, and treasury guys to Earth. That would make everything way simpler for him. Right then, Lee Byung-Chil called out Kang Jun for zoning out when they were literally in a spot where one wrong move could get them both hurt. Kim Bong-gu said it was time to get going. The group moves through the forest, barely able to see anything with how dark and empty it is. The 3 hunters took the lead, with Kang Jun and Dalsu trailing a few steps back. Lee Byung-Kal looked around, clearly not vibing with how gross the place was. Kim Bong-gu nodded, thinking they should just wrap things up fast and bounce. The F-rank hunter glances back at Kong Jun and Dalsu, and Kong Jun starts thinking maybe it's easier to just go with them. Dalsu, also known as Kremsley, leaned in close to Kang Jun and pointed out how chill the place actually was. He notices his tired body and brain finally starting to bounce back, and Kong Jun just nods, saying he's chill. Kang Jun glanced around the packed forest, kinda confused because he thought undead monsters were supposed to show up here. He looks around and instantly gets Deadlands vibes. This spot reminds him a lot of that off-limit zone back on Anox. For the first time, he thinks it actually feels good. Out of nowhere, Kim Bong-gu throws his hand up and tells everyone to chill for a sec. The F-rank hunter steps up, getting his game face on, and blue energy starts lighting up around his hands. Kim Bong-gu basically lets everyone know it's go time, and the F-rank hunter gives him the nod, showing he's ready. Right in front of them, a bunch of skeletons with weapons started climbing out of the ground. Kim Bong-gu focuses hard and pulls all his magic together, shaping it into this massive ice spear. He yells and chucks his spear straight at a skeleton. He goes all in and his attack goes right through the skeletons. Kong Jun checks out the magical blast, kind of curious but not really hyped about it. Kong Jun keeps his eyes on the fight, actually finding it pretty interesting. While Lee Byung-kail holds it down with his massive shield, blocking hits and smashing a bunch of skeletons, Kong Jun checks out the fight. He notices the skeletons aren't strong at all, but at least they look like actual enemies this time. When the fight wraps up, bones are scattered everywhere across the floor. Kim Bong-gu lets out a relieved breath, thinking this is all he had to deal with. He tells everyone to grab the monastones before doing anything else, then get ready to head out. Kong Jun, Dalsu, and the F-rank hunter started grabbing the glowing purple stones, picking them up from all the graves and bones spread out around them. Out of nowhere, even more skeletons show up and rush them. Lee Byung-kail gets pretty annoyed, thinking about how many times they've had to deal with this. He's blocking hits with his shield, just trying to keep it together as things start to get messy again. He yelled at the skeletons, just wanting them to back off. Kong Jun told him maybe he should chill out and watch himself, which just made Lee Byung-kail more annoyed. He turned to Kong Jun, clearly frustrated, wondering what he was even talking about. Kang Jun keeps his cool and lets everyone know they've got archers in the group. Lee Byung-chil rolls his eyes, thinking this is probably just some nonsense. Out of nowhere, arrows come flying straight at him. He grumbled under his breath, struggling to lift his shield just in time as the arrows slammed into it hard. Lee Byung-kail and Kim Bong-gu just stood there, frozen. Lee Byung-kail looked totally lost, almost like his brain glitched for a sec, trying to figure out what was even going on. Right then, an arrow flies straight at Kang Jun, but he just snags it out of the air with his hand like it's nothing, barely flinching. Kong Jun stares at the snapped arrow in his hand, clearly annoyed, wondering how it broke in the first place. Kim Bong-gu and Lee Byung-chail stare at him, totally thrown off. Kim Bong-gu's brain is working overtime, trying to figure out how Kong Jun pulled it off, while Lee Byung-chail's just confused, not really sure what's going on. Kong Jun just shrugs it off, acting like it's no big deal, and says he just got lucky. He turned to the hunters and called them out for not paying attention. He's clearly annoyed, saying he nearly lost his life because of them, then just kinda trails off, sounding tired and worn out from how rough it is trying to get by. Kim Bong-gu eyes Kong Jun and starts thinking he might have actually almost died, but after a second, he figures out it wasn't really that close. He glanced down at the arrow on the ground, still not sure if it was just random luck or something else going on. Even more skeletons showed up and started going after him. Kim Bong-gu yells out, wanting everyone to take out those creatures before doing anything else. Lee Byung-chail steps up beside him, making it clear they've got to take those guys out. The three hunters are up front, throwing hands with the skeletons, while Dalsu hangs back, clutching his head and clearly hurting. He tries to get his leader's attention, struggling with the pain in the middle of all the chaos. Right then, Kang Jun's locked in on a game of rock, paper, scissors with him. He says he might go with rock, but also hints he could switch it up last second. Dalsu just wants him to chill and quit messing around. Kang Jun wanted to know why he wouldn't just join the game, saying it's supposed to be fun. Dalsu wasn't having it. He was tired of being the only one getting smacked around, and honestly, he'd rather just be out. Kang Jun told him maybe things would switch up this time and called him to jump in for another round. Off to the side, the F-rank hunter just stood there, watching all of this go down without saying a word. The F-rank hunter can't help but notice that this guy's been on his case for a minute now. He remembers when Kang Jun told him to keep playing it cool. Now, looking over, he can tell Kang Jun's acting like he's got some secret and is pretty proud of himself. He starts thinking about whether he's actually part of the management crew. While Kang Jun kept his eyes on the game, he casually asked Dalsu what move he was planning next. Dalsu looked stressed, hoping Kang Jun would just play straight. Kang Jun shot him a cold look, basically calling out if Dalsu thought he was cheating or something, and Dalsu instantly backed off. Then Kang Jun cut him off, saying he'd just go with rock. Hearing that, Dalsu's mind started racing, hyped at the chance to pick scissors. The F-rank hunter just shook his head, convinced there's no way the office would actually hire people this wild. When the F-rank hunter turns around, Kang Jun's face suddenly gets serious. He's pretty sure they're almost there now. Up ahead, Lee Byung-chil takes out the final skeleton, thinking this should be the end of them. Kim Bong-gu looks around and knows it's really done now. Kim Bong-gu looked around at the group, noticing how tired everyone was. He pointed out that they'd all put in solid effort and figured it was probably time to call it a day and head back. Out of nowhere, the F-rank hunter jumps, caught off guard by something up ahead. He points straight ahead, trying to figure out what's going on. Through the fog, he spotted what looked like a monastery or maybe a castle way out there. Right in front of Kim Bong-gu, a system window popped up, letting him know the secret spot called Demon Worshipper's Monastery just unlocked. Kim Bong-gu couldn't believe it. He started thinking this place might actually be a hidden dungeon. He figures this kind of dungeon is where people really cash out, since it's packed with rare magic books and stuff you can't even put a price on. Besides all the rare treasures you can't find anywhere else, sometimes there are even elixirs hidden in there. Kim Bong-gu gets hyped just thinking about it, and right now, this is all he wants. He's on a mission to track down this rare elixir, the only thing that can actually wake his mom up from her coma. Kim Bong-gu keeps thinking about how stuff at auctions always goes for way more than he could ever pay. He knows there's no way he's outbidding anyone. If he wants one, he's gotta grab it himself. This is his shot. He's not looking to back out, he actually wants to give it a shot. After thinking it over, he looks around and asks the squad what move they should make about the hidden dungeon. Lee Byung-chil checks out the system window. Kind of surprised since he's never seen one up close before. He figures if they tell the office about it, they'll probably get a small reward, but the office will end up taking all the credit and control anyway. Kim Bong-gu looks around and points out that since they're already on the spot, they might as well just handle things themselves. Lee Byung-chil isn't convinced. He wonders if this crew can actually pull it off, and he's straight up about it, saying only the two of them actually have any real skills. Kim Bong-gu wants to hype him up, saying they're actually pretty strong now and the monster's still stuck inside a D-rank gate, so it shouldn't be a big deal. When Lee Byung-chil checks if he's really sure, Bong-gu just says the worst thing that could happen is it's still just D-rank, nothing wild. Lee Byung-chil starts getting hyped and thinks about giving it a shot. He figures that if this actually pays off and he makes some real money, he could finally call it quits and just chill for the rest of his life. He looks over at the three porters, Kang Jun, Dalsu, and that F-rank hunter and wants to know what they think about the situation. The F-rank hunter starts thinking, is this even considered overtime? He also wants to know if there's any extra cash for staying late. Lee Byung-chil just throws his hand up, all 5 fingers out, making it clear he's about to drop 5 times the normal price. He lets them know straight out that if they go for it, the danger is going to be 5 times worse too. The porters start doing the math in their heads. If they usually get 300,001 a day, 5 times that would stack up to 1,000 and 1,001. Kang Jun jumps in, totally down for it, not holding back at all. The F-rank hunter hangs back for a second, kind of unsure, but then steps up and says he's in too. Kim Bong-gu gives a quick nod, basically locking in the deal, then lets everyone know it's go time for the raid. Right after, Lee Byung-chil jumps in and tells the group they're heading out now. The 3 porters trail behind the hunters, making their way toward the monastery. As they got closer to the huge, creepy-looking building, Kim Bong-gu noticed the gate and thought it gave off some seriously scary vibes. He steps up and lets everyone know he's going in first. The squad steps through these massive doors, and right away, Kang Jun clocks how dark it is inside. Kim Bong-gu's on the same page, thinking they should keep it chill and watch their steps. As they move forward, the door just locks itself behind them. Kim Bong-gu suddenly yells out because the door's about to shut. Lee Byung-chil spins around, kind of freaking out, thinking they might be stuck inside now. The door slams shut right as everyone steps through. Lee Byung-chil instantly jumps into action, calling the others to help as he bolts straight for the door. He leans into the big fancy door and tries to shove it open, but it just won't budge. He slams his fist against the door, totally annoyed, and realizes it's not budging until every monster inside is gone. Kim Bong-gu stays chill and just points out that they showed up ready to see this thing through, so the squad keeps pushing ahead. Dalsu notices the door is locked and starts to wonder what's up with it. Kang Jun just shrugs it off, saying it's no big deal. If things get serious, he can break through the barrier spell anyway, so he tells Dalsu to keep it moving. The squad heads down this long, dark hallway covered in weird carvings. Kim Bong-gu can't help but notice how there aren't any monsters around, and Lee Byung-chil's on the same page. Kim Bong-gu suddenly stopped and told everyone to pause. He just stood there, staring at whatever was in front of him, looking totally stunned. Lee Byung-chil's face changed too. He looked like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The group steps into a massive hall and just stops. The whole place is packed with bodies and blood everywhere, like some wild fight went down. Lee Byung-chil just stands there, stunned, not really able to process what he's looking at. Kim Bong-gu looked around and could tell right away something wild had gone down here, like 2 squads just wiped each other out. Suddenly, the F-rank hunter started yelling, trying to get everyone's attention about something he'd spotted. At the end of the hallway, there's an altar splattered with blood, and on top of it sits this massive statue of a demon with wings. Kim Bong-gu just stands there, tripping over his own thoughts, not sure if he's actually looking at a real demon or if his mind is playing tricks on him. Kang Jun looks around, low-key confused about what's going on here. In the back of his mind, he swears he's seen this whole scene play out somewhere before. Dalsu spots some weird markings carved into the altar and points them out. To him, it looks like writing from another world, something totally out of place. Kang Jun tells him to translate, and Dalsu nods, ready to get started. Dalsu checks out the markings, pointing out that they're actually written in demon language. Lee Byung-Kao looks over and checks if Dalsu can read the papers. Dalsu takes a sec to fix his monocle, then gets ready to read everything out loud for everyone. Dalsu checks out the first part, and it says you have to get through a trial and show you're actually worthy. Kim Bong-gu starts thinking about what this trial could really mean. Dalsu checks out all the bodies lying around and realizes the test must have been to beat the monsters guarding the area. Since nobody else made it, he figures they've already cleared the trial. Dalsu keeps reading, spotting the part that says anyone who wants to prove their faith and loyalty has to put 10 living people on the altar. He points it out, realizing just how serious things are. Lee Byung-Cheol scrolls through the screen, eyebrows scrunched, seriously questioning what trash he just stumbled on. The stuff he's reading has him low-key annoyed, and he can't believe people actually post things like this. Dalsu keeps reading, breaking down that the text is about some powerful guardian from hell showing up. It says everyone has to get on their knees and ask for forgiveness, and only the ones he lets off the hook get to walk out alive. Dalsu looked at the blood-covered altar and the lit candles, clearly impressed. He thought it was insane how powerful the place felt, especially knowing the summoning spell on the altar could actually bring out a top-tier demon. Lee Byung-Cheol lost it and started yelling, basically calling the guy an old man who's out of touch and saying there's no way he believes any of this. Dalsu just pointed over at some markings on the wall, letting everyone know they stood for the fire of hell. He kept it chill, not making a big deal out of it. He breaks it down, saying hellfire never goes out and keeps burning by draining people's energy. A lot of people actually use it to bring demons into the world. Kim Bong-gu clocks what's going on and instantly gets this sinking feeling. He notices that every flame burning there means someone had to lose their life for it, and there's already 9 candles lit up on the altar. Kim Bong-gu figures out that 9 people have already been sacrificed, and just 1 more will finish the whole ritual. He wonders if the point is to call up some demon and ask it to spare them. Dalsu backs this up, saying that's what the plaque says. Lee Byung-Cheol just shakes his head, not buying what they're saying at all. Out of nowhere, the F-rank hunter steps up and says it's time to choose what to do. Kim Bong-gu looks at him, clearly not expecting that, and watches as the hunter gives him this intense stare and pulls his bag tighter, like he's ready for anything. It's obvious the hunter's thinking they can't just sit around and wait to get wrecked. Kim Bong-gu just looks even more confused, not really getting what the guy's talking about. The F-rank hunter keeps talking, sounding pretty serious, and lets everyone know that it's finally time one of them is about to be picked. Lee Byung-Cheol stares at him, pretty freaked out, trying to figure out what's up with that expression. The F-rank hunter suddenly just starts cracking up, laughing way too hard out of nowhere. Lee Byung-Cheol lost it, calling the guy out and making it clear he's not joking around. Meanwhile, Kim Bong-gu just stood there, looking like he wanted to disappear. The hunter just tossed out a fake apology, honestly laughing because watching everyone freeze up like that was kind of pathetic to him. He suddenly says it's time to pick who's getting sacrificed next, looking around like he's sizing everyone up to see who's the biggest deadweight. Kim Bong-gu isn't having it. He straight up refuses and stands his ground, saying they just need to look harder. There's definitely a way for everyone to make it out alive. Lee Byung-Kao watched the guy and thought this dude was seriously wild. He figured if anyone had to go, it should be one of the older folks who'd already been around for a while. His eyes drifted over to Dalsu, Kremsley, and Kang Jun, sizing them up. Dalsu catches that stare aimed right at them. He starts thinking about whether he's the one people talk about when they say someone's lived too long, but then it hits him. He's not even human to begin with. He started to worry, thinking it might actually be his master, the guy who's been around for over 300 years. Dalsu leaned in close to Kang Jun, hoping his master would let it slide this time. He tried to give him a heads up, saying those rude guys were coming after him, acting like he was just some old dude who'd been around forever. Kang Jun just looks him in the eyes, totally calm, and makes it clear that he's the one they've been talking about. Dalsu sits there, not really sure if Kang Jun's talking about him, but Kang Jun gives him another nod, making it clear, yeah, he's definitely the one. He tells him to just chill for a second, thinking back to when he lost rock, paper, scissors earlier. Dalsu doesn't fight it and just goes along with what he says. Right then, Kim Bong-gu suddenly yells out, telling everyone to slow down and figure out a way so nobody gets hurt. Lee Byung-Cheol loses his cool at Kim Bong-gu, calling him out for acting like he's some kind of hero. He stands his ground, saying he's not making a mistake, and tells everyone straight up that if they keep this up, none of them are getting out. They're all just setting themselves up for disaster. He gets pretty heated, blaming Kim Bong-gu for even bringing it up. But Kim Bong-gu tries to chill things out, reminding him that arguing over who's right isn't going to fix anything. Lee Byung-Cheol shot him a nasty glare, basically telling him to quit acting fake or just go die. Kim Bong-gu just stood there, completely thrown off, trying to figure out what Lee Byung-Cheol was even talking about. Meanwhile, Lee Byung-Cheol hit him with a sarcastic comeback, almost like he couldn't believe Bong-gu actually didn't want it. Out of nowhere, the F-rank hunter just loses it and starts laughing like crazy. He's clearly enjoying the whole scene, finding it way too funny. When people get backed into a corner, their true colors start to show, and it's usually not pretty. Lee Byung-chael spins around, clearly annoyed, staring at the guy like he's lost it. The F-rank hunter just shrugs it off, saying there's no point in throwing hands anymore since everything's pretty much sorted out. Right then, the F-rank hunter drops the act and shows who he really is. He lets everyone know he planned to take them out from the start. He starts working his magic, getting ready to cast a spell. Dark purple energy started swirling around him, and out of nowhere, skeletons just started popping up from the ground, all because of his magic. Lee Byung-chael suddenly gets hit with the realization that he's actually a necromancer. The moment it clicks, he's straight up panicking inside and just loses it, throwing out curses in anger. The necromancer, who used to be just an F-rank hunter, cracks a sly grin when he sees that everyone's finally caught on to who he really is. He doesn't hold back anymore and drops the big reveal. He's actually a hunter-killer working with the Anti-Office Alliance. He lets Lee Byung-chael know straight up that he's not some trash-tier dude. He's actually ranked A, way above the rest. He sees himself on a whole different level, basically calling himself a big deal compared to everyone else. Lee Byung-chael just kind of freezes for a second, repeating the name of the Alliance in his head. It really catches him off guard, and he can't help but run it through his mind again, trying to figure out what's actually going on. They remembered that, unlike the Hunter's office, these people thought anyone with powers should keep all the money and control for themselves. He suddenly gets it. This guy is actually a killer who goes after any hunters connected to the office. Lee Byung-chael stares at the swarm of skeletons the necromancer just called up. He's counting fast in his head, realizing there might be like 20, maybe even 30 of them. He suddenly gets it, now they're up against an A-rank killer too. Kim Bong-gu basically shuts down any hope of winning, and Lee Byung-chael just drops to his knees, totally defeated, saying it's over and they're done for. But Kim Bong-gu isn't having it. He snaps back, fired up, pushing Lee to at least stand up and fight instead of giving up. The necromancer reached out his hand toward Lee Byung-chael, who was already down. He copied Lee's slumped pose, basically clowning him, and made it clear he wanted Lee to just give in and become the sacrifice for whatever big plan was going on. Right then, Kang-joon steps up and faces the necromancer, telling him to chill out. He lets him know that taking these guys out right now would be a hassle. The necromancer looks confused, but Kang-joon just points out that he actually owes these dudes. Kang-joon steps up to the necromancer, who used to be just an F-rank hunter. He lets him know he already gave a heads up earlier that lying low was the smartest move, and now it's too late for that. When the necromancer tries to figure out if Kang-joon works for the office, Kang-joon shuts it down right away. Still, the necromancer isn't buying it and pushes him to spill where he really came from. Kang-joon just says he's from the house back in Silumdong, keeping it simple. The necromancer clocks that Kang-joon isn't about to spill who he's with, so he switches it up and asks again, wanting to know exactly how Kang-joon ended up here. Kang-joon just shrugs and says he showed up by bus, straight from Silum Station, not even taking the question seriously. The necromancer isn't really buying it, but Kang-joon knows it doesn't matter. This guy's going to complain no matter what answer he gives. Kang-joon didn't waste any time and switched up the topic, trying to figure out what his opponent was really going for by bringing out a demon. The necromancer lets it slip that he's planning to bring out Marbus, one of those top 72 demons. Kang-joon hears the name and kind of pauses, like it rings a bell for him. The necromancer starts going off about how he's about to swear loyalty to Marbus and make it official with some kind of contract. But before he can finish, Kang-joon jumps in and cuts him off, pretty much saying that now everything makes sense. The necromancer keeps talking about his plan, saying he wants to use Marbus's crazy power to reset the world. But before he can finish, Kang-joon cuts him off again. Turns out, Kang-joon's been thinking this guy's face looked familiar for a while. Kang-joon just drops it like it's nothing. He's pretty sure he took out most of the 72 demons last time they showed up. He suddenly remembers himself throwing hands with those guys, the whole scene replaying in his head like a highlight clip. He starts thinking if Marbus was actually one of the rare ones who got out and made it back then. As that thought runs through his head, he suddenly sees another picture in his mind, a demon running for its life. The necromancer just brushes him off and makes it clear if it's for the bigger plan, Kang-joon isn't making it out alive. The necromancer just lets loose with some wild dark magic, calling up a bunch of skeletons and creepy shadow dudes. Lee Byung-chael, seeing all that, just kind of freezes. He's stuck thinking this is the dumbest way to die, and can't believe it's actually happening. Kim Bong-gu owns up in front of everyone, saying straight up that his own greed got them all into this mess. Kang-joon steps up, walking right past Kim Bong-gu, who's clearly freaking out. He's totally chill about everything and just reminds everyone that, yeah, everyone dies someday, but today's not that day. Kim Bong-gu just stares at him, completely lost, not getting what Kang-joon is trying to say. Kang-joon stands across from the necromancer and all his creepy minions, ready for whatever's coming. He just looks at him, totally unfazed, and basically lets him know, if you want me gone, pay up what you owe me first, then I'll bounce. Right after he's done talking, he lets loose this massive wave of black and purple mana that just takes over the whole hall. The necromancer just stares at him, totally thrown off by what's happening. He can't figure out how Kang-joon's got that kind of black mana like. There's no way he should have power like that. The necromancer suddenly notices that Kang-joon's black mana is just like his, but on a whole different level. It's way stronger, and that realization hits him hard. His eyes snapped open, pure fear all over his face. Right there, Kang Jun's reflection showed up, clear as day, staring back at him. He freezes up, totally freaked out, as this massive, creepy shadow pops up behind Kang Jun. It looks just like the Grim Reaper, and the Necromancer basically loses it when he figures out he's actually facing the Reaper. He totally breaks down, panic taking over, just desperate for a way out. All he can think about is getting away. He needs to escape no matter what. Right then, Kang Jun shouts Kremsley's real name, Dal Su, loud enough for everyone to hear. He jumps in right away and says yes, without even hesitating. Kang Jun tells him to get ready and act respectful. Dal Su's eyes light up red, and he steps forward, making this big official announcement about some weird disaster showing up. He keeps going, raising his voice so everyone can hear. He points out Kang Jun, calling him the king of the dead, the one in charge, running things over both the living and the dead. Dal Su wraps up his speech, turning to the Necromancer, who's clearly freaking out. The Emperor stands there, looking untouchable, with shadows and dark energy swirling around him like he owns the place. The scene wraps up with all the skeletons dropping to their knees. Kim Bong-gu just stands there, totally frozen by what he sees. He was just sitting there, trying to figure out what was even going on. While all this was going down, the Necromancer, who'd been acting like he was just an F-rank hunter, ended up on his knees right in front of Kang Jun, hoping he wouldn't get taken out and basically begging for his life. Kang Jun stood there, shadows kind of swirling around him. Even with all that dark energy, he admitted he just wanted things to be regular. Kang Jun walks up to the Necromancer, who's still on his knees, and squats down in front of him. He starts explaining how all he ever wanted was to lay low and just live a chill life without everyone staring at him. He grabs the Necromancer by the face and yanks his head up, making sure he can't look away. He throws some heavy sarcasm his way, basically calling out how the guy acts like wanting a chill life is some big heroic goal. Right then, Kang Jun's eyes started glowing red, showing off this weird symbol. The Necromancer caught it in his own eyes and looked totally freaked out. Dal Su, Kremsley, notices his master just turned on his demon eye. Dal Su breaks it down. His master's got this wild illusion move. If you lock eyes with him, you're instantly stuck in some nightmare world that feels way too real. Dal Su breaks it down. When his master is way stronger than someone, the stuff that person sees gets way worse. Right then, the Necromancer totally loses it, freaking out as his mind gets hit with non-stop images of monsters and blood everywhere. The Necromancer drops to the ground, out cold and shaking. Kim Bong-gu just stands there, totally lost, trying to figure out what's even going on and who this guy Kang Jun is supposed to be. Kang Jun got up and glanced over at the guy lying there, thinking this Necromancer actually lasted longer than most people he's taken down. Kang Jun looked over at Kim Bong-gu, sizing him up, almost like he was warning him not to mess around unless he wanted to end up like that Necromancer. Kim Bong-gu tries to say no, but his voice keeps cracking and he's shaking because he's so scared. Kang Jun gives him a look, making it clear he needs to chill with what he says. Right then, Dal Su steps up and waits for his master to let him speak. He wonders out loud if they should just take out Kim Bong-gu to keep him quiet. Hearing that, Kim Bong-gu freezes up, seriously scared for his life. Kang Jun just shrugs it off and says he's already got a ban spell on him, so it's all good. Dal Su hears what's going on and tells everyone it's time to focus up. Summoning the demon and figuring out how to escape is all that matters now. Kang Jun's on board with the plan. He made it clear that if the summoned demon doesn't play along, he'll just handle it himself and figure out a new plan. Kang Jun glanced down at the Necromancer's body on the ground, taking it all in. He tells the skeletons, still on their knees, to call out the demon. The skeletons get up right away, grab the Necromancer's body, and haul it onto the altar. Then, one of them lifts its sword and just goes for it, stabbing the body for the 10th sacrifice. Blood goes everywhere, and Kim Bong-gu just stands there, covering his mouth, totally freaked out. When the last candle on the altar lights up, this wild dark energy just explodes out of nowhere. Kim Bong-gu gets shoved away, and right then, this massive demon with wings, looking kind of like a gargoyle, starts shaking on the altar. Kang Jun checks out the creature that just showed up and thinks to himself that it really made an entrance. While all this was going down, Marbus the demon who just got summoned couldn't stop replaying this one memory. Even after hundreds of years, that day stuck with him, when he had to watch his own people get wiped out right in front of him. He thinks back to when the survivors had no choice but to split up and hide in different worlds. After he lost his powers in that fight, he was basically powerless, stuck running and hiding across endless places. Even though he was down bad, the only thing that kept him going was wanting payback. Marbus feels like he's finally got some of his strength back, and now he's pulled into this weird new world. The demon suddenly let out this insane roar, his voice booming like thunder. He wanted to know who had the guts to call him up, and who was bold enough to try making a deal with Marbus, one of the 72 demons who actually guards hell. Marbus checks out the spot he just landed in, and realizes it's actually perfect for getting his strength back and plotting his comeback. He's all in, and lets everyone know he's down for the deal. Kang Jun stares at Marbus, that demon, and it finally clicks. He actually remembers who this guy is now. Marbus looks thrown off, like he's trying to remember where he's heard that voice before. Kang Jun grins, looking at him, then brings up the time someone dipped out first. Marbus spots Kang Jun and just freezes, his eyes wide like he's seeing a ghost. He starts mumbling to himself, trying to figure out if Kang Jun's actually the immortal everyone talks about. Meanwhile, Kang Jun just stands there, totally unfazed, almost like he's been through all this before. He thinks it's funny how, if you stick around long enough, you end up running into the same people in the weirdest places. It's been a while, and honestly, seeing him again almost made him happy. Marbus, totally freaked out, can't figure out why Kang Jun's even hanging around in this empty dead place. But Kang Jun just lets him know, this is where he's from. Right away, Marbus switched up and started acting like this place was the best thing ever, but in his head, he knew he was basically done for. Last time, he at least had a shot to run, but now he wasn't seeing any way out. Marbus thinks back to when all 72 demons teamed up, but they still got wrecked. Now, with how weak he is, there's just no shot he can take on the immortal by himself. Marbus thinks this is his shot. With Kang Jun distracted, he knows he's got to make a move and get out of there. He keeps telling himself this isn't the end. He's already planning to bring his crew back together and get payback, no matter how long it takes. Marbus starts freaking out and pleads with Kang Jun, acting all desperate and calling him the Great King of Death. But Kang Jun cuts him off and tells him to chill and just talk like a normal person. Marbus, still panicking, keeps begging Kang Jun not to kill him. He insists he got pulled into this whole thing by some random summoning ritual and honestly never planned to mess with Kang Jun's home at all. He keeps begging, promising he'll vanish for good and stay out of sight somewhere far, just trying to disappear and chill quietly forever. Kang Jun nods like he gets what's going on. Marbus just stares at him, clearly not sure what's up with Kang Jun's reaction. Kang Jun just reminded everyone that he already said he could leave. He looked over at Dolsu, hinting that Seoul could be calling them, so they should wrap things up and get back home. Marbus is all in, totally grateful to the great immortal for looking out for him. As he gets ready to head out, Kang Jun suddenly thinks back to something he saw in the 365-day parenting guide. It mentioned how having pets can really help kids grow emotionally. Kids who grow up with pets usually end up a bit smarter and can understand people better. Marbus started backing away, saying he was about to dip, but Kang Jun wasn't letting him go that easy and told him to hold up. Marbus stops dead, not moving an inch, and he's clearly on edge, trying to figure out what the guy is after. Kang Jun stares him down and just tells him to start barking like a dog. Marbus just freezes, totally caught off guard. He can't believe what he's hearing right now. Meanwhile, Kang Jun just doubles down, telling him straight up that he told him to bark. Marbus just sat there, fuming. He couldn't believe the immortal really did him like that. The demon keeps shaking, totally embarrassed. He can't believe the immortal just did that to him. He feels totally disrespected and can't shake off the embarrassment. Kang Jun stares at him, not showing any emotion, basically letting him know he needs to step it up. At the end of it all, Marbus finally snaps and lets out a loud bark. Deep down, he decides there's no way he's ever letting himself forget how embarrassing today was. Kang Jun noticed how Marbus was actually pretty skilled at this. Marbus, still kind of embarrassed, just took it and acted like it was a big deal for him. Kang Jun made it clear he wasn't trying to hype himself up. He honestly used to act just like a dog. Dolsu couldn't help but laugh and nod, saying it's wild how much Kang Jun actually looked like one. Marbus is straight up fuming inside, barely able to process how he ended up like this. He used to be one of the 72 demons running the whole demon world. Kang Jun let Marbus know he made it, then wanted to see if Marbus could pull off a transformation. Marbus looks around, kinda lost, not sure what he's supposed to turn into next. Kang Jun pauses for a second, trying to figure out what kind of puppy a little 3-year-old girl would be into. Marbus starts freaking out inside, thinking he's basically the scariest demon in the whole place. He blew up online for how insanely strong he was, and everyone knew how brutal he could get. People started calling him the Guardian of Hell, and, with his crew of 72 demons, he basically ran the whole demon world from the top. He suddenly looked down and realized he'd turned into this small, chunky corgi. He was panting hard, super confused about what was going on with his body, and honestly, he couldn't wrap his head around what he'd just done to himself. Kang Jun looks at him and thinks, yeah, he's pretty cute, but something just doesn't add up. Dolsu jumps in, kind of challenging that, and wonders if this would actually work as a pet. Kang Jun isn't buying it. He thinks the guy just looks too soft, and those short legs probably mean he's not moving fast anytime soon. Dolsu doesn't really care though. He knows he's tough on the inside, and honestly, wouldn't it make more sense to just go with whatever Seoul wants anyway? Marbus, stuck as a corgi, can't believe these guys are treating him like a joke. He's definitely not letting this go anytime soon. He's already planning to get back at them when the chance comes. This day's definitely burned into his memory. Kang Jun just stares him down, telling him to switch it up with zero emotion. Marbus, hands shaking, just goes with it. Marbus suddenly turns into a small, fluffy white Pomeranian, kind of like one of those dogs you see blowing up on TikTok. Kang Jun barely reacts and just tells him to move on to the next form. Marbus switches it up again, this time changing into a dog with long hair that looks totally different. Kang Jun, still not impressed, asks to see the next transformation. He suddenly turns into a dachshund. Kang Jun, now looking even more annoyed than before, just wants to move on and check out the next one. Marbus switched back to looking like a corgi, and Kang Jun wondered if he was cool with that or if something was up. Marbus hears someone talking and just can't believe it's about him. He's looking around, trying to figure out if he's really the one they're talking to. But then Kong Jun makes it clear, yeah, it's definitely him. Marbus can't wrap his head around it, there's no way anyone would actually go there with him. Kong Jun squints, sizing things up, and signals that he's ready for the next form. Marbus quickly shifts into a little Doberman, trying to play it cool. Seeing that, Kong Jun's whole vibe changes, his face lights up, and you can tell he's seriously impressed. He says this one's his favorite so far, then reaches down and ruffles the Doberman's head. Marbus, who's actually one of the top 72 demons, gets ticked off. He can't believe this guy is treating him like some regular pet, not realizing he's face to face with a big deal from the demon world. Kong Jun kept petting him, not stopping for a second. Marbus notices the touch and honestly thinks it's pretty nice. He kinda wants to wag his tail right now. Dalsu thinks this idea would hit right in the middle for everyone. Kong Jun likes things with some real power, Sol's always into cute stuff, and honestly, Dalsu figures the princess would be all over it too. Kong Jun picks up the Doberman, Marbus, and turns to Kim Bong-gu to see what he thinks. Kim Bong-gu just stares, clearly impressed, thinking Kong Jun looks seriously cool with the dog. Kang Jun decides it's time to head back, carrying Marbus with him. Marbus feels super embarrassed, but at the same time, he can't help but notice he's kind of okay with it. Kong Jun and Dalsu were about to head out when Kim Bong-gu suddenly spoke up behind them, sounding sorry and calling him sir. Kong Jun paused, wondering if Kim Bong-gu was actually talking to him. Kim Bong-gu nodded and started to say something. Kim Bong-gu thinks it's smarter to grab the body before heading out, just to keep things from getting messy later. Kong Jun wants to know what handling really means. Kim Bong-gu lays it out for him. It's a big deal tied to the Anti-Bureau of Management Union, so there's no way the Bureau won't dig into it hard. Kong Jun sits there thinking about how much he can't stand drama, and honestly, getting random attention is something he really tries to avoid. Kong Jun kept talking, saying Kim Bong-gu totally crushed it earlier and basically saved him. But deep down, Kong Jun didn't really see himself as a hunter. Kim Bong-gu just looked confused, not sure what Kong Jun even meant. Kim Bong-gu tried to play it cool, acting like he had no idea what Kang Jun was talking about. Kang Jun just put a hand on Bong-gu's shoulder and started explaining that he meant Bong-gu had actually gone out there himself, took down this messed up criminal in one shot. But before Kang Jun could finish, Bong-gu cut in, looking surprised, almost like he couldn't believe he really did something like that. Kang Jun glances over at Kim Bong-gu, who's totally lost right now, like you can almost picture math equations spinning around his head. Kang Jun just lets him know it's been a rough ride for him lately. Kim Bong-gu is drenched in sweat, trying to play it cool as he says he was just doing what needed to be done. Kang Jun gave Kim Bong-gu a quick pat on the shoulder, letting him know he was impressed by how sharp he was acting. Kang Jun lets everyone know it's time to head out, and right then, a bright blue portal pops up on the bloody altar. Kang Jun had Marbus slung over his shoulder as he stepped through the portal, with Dalsu and Kim Bong-gu right behind him. Right outside the gate, Kim Bong-gu was having a chat with a guy from the Bureau of Management. The official said nobody saw this coming, and honestly, he was just glad everyone made it back in one piece. The official lets Kim Bong-gu know that they just got the ID results back. Turns out, the body belongs to a hitman from the Anti-Bureau of Management Union. This guy was already on the wanted list. He says the GAT Special Investigations Division is putting together a squad to dig deeper, and that they'll want Kim Bong-gu to come back later for another round of questions. Bong-gu isn't really into it, but he nods along anyway. The official says they'll let everyone know what happened after they finish looking into it. Kim Bong-gu hears that and can't help but wonder if they'll actually go public with the news, since he seems a bit worried about it. Kim Bong-gu watches as the paramedics roll out the body, all covered up on the stretcher. It hits him that if Mr. Kang Jun hadn't stepped up, he and the others could have been the ones getting carried out instead. The official suddenly switches up the topic and asks Kim Bong-gu if he's gone through a second awakening lately. Kim Bong-gu just looks kind of lost, not really sure what's going on. The official points out that the report says Kim Bong-gu took out the hunter from the Anti-Bureau of Management Union all by himself. Kim Bong-gu tries to play it cool, saying he just got lucky, but you can tell he's a little on edge. The official tells him that being too humble can actually backfire sometimes, then drops the news that the guy he took out had a bounty on his head. Kim Bong-gu definitely wasn't expecting to hear that word. It catches him off guard. The official lets everyone know that just his bounty was worth hundreds of millions, and the Bureau of Management will probably end up giving him a reward. The official keeps hyping Kim Bong-gu up, saying he's probably going to get calls from all the big guilds soon. Once the news gets out, everyone's going to know his name, and just like that, Kim Bong-gu's about to blow up. The official can already picture tomorrow's news blowing up about Kim Bong-gu, the rookie who just took down an A-rank assassin in one hit. He glances at Kim, kind of wondering if the guy's thinking the same thing. Kim Bong-gu could tell things were spiraling way past what he expected, but deep down, he knew Kang Jun seriously had his back and probably saved him for real. Kang Jun and Dalsu posted up in front of a Titiokbaki food truck. Dalsu was catching his breath, waving his hand in front of his mouth because the food was actually way hotter than he expected. Kang Jun noticed Dao Su struggling and basically told him not to push himself to eat. Dao Su just sat there, saying his tongue was totally numb. Meanwhile, Kim Bong-gu was hanging back, watching the whole thing and trying to figure out who that guy really was. Dao Su just keeps eating, like his hands are on autopilot. He's thinking there's no way regular food could taste this good, especially when everything else sucks right now, almost like it's cursed or something. At the same time, Kim Bong-gu's mind is blown watching Kang Jun. The guy took down an A-rank assassin without even breaking a sweat. Kang Jun had Marbus, still looking like a Doberman, in his arms. He looked over at Dal Su, wondering if he was the one who made the food, but Dal Su just played it cool and said no. Meanwhile, Kim Bong-gu couldn't help but remember how the boss monster totally lost his nerve and begged for mercy earlier. Kim Bong-gu couldn't figure out why a guy like that would bother pretending to be a porter. While he was lost in thought, Kang Jun casually told Dal Su they should try the spicy stir-fried chicken noodles next time, since they blow the tteokbokki out of the water. Kim Bong-gu started thinking Kang Jun might actually be on the run from the Bureau of Management, but then he brushed it off. If that were true, he'd probably already be done for. Dal Su starts hyping himself up, thinking there's gotta be food out there way better than this wild demon meal, and he honestly can't wait to try it. Meanwhile, Kim Bong-gu's in his own head, figuring Kang Jun's probably at least S rank. Kim Bong-gu figures he has no clue who this guy really is, no matter how much he thinks about it. He knows he's got to do whatever it takes to become that person's student. It's the only way he'll level up way past where he is now and finally grab that elixir for himself. Later on, Kim Bong-gu walks up to Kang Jun and Dal Su and hands Kang Jun an envelope stuffed with cash. Kang Jun looks at it, kind of surprised, wondering if it's more than he was supposed to get. Kim Bong-gu just nods and admits it's extra, but points out that Kang Jun pretty much saved his life, so it's only fair. Kang Jun takes the cash, saying he'll put it to good use. He hints that if they ever run into each other again, maybe he'll pay it back somehow. As Kang Jun and Dal Su start heading out, Kim Bong-gu calls them back, wanting to talk for a sec. He says he at least wants to treat Kang Jun to a meal before they go. Kang Jun turns him down, saying his family's at home waiting, and tells him maybe they can hang out some other time. Kim Bong-gu, not wanting to miss his shot, tries calling Kang Jun sir, hoping it'll change his mind. He asks him if he can just have a glass of soju, or maybe hang out for an hour, or even half an hour if that's all he's got. Kang Jun suddenly freezes, totally caught off guard. He looks at Kim Bong-gu, totally thrown off, and double-checks if he really just mentioned soju. Right then, a shiny soju bottle pops up in the scene, and Kim Bong-gu, not totally sure, admits he probably did say it. Kang Jun checked it out and realized this was definitely the soju he'd heard about. Guess Earth really did have soju after all. He thought back to his days running Annex as the Emperor. Back then, he'd pretty much sampled every well-known drink out there, but honestly, none of them hit like soju. He remembered how he spent years trying to pull it off again. He also knew this was way out of his league. Back in the present, Kang Jun decided to go along with Kim Bong-gu's idea and let him know they'd sit down and share a glass of soju together. Everyone headed over to the grandma's spot for hangover soup. Kang Jun downed his soju and let out a breath, realizing this was the flavor he'd been craving for a while. On the other side, Dal Su was really getting into his gukbap soup, totally hyped about how good it was. He thought it was insanely hot and spicy, almost like eating lava, and it hit him that it had been forever since a vampire lord like him had tasted blood. Dal Su kept hyping up the food, saying it was next level and honestly wild. Kim Bong-gu just sat there watching them go off like they hadn't had soju or hangover soup in forever. He started thinking about maybe grabbing another round. Kang Jun and Dal Su nodded so hard, Bong-gu could tell they'd seriously been through it. Bong-gu grabbed his phone and hit up the restaurant owner, asking if she could bring him one more bottle of soju and another bowl of gukba. Dal Su looked at the elderly woman and just called her old woman. He let her know he was grateful for what she did, but honestly, he couldn't wrap his head around why she put anything before her own health. He really wanted her to chill and look after herself. When she heard that, she just stared at him, totally caught off guard. She wondered if she'd met him before, then calmly called him out, letting him know that if he was trying to hit on her, he should just chill and focus on his food. Dal Su got a little annoyed and basically told her to chill. Meanwhile, he stared at the red soup, thinking there was no way he was letting any of it go to waste. To him, this meal was proof of how much she'd given up for him. The lady, though, was just sitting there, totally confused about what he was even on about. Dal Su kept thinking about it, honestly kind of blown away. She just gave up her own blood to help make that dish and then acted like it was nothing. In his mind, anyone who could do that had to be on another level. Like, that's some saint stuff right there. Bong-gu could tell Dal Su was really touched, and it looked like he might even be crying. Bong-gu started thinking Dal Su must have been through some rough times. While Kang Jun was going in on his food and drinks, he glanced over at Bong-gu and wondered why the guy wasn't touching his meal. He said he was just eating slow and then, kind of chill, let everyone know his real name was Bong-gu. Bong-gu was about to call him sir, but Kang Jun just wanted things chill and said to use his name instead. Bong-gu was cool with that and went along with it. After all that happened, Bong-gu turned to Kang Jun and wanted to know if he could stick around and learn from him, hoping maybe he could be his student. Kang Jun heard the word and just couldn't believe it at first, but then he shut it down fast, not giving an inch. Bongo looked kind of let down, but honestly, he'd already seen it coming. In his head, he was like, yeah, that figures, so he started telling them how he was just an F-rank hunter. Kong Jun cut him off right as he picked up his soup, joking that sad stories weren't really his thing, but he'd sit through it if it meant covering dinner. Bongo didn't expect that and looked over, kind of thrown off, wondering if Kong Jun actually meant it. Bongo laid it out. There was just no way he could stop hunting. With his sister's college bills, the cost of just getting by, and his mom's hospital stuff, no other job even came close to covering it all. He said he had to get the elixir to help his mom get better. Hearing that, Kong Jun froze for a second, kind of thrown off by the word elixir. He started thinking hard about what that even was. He figured that if he was actually serious about what was on his mind, then there had to be 12 bottles of that stuff tucked away in the Imperial Treasury back in Anox. Bongo kept talking about his dream, admitting it was pretty far out there. Still, he believed that if someone had the elixir, they could basically choose whatever price they wanted. He explained that this elixir is insanely rare. People throw around numbers like tens or even hundreds of billions, but honestly, you can't just buy it no matter how much cash you have. While he was saying all this, Kang Jun was sipping his soup, and out of nowhere, he started choking. Kang Jun started coughing hard while watching Dalsu chow down like nothing was wrong. He thought to himself that he really should have brought one, since Dalsu's always loaded with random stuff anyway. Seriously, Dalsu could have at least tossed one of those bottles in his bag. Kim Bongu tried to get Kang Jun to repeat himself, saying he hadn't caught what he said, but Kang Jun just brushed him off and played it cool, acting like it was no big deal. Bongu kept talking while he poured the drink, saying he had to go get the elixir himself because there was just no other way. That meant he had to keep raiding gates, no breaks. Kong Jun then wondered if Bongu really did all that using only his own strength. Bongo let everyone know it was true. He'd been through some crazy stuff, barely making it out alive more than once, and ended up stuck in bed for months because of how messed up he got. Even with all that, he just kept grinding and somehow made it up to C rank. Kong Jun couldn't help but think Bongu's story was straight out of a novel. Bongo wasn't sure if he actually believed that himself. Before the gates showed up, everyone was chill and life was good. That's why he knew he had to keep pushing, no matter what, just to get that old happiness back. Bongo started tearing up. Something about the moment just hit him, and before he knew it, he couldn't hold the tears back. Kong Jun just stared at him, not saying a word, while Bongo tried to get his attention by calling his name. He knew he had to level up fast, since his mom didn't have a lot of time left. He started begging the guy to let him be his student. He wanted just one shot and promised he'd go all out no matter what they told him to do. Kong Jun walked up and called him Bong Po, wondering why he was tearing up in front of the whole squad like that. Bongu said sorry and let him know his real name was Bongu, but Kong Jun just told him to chill out, stop tearing up, and hold his head high. Bongu straightened up, totally hyped, deciding right then that he'd just go by Bong Po from now on. Kong Jun started calling him Bong Tai and wanted to know if he was actually down for whatever came his way. Bongu didn't even hesitate, just went all in, saying he'd do whatever was needed. In his head, he thought Bong Tai sounded pretty solid too. Kong Jun let him know straight up that it was going to be tough, then started rattling off all the stuff he'd have to do. Cleaning, laundry, cooking, watching the kids, even walking the dog. After breaking it all down, Kong Jun wanted to see if he really thought he could handle everything. Bongu noticed how oddly specific these tasks were, but he didn't hesitate. He was confident he could handle all of it, no questions asked. Kong Jun thought it was cool, since it would help his sister out. She's always putting in work non-stop. Then he casually mentioned wanting to use Bongu's identity, which totally threw Bongu off. He had no clue what Kong Jun meant by that. Kong Jun let everyone know he was talking about his awakened registration card, saying it'd help him dodge the usual registration fees. Kong Jun had it all mapped out in his head. He figured if he used Bongu's name to book gate raids, he could tag along as a porter and take care of the monsters on his own. That way, cash wouldn't be an issue for him anymore. He kept telling himself that even after beating those high-level gates, he could still stay under the radar and skip all the attention. He wrapped up his thoughts, thinking maybe Bong Pal could actually blow up and get all the attention instead of him. Then, he turned to Bongu and asked if he really thought he could pull it off. Outside, later on, Marbus was just chilling in his Doberman form when two women walked over. One of them couldn't get over how cute he looked, and the other was curious about where his owner might be. Marbus stared at them, pretty annoyed, thinking these people really had no clue who they were messing with. He couldn't stand how they acted like he was just some random dog. One girl said she just wanted to pet him, and the other started talking about whether Dobermans are actually scary or not. The first girl said he looked cute, then she leaned in and wanted to pet him. In his head, he was already annoyed, wishing they'd just back off. The woman didn't even hesitate. She just started petting him, totally surprised by how soft his fur was. The other woman watched and was kind of impressed, saying he actually looked like he was into it. Meanwhile, Marbus was over there, tail wagging like crazy, even though deep down he was mad and just stuck thinking about how embarrassing this whole thing was. She handed him a bone-shaped snack and mentioned it was actually for her puppy back home, but now she was giving it to him instead. After the women headed out, Marbus just sat there by himself, eyes locked on the snack in front of him. He couldn't help but think it was straight up trash. He figured he should at least try it since the humans brought it over for him. The second he tried it, his eyes went wide. He definitely didn't see that coming. Marbus, looking like a Doberman, started dashing around in circles, totally hyped up. There was this wild, almost evil energy coming off him, like he was really into the whole chaos and trouble thing. While Marbus was doing his thing, Kong Jun just watched with Dalsu, trying to figure out what was up with him. Kong Jun watched Marbus, who had turned into a Doberman, just vibing and chewing on a bone like it was the best thing ever. He figured everything was chill, so he basically let Marbus know to just keep doing his thing and not stress about anything. Later on, Kim Bong-gu was totally knocked out, slumped over the restaurant table. Kong Jun just watched, thinking how Bong-gu always goes for drinks even though he can't handle it at all. The dude was straight up out cold. Dalsu had Bong-gu slung over his back, checking if Bong-gu was even awake and joking about whether he should just finish him off. Up ahead, Kong Jun was hauling Marbus and told Dalsu to chill out and just bring Bong-gu back home instead. While they were walking, Dalsu started thinking that Lady Suvin Kang Jun's sister probably wouldn't be too happy about this, but Kang Jun just kept moving, basically saying they couldn't just ignore some guy passed out in the street. Bong-gu was knocked out, making weird noises while Dalsu carried him. Dalsu could tell Bong-gu was trapped in some rough dream, and honestly, the thought crossed his mind that maybe it'd just be easier to let him go for good. But Kong Jun wasn't having any of that and shut him down real quick, making it clear he didn't want to hear that again. Kong Jun rested his hand on Bong-gu's forehead while he slept, realizing the guy seriously needed someone to look after him. He thought it wouldn't hurt to let Bong-gu see some of his best memories, maybe give him something to smile about. Dalsu caught on to what kind of magic it was and started thinking about dream magic, the kind only witches usually pull off, where they can mess with anyone's dreams however they want. He thought it was wild that regular people couldn't figure it out, but his teacher actually nailed it. Kong Jun just said he tweaked it a little. After all that, Bong-gu finally settled down and crashed out on Dalsu's back, totally knocked out. Kong Jun watched him and figured that since Bong-gu's real life was rough, maybe at least he could catch a good dream for once. In the dream, Bong-gu suddenly saw himself as a little kid again, and he couldn't help but wonder what was going on. His dad showed up and rested his hand on Bong-gu's head, saying he'd be better than him soon if he just trained a bit. Bong-gu stared at him, kind of stunned, not even sure if this was really his dad. His dad just smiled at him, saying he'd gotten way more mature lately. Meanwhile, Bong-gu couldn't help but think how his dad had been out of his life for way too long. The dad looked at his son and said that if he left, his son would be the one taking care of things at home. The kid wanted to know why his dad couldn't stick around, but his dad just asked if he'd be brave enough to look out for his mom and sister. Bong-gu's dad let him know he was depending on him, then said sorry. That hit Bong-gu hard, and he just broke down, tears streaming as he grabbed his dad, not wanting him to leave. He couldn't handle the thought of being left behind. He kept crying, thinking about how he'd never whine about leaving the bath early, or say fishing was boring, or ask to be carried up a mountain again. Out of nowhere, his mom yelled from the kitchen that food was ready. The scene switched up to a family barbecue. The dad handed the mom a beer, and she mentioned the food was about to smack. The dad looked around, pretty pumped about how chill everything felt, and mentioned they should hang out like this more. The mom was on the same page. She noticed the kids were actually having a good time, so she called over her son to come join the group. Bong-gu stared at his family, eyes getting watery. He barely managed to say his parents' names under his breath. His mom noticed right away and tried to figure out what was up, checking if he was good or if he just wasn't vibing with the curry rice, even though it was usually his favorite. He started tearing up, saying the food was just that good. He glanced over at his dad, who had Juhi in his arms, and then at his mom. Deep down, he just wanted to reach out to both of them, feeling that family love hit different right then. The scene switched up, showing Bong-gu as an adult, locked in and determined while chilling in his dream. He was set on making everyone around him relax and planning to earn their trust no matter what. He cracked a satisfied smile, thinking he was finally the guy in charge at home and ready to handle whatever came his way. He scrolled through an old photo of his family, just wanting things to go back to how good they used to be. Bong-gu actually woke up to Subin's voice. She's Kong Jun's sister calling out to him, letting him know she'd made some hangover soup. He snapped awake, totally thrown off. In the back, Dalsu was talking to Kong Jun, saying stuff about whether they should just get rid of him and let him stay asleep for good, since that's what he wanted anyway. But Kong Jun didn't get why Dalsu was so set on taking the guy out, and told him to chill until everyone was up so they could eat together. Subin called out to him again, and Bong-gu sat up, looking pretty lost and trying to figure out what to say. After a minute, he finally managed to stand, moving slow like he was still sore. He grabbed his head, mumbling about how much it hurt. Across the room, Kang Jun sat on the floor with his daughter Sol in his arms. He checked in on her, making sure she'd had something to eat and if she liked it. Sol, just being a kid, nodded and let him know the food was good. Bong-gu just stared, totally lost and trying to figure out if he was even awake or still stuck in some weird dream. He glanced around and finally got it. He was at Kong Jun's place. But then his mind started racing again because he had no clue who the kid in front of him was. Kang Jun chilled with his daughter Sol, gently holding her and playing peekaboo. He couldn't help but try to figure out who she got her cuteness from. Sol laughed hard, super hyped to spend time with her dad, calling out to him again and again. Kang Jun couldn't help but feel proud of her. He thought she was really smart, and every time he looked at her, he saw a lot of her dad in her, like she just had that same awesome vibe. Kang Jun glanced over and saw Kim Bong-gu starting to wake up on the floor. He couldn't help but wonder if Bonggu had just caught what went down. Bonggu looked pretty out of it. But yeah, he definitely saw everything. Kong Jun's nerves started to spike as he pressed Bonggu, trying to figure out exactly how much the guy had seen. Bonggu, still shaking, managed to get out that he'd noticed everything starting from when the kid called her dad, "your princess," right up until he mentioned how she looked like her dad. Kong Jun's expression changed fast, and he quickly covered his daughter's eyes with his hands. In his head, he was already stressing about having to deal with Bonggu just to keep things quiet, kind of regretting how things ended up like this. Bonggu freaked out for a second, thinking Kong Jun was actually serious, but then caught on that Kong Jun was just super embarrassed. Bonggu dove under his pillow, shaking. He couldn't believe someone would even joke like that, and honestly, he was pretty sure Kong Jun was serious. Laying there, he caught a strong whiff of himself and realized he smelled like straight-up alcohol. Subin walked in and pointed out that the sun was already up, and Kang Jun was just now getting out of bed. Bonggu realized he was still here and honestly felt a wave of relief. Subin gave him a soft smile, looking almost unreal in that moment. She could tell he was down bad, so she let him know she'd made some hangover soup and asked him to come eat. Bonggu felt seriously grateful. She pretty much pulled him out of a mess that could have gone way worse. At breakfast, Subin called Bonggu by the wrong name, mixing him up with Mr. Bong Chang. Bonggu kept it chill and just let her know his real name. Subin felt a little bad and said sorry, but Bonggu brushed it off like it was no big deal. Bonggu saw this as his shot to turn things around and stop looking like the guy who always messes up. He hyped up Subin's cooking, acting like it was fire, and made it clear he understood why her husband was always in a good mood, throwing a look at Kang Jun to make sure he caught the message. Kang Jun cut him off quick, making sure everyone knew he had it wrong. He cleared things up, saying Subin wasn't his wife, she was actually his real sister. He wrapped things up without making a big deal and told everyone it was time to eat. Bonggu got all awkward, kind of wishing he hadn't said anything before, and just wanted to blend in with the group. Subin started talking to Bonggu, making it clear she knew about his close bond with Kang Jun. For a second, Bonggu looked caught off guard, but then it clicked for him. He understood what she was getting at and decided to just roll with it. Subin said sorry for dropping this on him out of nowhere, but she still asked if he could look after Kang Jun for a bit. Bonggu froze, his spoon slipping out of his hand as he tried to process what just happened. He couldn't believe anyone would trust him to look after Kang Jun, the same guy who once took down a whole squad of A-rank hunters just by looking at them. He'd straight up handled a boss-level demon like it was no big deal, almost like training a puppy. He couldn't figure out what taking care of him was supposed to mean. Meanwhile, Kang Jun just sat next to him, quietly eating like nothing weird was going on. Subin let everyone know that Kang Jun had actually gotten stuck inside a gate and just made it back to the real world a few weeks ago. Bonggu just froze for a second, thinking back to all those news stories about people coming back from the gates alive. It finally clicked that her brother was actually one of those survivors everyone talked about online. He also remembered hearing that some of the top hunters who came back from other countries picked up some wild powers while they were inside the gates. Bonggu started thinking if Kang Jun was also part of that group. Kang Jun, still eating, jumped in and let everyone know he actually wasn't trapped there like people assumed. Subin just brushed it off, saying it was something random about Kang Jun being some kind of king somewhere. Bonggu's eyes went wide when he figured out they were actually talking about a real king. Bonggu started picturing Kang Jun as some kind of top-tier emperor, not just a regular king. Kang Jun told his sister he was the real deal, the main guy, not just someone with a crown. Subin just shrugged, not really seeing any big deal between the two titles. Kang Jun, though, was all in. He acted like being an emperor was on a whole other level. He claimed that even kings wouldn't make eye contact with him, which left Bonggu kind of frozen. The whole thing kept replaying in his head. He really was an emperor. Dalsu jumped into the chat and brought up the old king from Baratheon, looking right at Kang Jun. Kang Jun just looked confused, like he had no clue who Dalsu was talking about. Watching this, Bonggu realized Dalsu wasn't just some regular old guy either. Dalsu was talking about the guy who got his head chopped off just for making eye contact with the emperor and trying to start a rebellion. Kang Jun barely cared about what happened, just brushed it off, while Bonggu was so stunned he almost couldn't breathe. Subin looked over at Bonggu and broke down what was going on with Kang Jun, saying it was kind of like stuff that hits you after something big happens. He said Kang Jun just needed a bit to get back into normal life. Bonggu got it right away, starting to realize why things had been off lately. It all started to click for him. Bonggu's eyes lit up when he realized Kang Jun had all that respect and authority because he used to be an emperor. Curious, Bonggu turned to Dalsu, wondering if he was like the emperor's right-hand man back then. Dalsu said he was actually the strategist during that time. Bonggu wasn't sure if the guy was for real or just vibing with everyone else. Subin wanted Bonggu to help Kang Jun get back to living like everyone else. Bonggu was all in, determined to give it everything he had. Subin appreciated him big time. She looked over at Dalsu and casually brought up the idea of getting a part-time job. Dalsu just stared back, totally lost, not even sure what a part-time job was or why she brought it up. Subin lets everyone know that the guy who runs the grocery store across the street is looking to hire someone. She casually brought up Dalsu, and the owner told her he should stop by for an interview. Dalsu was seriously grateful to Lady Subin. He said he's got this big responsibility to always be with his master, so he can't just dip whenever. Then Kong Jun cut in and shut the whole thing down. Kong Jun just tells Dalsu to take the job, saying it's annoying having him around all the time. In his head, Kong Jun figures that working at the grocery store will help Dalsu get used to how things work on Earth, especially after seeing how extra he acted before. Plus, even though the pay isn't great, the cash will help them out. Dalsu pushes back, letting his master know he hasn't forgotten that promise about building a big-time empire on Earth. Kang Jun admits he made that promise, but he points out that actually pulling it off means he really needs to get how people live here and what their world is like. He makes it clear he's not telling him to ditch his job as a strategist. Instead, he's putting real trust in him and handing over everything to do with setting up their new nation. Dalsu catches on that his master is actually checking if he's loyal, so he just drops to the floor, laying it all out there, not holding back at all. He just wanted his master to end it all for him, basically asking for a quick out. Kang Jun, though, wasn't having it. He looked pretty annoyed and told the guy to chill out. Dalsu keeps going with his speech, basically admitting he never really got what his master wanted and doesn't even deserve to look at him. Kang Jun just listens, barely reacting. Dalsu decides he's going to throw himself into this investigation and keep going until he literally can't anymore. Kong Jun looks over at Subin and lets her know that Dalsu's heading out for the interview. She just nods, saying yeah. The scene wraps up with Dalsu on the ground, fully bowing, while a caption pops up talking about how Chartier von de Kremsley, who's actually the old guy, Choi Dalsu, chose to go after a new job and basically start over in this next part of his life. Kim Bong-gu ended up in the kitchen washing dishes. Subin noticed and brought it up to Kang Jun, saying she knew Bong-gu was their guest, but she was kind of surprised Kang Jun just let him handle the dishes like that. Kang Jun told her he was actually the one who wanted to help out and tells her to just chill for a bit. Subin started thinking if that was really the right move, but Kang Jun just pointed out how Bong-gu was actually pretty solid at doing the dishes. While all this was happening, Subin sat down and started watching the news. She couldn't help but think about what they were saying, like, does having more people in one place really make those gates pop up more often? On TV, the newscaster's talking about how gates keep popping up all over Seoul and the Gyeonggi area. The expert backs it up, saying people living in these cities have to stay ready all the time. Whenever new gates show up, they suck in everything alive within about 1 or 2 kilometers, so everyone has to be on their toes non-stop. An expert says most people in the academic world think there's a good chance a gate could pop up somewhere south of the Han River in Seoul, so they're already working on a plan for it. Subin hears this and it suddenly hits her. Her house is right in the Gangnam area. She starts to worry, thinking about what would even happen if a gate showed up that close to home. Kang Jun tries to calm her down, acting like everything's fine. But right then, the kid's spirit rushes over to him, searching for her dad. Saul spots Marbus, who somehow turned into a tiny chihuahua, and without thinking twice, he sprints over. He scoops Marbus up, hugging him tight, and even tries to give the little dog a kiss. Kang Jun steps in with a serious vibe, putting a quick stop to whatever his daughter was about to do. He tells her the dog is gross and she could get sick if she kisses it. In his head, he pictures himself going off on Marbus, mad because the guy is straight up risky to have around. Saul glances over at her dad, not sure if she's actually in danger or if he's just overreacting a bit. Meanwhile, Marbus is straight up scared, thinking about why he's getting singled out when he hasn't even done anything. Subin smacks Kang Jun on the back, calling him out for picking on animals right in front of his kid. Kang Jun just stands there, kind of lost, not really sure what's going on. Kang Jun shoots Marbus a tired look, kind of annoyed, thinking to himself if he should just treat this guy like some animal. Then it hits him. The kid honestly sees him that way, so Kang Jun just rolls with it. Saul thinks it's easier to just start petting him, so he goes for it. Kang Jun stands there, just taking it all in. The view in front of him is insane, and for a second, he just gets lost looking at how awesome everything looks. Sorry, there's no story content to rewrite, just the phrase and beauty. If you provide more of the script or story, I can rewrite it for you. Subin just watches while Kang Jun checks out his daughter, who's calling him with that whole "Dad, I love you" vibe. Every time he sees her, his heart just lights up, like it gets warmer without him even trying. He keeps her close, thinking how this wild place just isn't right for her. He knows deep down he's not trying to be some hero, but he still wants to make things a little better around here. The next day rolls around, and Kang Jun hands Subin an envelope, probably cash inside, and tells her to use it for whatever help she needs. Subin tore open the envelope Kang Jun handed over and wanted to know how much cash was in there. When he said it was 5 million won, she froze for a second, clearly not expecting that. She turned to him, curious about where he managed to pull off getting that much money out of nowhere. Kang Jun said he randomly checked his bank account just to see what was up, and saw a balance sitting there. He figured it was just what he'd been putting away over time before he vanished. The bank book showed he had 5 million won saved up. Subin got a little emotional, tearing out that she thanked Kang Jun. She finally let him know she'd been keeping it from him because she didn't want him stressing out, but things had been rough with money lately. Paying for stuff like rent, bills, even groceries had started piling up on her. Subin brushed away her tears and managed a small smile, grateful for Kang Jun. She realized she could finally chill out a bit because of him. Kang Jun checked if she was for real, and then grinned, admitting he never thought about it before but was glad his help actually made things better for her. Subin told him she'd whip up something good for dinner and wanted to know if he had any cravings. He just shrugged and said he was cool with whatever. Subin pointed out that Kang Jun was pretty straightforward. She mentioned going grocery shopping later and said maybe they could grab some food and take Sol to a kid's cafe or the playground, but Kang Jun just said he'd rather chill at home and rest since he really needed to relax. Kang Jun figured that if they all went to the mart together, Lord Kremsley would probably be cool with it. Plus, if something went down, the Lord would have Subin and Sol's backs for sure. So Subin decided she'd just tag along with the old man. Kang Jun decided he'd head out, and Subin told him to just chill if that's what he wanted. He caught himself smiling, thinking how everything was just working out. Kang Jun started thinking about where he was headed. He was hyped because he was finally going to check out the spot he'd wanted to see ever since he first found out about it. When he got to the campus comic cafe, it hit him. Maybe there was a new Hunter x Hunter volume out since he'd been gone. He couldn't help but think about finally getting to read it after being away for what felt like forever. At the big supermarket, Dalsu spotted Lady Subin rolling a cart with Sol just chilling inside. He looked hyped as he let her know he'd found another free sample. He was honestly blown away by the idea of eating the best food ever for free, no limits. To him, that free sample spot felt like absolute paradise. Subin watched, kind of embarrassed, while Dalsu handed Sol a bite of food. Sol looked hyped and seemed to really enjoy it, acting like it tasted awesome. Dalsu started singing in a good mood about how awesome the free samples were at the store, and Sol just echoed him, keeping the vibe going. Dalsu kept jamming out and messing around with Sol in the shopping cart, pretty much hyped that everyone in the family was chilling at the sample corner in the mart. He fed her with this big grin, just enjoying the moment. He kept singing about the awesome free food over in that corner, and Subin just let out a sigh while watching them crowd around the dumpling sample spot. She walked up and told the worker she wanted a bag of dumplings. Out of nowhere, the store speakers blasted an emergency alert about a massive gate showing up near Silum Crossroads Station. Right away, people started freaking out and bolted for the exits. While Kang Jun was chilling at the comic cafe, he caught a couple of girls nearby talking about whether the latest Hunter x Hunter chapter had dropped yet. He couldn't believe it still hadn't dropped. Nearby, some guy started joking about how he thought it would be out before he finished his army service 3 years ago. Hearing that, Kang Jun just felt let down. He could feel his anger rising as he realized nothing had dropped after all this time. In the background, the guy's voice kept echoing. 3 years, really? That just made him more annoyed. He started muttering to himself, thinking about how he'd actually been waiting for 300 years. The guy spotted how tired he looked and pointed it out, like he could tell he'd been through some rough stuff. Then, switching gears, he mentioned he was about to show him this new series that blew up so hard they even dropped a special limited edition. Kang Jun checked out the cover of the manhwa that the guy handed him. The title was The Weakest. He saw something about becoming an SSS rank hunter and couldn't help but scoff. Honestly, it sounded way too much like Bongu's whole deal. He scrolled through the pages and saw the main character was just as weak as Bongu and had a rough home life too. He figured the story was probably about leveling up and getting stronger, so honestly, it didn't seem so bad. He paused when he hit the fight scene, kinda confused, because he never thought a 9th Circle Necromancer would go down that fast. He folded his arms, annoyed, remembering how the hero used to be just as weak as Bongu. But honestly, there was no way anyone could beat a Necromancer that strong by doing what he did. Kang Jun shut the book, clearly bored. He started thinking he probably should have just hit up the supermarket instead, since hanging out here felt like a total waste. Now, he was just tired, trying to remember the last time he actually got some real sleep. He started getting really tired and realized he'd been worn out for a while, so he figured it was finally time to crash. Still, he couldn't help but feel bad that the nightmare curse was still hanging around. He really wanted the succubus queen, Errol, around. Just having her there always made his nightmares way less intense. He stretched out on his bed and shut his eyes, thinking about his followers and hoping they were all good. Everyone inside the supermarket shelter heard the announcement blasting about a huge gate showing up near Silum Crossroads Station. They were all told to head straight to the basement shelter, no questions asked. People started talking about what was going down at Silum Crossroads, throwing out guesses and worries. One woman looked pretty stressed, thinking about her friend who lived over there. Subin had Sol in her arms and couldn't stop worrying about Kang Jun. She kept picturing him sitting at home by himself. Dosu noticed how stressed she was and tried to calm her down. He said Kang Jun would be alright and told her not to stress even if it sounded like he was butting in. Subin couldn't stop thinking about whether the guy was actually telling the truth. Dalso just flashed a chill smile and explained that his master had been basically untouchable for ages. Nothing normal could even leave a mark on him anymore. Subin looked caught off guard by what he heard. Meanwhile, Dalsu just nodded, almost impressed, saying it really was something insane. For 100 years, tons of scientists had tried to help his master finally rest, but not one of them pulled it off. Dalsu thought back to the day when the Emperor told everyone to start looking for a way to help him finally get some rest for good. He thought back to when the scientists came up with all kinds of ideas. The first thing they tried was having his master leap off the top of the world tree way out at the world's edge. In the end, it was just the roots that got wrecked. Nothing else really happened. He remembered watching his master literally walk into the flames, chill there for a whole month like it was nothing, then come out acting like he was just bored the entire time. He suddenly remembered he downed some poison that was supposed to take out a giant instantly, but instead of dropping, he actually started feeling way better than before. Dalsu wrapped up his speech with a laugh, thinking about how his master always comes back no matter what people try. He started wondering if that's what immortality actually looks like. Subin, not really buying it, kind of rolled her eyes and told herself he was just hyping it up. She tried to chill herself out by remembering his place wasn't anywhere near Selim Crossroads, so he should be good. Dalsu backed her up, saying there's nothing to stress about as long as he stays home. Dalsu suddenly thought back to an earlier chat with Kong Jun. Kong Jun had said he'd slip out later and told Dalsu to cover for him if his sister started asking questions, just say he was chilling at home. Kong Jun even threw in a little threat, half joking, saying Dalsu would get in trouble if the secret got out. That had Dalsu sweating and convincing himself Kong Jun was definitely home and everything was fine. While that was happening, a woman caught the news about the gate getting labeled as a disaster rank. Some of the people around her started whispering, trying to figure out what that actually meant. Someone else jumped in and said that disaster rank was basically the worst level out there, way above danger or catastrophe. That's when everyone started to get how real things were. One guy pointed out that the office had already sent a bunch of hunters to handle it, and a few people were just hoping things wouldn't get out of control. She said a disaster-ranked gate was no joke. It could take out a whole country. 3 years back, that actually happened, and everyone still remembers the chaos when a massive dragon showed up and wrecked an entire city. Inside the shelter, Subin was holding the scared soul, doing her best to keep her calm and telling her it was going to be alright. Even though Subin looked steady on the outside, she was fighting her own nerves the whole time. Kang Jun woke up flat on his back, surrounded by nothing but snow. Everything felt off, like he was stuck in one of those weird dreams you just want to wake up from. None of it made sense, and he couldn't shake this uneasy feeling that something was up. Out of nowhere, a blue pop-up showed up right in front of him, letting him know he just walked into the dimensional gate called the Yoten Sanctuary. He suddenly noticed he was actually inside a gate, thinking about whether it popped up somewhere close to the manga cafe. He thought about his sister and daughter and felt a bit better knowing Kremsley was with them. He figured they'd be alright. He leaned back and stretched, kind of fidgety, thinking how this could actually work out for him since he could skip paying for the gate this time. He just smiled to himself, thinking about how good stuff always seems to show up out of nowhere when you're not even looking for it. He told himself he was about to have non-stop fun from here on out. While the system kept announcing that someone found a new gate, 3 hours slipped by just like that. Somewhere else inside that gate, Kim Bong-gu and his crew were right in the middle of all the chaos, throwing down with everything they had. Bong-gu complained under his breath about how wild everything was getting. Meanwhile, Cho Ji-hoon, the S-rank hunter everyone calls Swift Sword, was in the middle of a crazy fight with this massive ice monster swinging an axe. Bong-gu just stared, kind of blown away, noticing that this monster wasn't backing down at all and was actually keeping up with one of the top hunters out there. The ice monster let out a loud roar that echoed everywhere. Bong-gu watched what was happening and couldn't help but throw some shade, kind of impressed but also low-key making fun of how S-rank hunters were acting. You could see how rough the fight had been just by looking at the fighters. One of the girls who'd been hunting figured no one would have made it out alive if that S-rank hunter hadn't stepped in. Some people started thinking about how many of them were even left standing. Meanwhile, Bong-gu felt totally useless, thinking there was nothing he could have done in a fight like this. Cho Ji-hoon finally took down the ice monster. He was clearly wiped out, barely holding himself up with his sword, and he could tell there were still tons of monsters just hanging back, ready to come at them. Bong-gu started to get real uneasy, questioning if they could even handle the boss now that they were totally wiped out. Kim Bong-gu's mind was racing. He couldn't stop thinking about how, if they messed this up, things would go south fast, just like 3 years back when everything totally fell apart. That memory still stuck with him, and he knew what kind of mess could hit if they didn't pull this off. Out of nowhere, every single ice giant just dropped to the ground at the same time. Bong-gu was caught off guard and couldn't help but wonder how that even happened. Out of nowhere, a system pop-up showed up on the screen, letting everyone know that the boss monster was about to show up. It spelled out that the guardian of the Yoten Sanctuary, the frost giant Hrithers, had just arrived. Bong-gu immediately let his teammates know the boss was incoming. The massive fighter showed up out of nowhere, standing tall with his thick white beard and those sharp, cold-looking horns. He walked through the hunters who were already down, letting everyone know he was the guardian of Niflheim and the messenger for the god that all the Yoten listened to. He stormed over, looking seriously pissed, and made it clear he was about to deal with the people who broke into their place. But before doing anything, he said he just had one question for them. He let out this insane energy that was so strong, every hunter left in the room just dropped to their knees. Then, he wanted to know where someone named XXX was. He suddenly snapped and went after one of the hunters, looked like Cho Ji-hoon, who was just trying to stand up. While he was at it, he kept asking about this person called 30, the one who came into the sanctuary with them. The hunters stared at each other, totally lost about what he meant. Hrithers blasted out a wild ice attack, then started calling out the person who was hiding, basically telling him to quit acting scared and step up. He made it clear that, just like Triple X did back then, he was ready to wipe out every last one of their people. Bongu and the others just stood there, frozen, as they saw Cho Ji-hoon go down in one hit. That's when it really hit them. There was no way out of this. Bongu kept his eyes fixed on the giant, telling himself this couldn't be the end for him. He started thinking about his mom and his sister Juhee, realizing he was finally starting to see a bit of hope for once. He sprinted straight at Haidhers, not holding back at all. Deep down, he knew there was no way he was going out like this. Haidhers shut down his attack without breaking a sweat and tossed him aside. Bongu hit the ground hard, hurting bad and pretty much begging for the pain to stop. The giant lifted his hand right over him, basically letting everyone know that cocky humans never get past Niflheim's guardian. Bongu was freaking out inside, knowing he couldn't let himself go out like this. Out of nowhere, Ruthers powered up into this huge, beastly version of himself. He was clearly hyped his rival had finally shown up and he was ready for things to get real. Right then, a bunch of massive undead monsters showed up behind him, their eyes lit up with this creepy purple glow. Bongu froze and took a step back, his brain struggling to process what was in front of him. He couldn't help but question if those things were actually monsters. He was still kinda out of it when someone started calling his name. The voice sounded like someone he knew, just kept calling him over and over. He stared for a second, trying to figure out if that was actually Kim Bongu in front of him. He glanced up and spotted King Jun just chilling on top of a massive undead monster like it was nothing. He froze, totally caught off guard, trying to figure out what King Jun was even doing there. Kang Jun just smiled, super chill, like everything was normal and this was how things were supposed to go. Seeing him like that, Bongu relaxed a bit and was honestly glad they crossed paths again. He froze for a second, surprised, and started thinking hard. Was King Jun really the guy who took down all those monsters by himself? Right then, Ruthers freaked out and yelled for the monsters that were trailing him. But those undead just stared him down, looking like they were ready to jump him. Kang Jun noticed the way everyone was staring, and it was obvious he was trying to figure out why they were all looking at their clan leader like they wanted to throw hands. Ruthers totally lost it. He called himself the god over all the Yoten and said he spoke for the giant with the sewn-up lips. He couldn't believe anyone would even think about going up against him. Bongu finally got what was really going on. Ruthers had been looking for Kang Jun this whole time. When Ruthers called Kang Jun out for copying Triple X's style, Bongu just froze, completely thrown off by what he was seeing. Ruthers kept yelling at King Jun, blaming him for using black magic that messed up his people, leaving them stuck without any way to move on. Bongu could really feel the heavy energy coming off Ruthers, and he just stood there, looking shocked once he saw how strong and dangerous Ruthers actually was. Haidhers totally loses it, promising himself that he's never letting Triple X, King Jun, off the hook. Kim Bongu totally freaks out trying to get Kang Jun to run for it. He points out that this monster isn't messing around, it wiped out a top 10 hunter like it was nothing. Kang Jun just stands there, totally chill, while snow keeps spinning around him. He doesn't get why he should bail when he could just vibe in it forever. Bongu, meanwhile, can't believe what he's seeing. King Jun doesn't even hesitate as he heads straight for Ruthers, just strolling past all the undead giants he brought to life like they're nothing. Ruthers couldn't believe Kang Jun recognized him. Kang Jun didn't really vibe with the whole title thing, but he was honestly thrown off that Ruthers even knew who he was. Kang Jun checks out the giant and figures out who it is by spotting the title, Triple X. Ruthers already knows about Kang Jun, and honestly, he can't figure out how anyone wouldn't recognize the guy. He finds out that the god all the monsters look up to, even that huge one with the sewn-up mouth, is actually keeping an eye on him. Bongu stands there, shaking while he watches, and it hits him. No matter what, even if it's just Kang Jun, this dude looks straight up godlike right now. Ruthers isn't done yet. He points out that every divine realm out there has their eyes on him now, all because he's the guy who pulled off earning the Triple X title. Kang Jun tries to remember when all this even began. Kang Jun's seen a ton of so-called top dogs and self-proclaimed bosses come at him, but honestly, none of them ever even put up a real fight. They all go down quick, barely making it past the first round. He'd spent so long living like he couldn't die that it just got old, and after a while, he kept hoping there was actually some god out there listening. Kang Jun steps up to Ruthers, throwing some shade and basically challenging him, like he wants to see if Ruthers actually believes a god could beat him. Ruthers loses it, yelling at Kang Jun and telling him not to disrespect the messenger of the giant with the sewn-up mouth. King Jun just shrugs it off, making it clear to his god that if they ever cross paths, it's game over for him. Kang Jun lifts his hand, and this heavy, dark purple energy starts building up around him. He lets all his power loose, and it shoots straight at the army of undead giants, completely swallowing them up. Ruthers just stands there, totally frozen, trying to figure out what he's even looking at. Ruthers just stands there, frozen, watching everything go down. The dead giants started putting themselves back together, their bodies fixing up and joining into one massive, freaky monster made out of all their pieces. Kang Jun steps up to the weird new creature, staring it down. He looks over at Ruthers, waiting to see if he still believes his god could beat him. Ruthers just stood there, totally thrown off, trying to figure out how anyone could have power like that. Kang Jun didn't let up, basically checking if Ruthers still believed that weak god could take him down. Ruthers couldn't hide it. He let out a loud scream, pain written all over his face. The patchwork golem swings hard and lands a heavy hit right on Ruthers. Bongu and the other hunter kept their eyes on things from afar, not getting too close. The other guy wondered if Kang Jun was done for, but Banggu shut that down quick, saying talking like that was bad news. While watching, Banggu remembered Kang Jun had used this exact spell before, the one that straight up brings people back. No doubt about it, it was the resurrection move. The patchwork golem just keeps laying into the earthers, not letting up at all. Kang Jun noticed it kinda felt like messing around with slime, and Banggu couldn't believe it. By now, Kang Jun figured whatever they had was just a straight up mush. Kang Jun points out that this is actually a play activity meant for babies. It helps them with their senses and creativity. He just took that idea and used it for this situation. He breaks it down, saying you just gotta get everything mixed real smooth, hit it with some magic to stir it up, let it firm up a little, and then shape it however you want. He pressed down and worked it with his hands, just like messing around with pizza dough. Kang Jun stood in front of this massive, stitched-up golem, just taking in the mess it made. He looked over at Banggu, wanting to know what he thought, and explained that he actually built this golem after seeing that creature. Banggu was just frozen, not really sure what to say. Kang Jun stood next to Kim Banggu, who looked like he just got hit with some wild news. He turned to Banggu, wanting to know what he thought. Banggu, clearly on edge, said it kind of had an old-school vibe. But before he could finish, Kang Jun jumped in, hyping Banggu up for his take. Like, dude really noticed something solid. Kang Jun started throwing around all these art terms, saying it wasn't quite Renaissance or Baroque, but had this modern twist mixed with some chill Scandinavian style. Then, just messing with him, Kang Jun asked if Banggu actually studied art or something. Kang Jun looked over at what was left of the heathers, pretty much roasting him for talking big but not being able to back it up. He just pointed out how it's always the weak ones who run their mouths. Banggu was honestly stunned, trying to figure out how Kang Jun took down that monster like it was nothing. Kang Jun just shrugs it off, acting like he knew he wouldn't have lasted long against those hits. Meanwhile, the patchwork golem falls apart and dissolves back into this weird purple energy. Banggu sees it happen and can't help but think Kang Jun's on another level. Banggu can't help but think the Emperor has to be on a whole other level, like, nobody else could just wipe everything out with a single move unless they were seriously built different. Out of nowhere, Kang Jun saw a system window pop up right in front of him, saying he leveled up. A bunch of other notifications showed up too. He'd just taken down the guardian of the Yoten sanctuary, Frost Giant Hrithers. The system let him know the Yoten tribe's gate sanctuary was about to disappear in an hour. System pop-ups kept popping off on his screen. He just hit A rank, which was wild. Now, giants everywhere were starting to notice, especially Hrithers' main god, that giant with the weird name, Sewn Lips. That guy was seriously not happy with him anymore. Actually, every god in the Asgard constellation seemed to have beef with him now, but even with all that heat, his status as XXX was only getting stronger. Kang Jun checks out the windows popping up and figures if they're an issue, they'll come looking for him anyway. Out of nowhere, another window shows up, saying he can finally summon Errol, his bound follower. The window pops up again, letting him know he can bring out his follower, Errol. Kang Jun just stares, eyes going wide. He can actually call Errol now. Kang Jun reaches out his hand. He reaches out to the queen of the succubi, Errol, hoping she'll respond. Right in front of him, this glowing purple circle pops up, looking all magical. A girl with wings steps out of the circle. Banggu, totally caught off guard, turns to Kang Jun, trying to figure out what's going on. The woman who just showed up lowers her head and checks if this guy is really supposed to be her master. She starts to question if he's actually the one in charge of her. Banggu spots her and just freezes, totally caught off guard. Kang Jun thinks she looks amazing and casually checks in to see how she's been doing. Errol runs straight at Kang Jun and just pulls him into a tight hug. She starts tearing up, holding on like she never wants to let go, showing everyone that he's the one she really looks up to. She wonders how all this even went down, since for years, she honestly believed he was gone for good. Kang Jun also figured the same thing, but a lot went down after that. Errol checks out Kang Jun's face, kind of worried about him. She notices he doesn't look like his usual self. His eyes aren't as bright, and his lips don't have that shine anymore. There's a little note saying the words she uses sound super old school. Kang Jun just brushes it off and says he's alright. He tells her to move back a bit, and Errol instantly backs up, throwing out a quick sorry. Errol drops to one knee, all serious, introducing himself as the minister of the imperial household. Kang Jun just waves it off, telling him to chill with the formal stuff and wants to know how things have been going. Errol explains that after he and the archdukes passed away, nobody switched up their jobs. Everyone just kept grinding like usual. He mentions that Nazgul, who used to be the Minister of Military Affairs, ended up running things for him. Kang Jun checks out the crew and sees everyone's alright. He tells her to get up, and while he's thinking about it, he remembers that Kremsley showed up on Earth with him. So, in his mind, Nazgul really is the best pick for the Emperor's throne. Errol quickly realizes she messed up and says sorry for being rude. She wants to know more about the Archduke who picked the whole Sunjong thing and decided to rest forever next to him. Off to the side, there's a quick explanation. Sunjong was this old tradition where servants were buried alive with their dead ruler. Kang Jun wonders if she's talking about Kremsley, then casually mentions Kremsley just went out shopping with his sister. Errol's left kinda puzzled, not sure what he means. Kang Jun brushes it off, acting like everything's cool and says she's alright. He tells them to just talk about the rest while they head back. Errol is down with that plan. Kong Jun looks over at Bonggu, grinning, and calls him his one and only disciple, hyping him up as the great Bonggu. Bonggu gets a bit tense and starts overthinking what's about to come out of his mouth. Kong Jun lets him know he slipped out without permission, so he has to bounce before his sister gets home. He asks if the other guy can handle cleaning up. With a chill vibe, Kong Jun says it's his cue to dip and starts counting. But before he even finishes, Bonggu freaks out and tells him to hold up. Kong Jun and Errol just vanish, leaving nothing behind but a quick burst of light. Now Bonggu's standing there solo, surrounded by ice and a wrecked mess. He checks out the chaos, thinking if he's actually got it in him to fix all of this again like before. Around Selim Station, cops had already blocked off the spot where the gate popped up. Bureau Chief Seo Dokuhol, who obviously runs things around here, steps up and wants to see who made the cut for the first raid squad. His assistant nods, ready to pull up the list. Seo Dokuhol, the bureau chief, pulls up right by the police tape at Selim Station, already looking serious. He checks in, wanting to know how many people they've got at the scene. His assistant lets him know they've got 20 hunters out there, all set and ready to go. The chief wanted to know if anyone else stood out besides Hunter Cho Ji-hoon. The assistant said the rest of the team was basically just a regular A-rank squad, dropping names like Yu Sung-ha and Ju-hun. The chief just sort of paused, thinking it over. The assistant mentions that they finally sent out a solid C-rank rookie with the first raid squad. The chief, caught off guard, double-checks if he really heard C-rank right. The assistant clarifies, yeah, it's the same rookie who just took down that A-rank assassin from the anti-bureau crew at the Goro Digital Complex Station Gate. The chief thinks back to that kid. He tries to remember what his name was, but it's just not coming to him. The chief glanced down, looking like he was really disappointed in how things turned out. He thought the guy had a lot of potential, and now it just sucked to see it all go south. The assistant broke it down, saying their team got sent in before anyone knew how bad the gate actually was, so they definitely weren't ready for what hit them. The chief, not wasting any time, told everyone they had to make sure no more bad stuff happened, especially since some people had already put themselves on the line just to buy them time. The assistant nodded, totally on board with the plan. The chief just stands there, staring at the glowing red gate. He's tired, like this whole thing has drained him for way too long. Watching so many young people go through this never gets easier, and he's honestly over it. Out of nowhere, the gate starts getting smaller, kind of glitching in and out. The chief just stares, trying to process what's happening, and then it hits him. The gate's actually fading away. The chief starts thinking if they really pulled it off. The gate just vanished, and now the street's packed with hunters either knocked out or hurt. People watching from the sidelines start cheering, totally hyped after seeing what just went down with the hunters. He let everyone know they pulled it off, and the disaster class gate was finally done. One of the assistants spots someone still awake. It's Kim Bong-gu, totally worn out. Right away, the chief and the rest of the crew rush over to him. Bong-gu glances their way, struggling to get any words out. After that, the assistant let the chief know for sure. This was the guy. Bong-gu, the new C-rank rookie everyone's been talking about, the dude who always has his family's back, Hunter Kim Bong-gu. A news update pops up on the TV, letting everyone know that the disaster level gate near Selim Station, which showed up around 4 p.m. today, is finally taken care of. The news kicks off with Chief Seo Dokuhol giving props to all the hunters out there. He points out that none of this would have happened without those guys putting everything on the line, all to keep the country safe and chill. At Kong Jun's place, he wandered into the kitchen, eyeing Subin as she moved around. He wanted to know how much longer dinner would take. Subin let him know it was nearly ready, then checked if he was hungry. Kong Jun says he's not hungry, just brushing it off. Subin lets him know dinner's almost done, and he should just chill for a bit. Kong Jun sits there, kinda annoyed, not really in the mood to wait around. King Jun sat on the floor, messing around with his daughter Sol and her toy cash register, just kind of zoned out and thinking about how long he was going to be stuck doing this. Sol was totally hyped, calling out to her dad and making him play the game over and over. Even though King Jun was already tired, he asked if she wasn't bored yet, but Sol was all in, saying she was still having a blast. Sol glanced over at her dad, trying to figure out if he was actually enjoying himself. Kong Jun tried to play it cool and said he was having fun, but you could tell by his voice he was forcing it. Kong Jun stares at the Dr. Smarty Pants cash register toy sitting right in front of him. Out of every toy out there, he wonders why she picked this weird one for him. In his head, he just loses it, thinking about whether the people who made this toy even realize how much pain it's brought to everyone. Sol greets the customer with a bright vibe, sounding pretty upbeat. Kong Jun answers back, but he's just pretending to be all serious. He goes up and grabs a carton of milk. Sol lets him know the milk costs 8,000 won. Kong Jun can't believe it and checks if that's really just for one carton. Sol just says the price again, 8,000. Kong Jun looked at his daughter, keeping it real with her. He respected how she always knew how to make money, but this time, he thought she was pushing it too far with the price hikes. He let her know he wished she'd cut the price on the milk, even just a bit. Sol kind of loses it, almost yelling like a kid, making it super clear the price is 8 grand. Kong Jun just lets it go, grabs the fake cash, hands her the 8,000 won, and heads out. Sol pockets the cash with a grin and signals he's ready to go another round. Errol just sat there, not saying anything, just watching King Jun. King Jun kept saying the same word over and over, kind of zoned out. He started thinking about how long they've been stuck in this weird cash register game. 3 hours had already gone by, and all they'd done was buy and return the same stuff over and over like some endless loop. Errol turns to Doll Sue, who's been watching too, and points out how wild this scene is. He can't believe a game could drag on this long or push people this hard, and he figures Sue probably never thought something this intense was even possible. Errol is totally on board with what Doll Sue said, backing him up without hesitation. She's clearly right there with him, matching his energy. Doll Sue points out that the freakiest part is how the princess gets totally obsessed when she finds something she likes. She just keeps going non-stop until she literally can't move anymore. Honestly, that kind of stubbornness is exactly like her master. Marbus, chilling in his Doberman form, watched the princess and couldn't help but think she was exactly what you'd expect from the Immortals family. Tough as nails and kind of ruthless. He wondered, not exactly happy about it, if she even knew that he had no choice but to go along with her non-stop games every single day. Doll Sue throws out the idea of calling their game the Cash Register Game of the Ages, and waits to see what everyone else thinks. Errol really likes the name, thinking it's perfect for what it is. Marbus, on the other hand, just rolls his eyes, low-key thinking the old vampire's actually not as clueless about names as he seems. Then Errol throws out a heads up, saying you never know when you'll end up playing that game for real, so it's smart to always keep your guard up. King Jun just stands there, looking pretty annoyed, like he can hear every word they're saying. Doll Sue, Errol, and Marbus just stop dead, totally caught off guard. From the kitchen, Subin lets everyone know dinner's ready. Sol suddenly hops off Kong Jun's lap, totally not interested in food. She's all about playing and just wants to keep the fun going. Subin isn't having it, he tells her to eat, but Sol just shakes her head and wants to keep playing. Subin checks if she's really going to keep being stubborn about it. Meanwhile, Kong Jun just watches, smiling, hyped up by his sister's energy. Subin casually points out that if that's how it is, Sol can just wait until she's done eating and then ask her dad to play again. Kong Jun freezes for a second, trying to figure out where his sister stands on all this. After they finished eating, Sul looked up at her dad and asked if they could play again, just wanting to keep the fun going. Kong Jun grabs his chest, clearly hurting, and just gives up in front of the princess. Sol grabs her phone and calls her dad. King Jun doesn't even put up a fight, he just gives in and says he'll play again, but only after he eats. Kong Jun, Subin, Doll Sue, and Errol all grabbed their seats around the dinner table, which was absolutely stacked with food. Kong Jun looked around and joked that they probably made enough to snap the table in half. Subin wants to know who Errol really is. Errol looked over at Subin, waiting for the go-ahead. Once he got the nod, he stepped up and introduced himself again, this time making it official. He let everyone know his name was Errol and that he was the minister in charge of the imperial household, a job he used to do back when he worked directly for his master at the imperial palace. Subin looks a little confused, but gets what's going on. She leans in and quietly lets Kang Jun know she thinks Errol's still really sick. Kang Jun lets her know Errol's all good. Subin looks at her and can tell her body's okay, but her head's clearly somewhere else. She starts wondering how Errol even got in touch with Kang Jun and managed to show up at their place. Errol starts to talk, but Kang Jun jumps in before she can say much, telling everyone they just ran into each other earlier. In his head, he's honestly relieved he made it back before his sister did and told Errol to switch forms because he can't stop picturing what her real demon self looks like. Subin couldn't believe it when he heard Kang Jun had stepped out today. Kang Jun just shrugged it off, saying he only hit up the grocery store nearby and it wasn't even planned. Subin really lays into him, making sure he gets just how wild things got because of that disaster-ringed gate. She can't help but think about what she'd do if he just dipped out again, even if it's just around the block. Kang Jun owns up to it and tells everyone he messed up. While Doll Sue sat off to the side, he scribbled stuff in his notebook, jotting down how Lady Subin went off on His Majesty for sneaking out, and how the king just kind of sulked like a kid who got caught. King Jun suddenly called out to him, snapping him back to reality. Kang Jun stared hard at Doll Sue, showing off by bending a spoon with his powers. He wanted to know Doll Sue's age one more time. Doll Sue just said he was over 1,000 years old, which sounded wild. Kang Jun just threw in a sarcastic jab, saying Doll Sue had definitely been around for a while. Doll Sue gets a little awkward and tries to play it cool, clearing his throat. Subin, not having any of it, just shuts things down right away. Subin wanted to know where Errol was crashing these days. Errol didn't really answer straight away, like she wasn't sure what to say. Subin started to worry, thinking maybe Errol didn't even have a place to stay right now. Errol has to be real with herself. It's kind of embarrassing, but she still hasn't found a place to live yet. Subin just stands there, stunned. He can't wrap his head around the fact that there's this young, good-looking girl out here on her own, especially with how wild and risky everything's gotten. Subin tells Errol she should just chill with them for now. Errol isn't sure about it and thinks it'd be weird crashing with the imperial family. Subin points out that being out there with no place to go is risky. Errol pauses, not really sure what to do next. Subin turns to Miss Errol, looking like she wants to say something but can't quite get the words out. She fumbles, not sure what to say next. Miss Errol notices and gives her a confused look, trying to figure out what's up. Subin suddenly yells out that this is an order from the Empire. Errol drops to the ground fast, showing everyone she's totally on board with the order and ready to do whatever they say. Subin just stands there, totally lost, and tells her to get up. Errol says yeah, she's good. Meanwhile, Subin's trying her hardest not to crack up about the whole Imperial Order thing. Kongjun tells her to chill with the laughing, but he's barely holding back his own. He throws out a comment about how she's got some serious skills when it comes to cracking up. Subin just leans in and quietly tells him to keep it down. Solvin quickly switched things up and asked if she'd heard about the gate vanishing. She also mentioned she was stunned when she found out a disaster-ranked gate had shown up. A news update popped up saying 16 hunters lost their lives because of a disaster-level gate that showed up today. Out of the 6 who made it out, only 1 is actually awake right now. The rest are out cold. Subin thought it was lucky they managed to shut it down fast, but she still felt bad for everyone who didn't make it. The news talks about how this is only the 2nd time a disaster-level gate has shown up in the country. They point out that, compared to last time, this time they actually handled it with barely any losses. Sobin can't help but think about how Seoul was this close to getting wiped out, and a lot of people could have lost their lives. Kangjun tells her not to stress about it. He's got her back, and he's not letting anything go down in Seoul while he's around. Subin is glued to the TV, catching news clips of Kim Bong-gu getting swarmed by a bunch of reporters. She points out how Bong-gu is actually showing up on the news now, saying he's really leveling up. Kongjun wonders if that's the same Mr. Bong-gu who dropped by their place not long ago. Subin nods, thinking it's pretty obvious, especially with how clueless the guy acts. Subin wanted to know if Mr. Bong-gu was actually a hunter, and Kongjun said, yeah, he is. That got Subin wondering why he kept it quiet from her. Kangjun just shrugs off Subin, basically letting her know he didn't care. Subin backs down and admits he's got a point. Kangjun brushes it off like it's no big deal. Then, out of nowhere, Seoul suddenly says she's done eating. She gets all hyped and asks if they can play together again. Kongjun just stares at her, totally caught off guard and not saying a word. Kongjun stands up from the table, realizing it's been ages since he had to step in, but he knows it's time to call the shots. He hits up Errol and Dalsu, his usual crew, and they're quick to answer, ready for whatever's next. He tells them to track someone down and bring them over. Errol wants to know exactly who they're supposed to be looking for. Kangjun lays it all out, saying these guys basically made and spread the Dr. Genius's calculation playset just because they wanted more for themselves. He's not messing around. He tells them to track down the person behind all the chaos, the one who made life so hard for all the parents, and bring that person straight to him. Dalsu and Errol both nod, basically agreeing. Subin can tell Dalsu isn't a fan of that calculation game at all. She tells Dalsu not to stress about whatever Kongjun says and promises she'll handle it. Even then, Dalsu can't help but worry. He knows when his master gives an order, that's final. Kongjun kept going with the cash register game alongside Seoul. Seoul acted all official, pretending to greet a new customer, totally in character. Kongjun just looked defeated, not really into it. Seoul tried to keep things rolling, asking what the customer needed. Kongjun, barely hanging on, just said he wanted out, he wanted some freedom. Later that night, Subin was doing the dishes, feeling done with waiting around and realizing she was straight up alone that evening. Out of nowhere, Errol called her name, and the way he said it totally caught her off guard. Subin didn't expect to see Errol standing there with a tray, and it kind of threw her off. She got a little nervous and wanted to know how long Errol had been around. Errol isn't sure if it's weird to even bring it up, but he wants to know if Subin would trust him with easy stuff around the house, like doing the dishes or tidying up. Subin lets her know it's all good, and figures she's probably still trying to process everything. She tells her to take a break if she needs to. Errol's not really sure what to do, but then Subin says, if hanging out feels weird, maybe just chill with her while she does the dishes. Errol's cool with that, so she sticks around. Errol started chatting as Subin cleaned up the dishes. He told her that her master used to be just like her, chill, not big on rules, and always easygoing with everyone. Subin looked surprised and kind of questioned if that was actually for real. Subin watches and can't help but think it's kind of sad. This woman is totally locked into her role, like she's living in another world. Subin starts to wonder how tough things must have been for her back in that gate. Errol's just thinking about how she never really got it before, but now she realizes it's just something that runs in the Imperial family. Errol kept going on about her master, saying the guy was basically king material. Everyone respected him for his wisdom. Subin wondered if she was talking about Kangjun. Errol nodded, making it clear that her master was such a big deal. Whatever he said was pretty much the rule for everyone. She also points out that he was way beyond anything you'd find in religion or even any god. Subin starts thinking about what absolute existence even means. Her mind drifts back to that time Kongjun was hanging out with Seoul. She'd handed him 801, and he just told her to have a good one. Now, Subin wonders if Errol's actually talking about Kongjun. She almost laughs but holds it in. Subin thinks about how she basically raised him like a big sister, so seeing him as some kind of god just doesn't make sense to her. Errol wonders if that's actually the case. Subin wants to know if people really prayed to Kongjun and treated him like a god. Errol lets her know that, yeah, they did. Subin started thinking, kind of curious if there were spots around with huge statues or shrines built just for him, maybe even some busts showing up all over the place. Errol actually thought that was a smart idea from Subin. Errol nods, backing up what Subin said. Tons of people are out there sending prayers and shilling respect to her master. She explains that there are way over 100 temples all around the continent for her master, just to celebrate everything he's done. Subin thinks that's actually wild. Subin started thinking maybe her ideas came from North Korea or something. She got curious and turned to Errol, wanting to know if there were other religions in her kingdom before. Errol explained that yeah, there used to be a few, but now they're all gone. None of them are around anymore. Subin wondered if Kongjun was the reason all those other religions disappeared. Errol shuts it down, saying her master never forced anyone to ditch their old religions. People just kind of stopped caring about other gods on their own. Subin wants to know what made that happen. Errol points out that none of the gods actually stepped in to help. They just want people to trust them no matter what and keep worshipping. Subin thinks that's how pretty much every religion works. Errol goes on, basically explaining that her master didn't just sit back, he actually showed up himself to help. He stopped a war everyone thought would just drag on forever, and he kept showing up to defend the continent whenever outsiders tried to mess things up. She explains that he was the emperor for ages, pulling off some legendary stuff. She figures that's probably why everyone followed the master and not some god. Errol says he was actually legit and everyone around kept hyping up her master. She thinks that's when her master pretty much maxed out as a ninth circle necromancer. Subin wonders if everyone's got it out for King Jun now. Errol's not sure who she's talking about, so Subin explains she means the gods who had their fans and followers taken away. Errol nodded, saying she was right. She went on, pointing out that everyone probably had some serious jealousy toward her master. Subin just thought, yeah, she already figured as much. Then Errol backed up a bit, saying that's only true if their gods are even real to begin with. Subin's phone starts buzzing. She checks her phone and sees it's the grocery store owner calling, which is weird this late at night. She picks up the phone, kind of expecting it's about tomorrow, listens in, and lets him know she gets it. She tells him to hit her up if plans switch and throws in a quick thanks for always looking out. Once Subin hangs up, she looks over at Dalsu and checks if he can make it to an interview the next day. She tells him it's for the part-time job at the grocery store she talked about earlier and lets him know the owner wants him there at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Dalsu freezes for a second, trying to figure out if this is some weird part-time gig or something. He starts getting hyped, thinking maybe this is actually the first step to building his master's new kingdom for real? The next day, at the grocery store, the owner was checking out a resume and wondered if the guy in front of him was Choi Dalsu. He thought back on how he'd been running this place for over a decade, interviewing tons of people during all those years. This was the first time he'd ever come across someone like this. Dalsu pulled up rocking a full-on tux, looking way more dressed up than anyone else in the room. The owner wanted to know his name, and Dalsu answered, totally hyped. The owner checked if he was overheating in that outfit, but Dalsu just brushed it off, saying he was totally good and didn't mind the heat at all. The owner tries to calm him down, telling him there's no reason to freak out. He's surprised that Dalsu's so tense, since it's just a part-time job interview and nothing wild. But Dalsu acts unbothered, insisting he's totally fine. The owner then says sorry for switching up the interview schedule last minute. He explains that after whatever went down yesterday, every part-timer just quit on the spot. The owner says he's already heard some things about what's been going on with Dalsu, mostly from Subin. Apparently, she let him know that Dalsu's been dealing with some amnesia ever since he came back from the gate. Dalsu doesn't hide it and just owns up to it right away. The owner tells him to chill out and take it easy, noticing how Dalsu's basically drenched in sweat and looking way more stressed than usual. Dalsu knows this is his first real mission on Earth, and he can't mess it up. He keeps reminding himself that right now, he's nothing more than a slave in this world. The owner lets him know mornings barely get busy, so starting out won't be hard at all. Most of the time, he'd just be helping customers, putting stuff on shelves, or cleaning up. Dalsu suddenly bends forward, showing some serious respect. He promises that if he gets this shot, he'll give it everything he's got, like, all the way. The owner steps back, a bit freaked out, thinking Dalsu just went a little too hard. The owner lets Dalsu know he doesn't have to overdo it. He just wants him to show up on time and not skip any shifts. Dalsu shot up from his seat, barely able to sit still. He was desperate for a shot at this job. It wasn't just some gig for him, it was the one thing he'd been hoping for, the dream he couldn't let go of. The owner just stood there, kind of frozen, thinking about how having a part-time job would be the best thing ever right now. After a second, he told him he could start tomorrow, still sounding unsure. Dalsu got super hyped and thanked him right away. Dalsu's mind is racing as he tries to figure out the right way to address this high-ranking human. He knows he's just a slave here, so he can't mess this up. He remembers this guy's on a whole different level, way above him in the social food chain. Dalsu bows way down in front of the owner, who just stands there totally frozen. She calls him Sir, super loud, like she's trying to show a ton of respect. Kim Bong-gu opened his eyes in a hospital room, totally confused about why he was there. The whole thing with the reporters and the hospital tests had his brain going in circles. Bong-gu looked around the hospital room and couldn't help but notice it was way nicer than his own place. That got him thinking, how much did a room like this even cost per night? Right then, a guy in a suit walked in, dropped off a fruit basket, and basically let him know the bill was sitting at around $3 million. He mentioned there could be a small discount if he stuck around longer, but honestly, it probably wouldn't make a big difference. Bangu spots who just walked in. It's Seo Dokol, the bureau chief. Dokol nods at him, kind of letting him know he wants to grab a seat, pointing out that they're running into each other again. Dokyeol showed up out of nowhere and said sorry for just dropping by. Bangu didn't mind and wanted to know what was up. Dokyeol let him know he had some stuff to ask about the disaster rank gate from earlier, plus a bit of info to pass along, so he figured it'd be better to talk face to face. Dokyeol starts off by appreciating Bangu for trying to keep everyone safe, but Bangu just brushes it off, saying he didn't really do anything. Dokyeol explains that everyone else who made it through the gate is still knocked out, except for Bangu. So, right now, they kind of have to go with whatever Bangu says, and Bangu just nods along knowing that's the deal. Dokyeol wanted Bangu to break down what went down inside the disaster rank gate. Bangu started giving his version, knowing he had to be real, but also keep Kang Jun's identity under wraps. He told them the monsters inside weren't your average ones. They were so tough that even Hunter Cho Ji-hoon was struggling. In the end, Bangu said the boss, the Frost Giant, was the one who actually took down Cho Ji-hoon. Dokyeol scribbles down the name Frost Giant, thinking about how rough the regular monsters were. He figures if those guys were that tough, the boss must have been next level impossible. Looking at how messed up Cho Ji-hoon ended up, Dokyeol's sure there was no way anyone could have fought back. Dokyeol checks if Cho Ji-hoon's awake yet, then starts breaking down what they figured out so far. Judging from the marks and injuries, it's pretty clear he got hit by something insanely heavy, like he was taken out before he even knew what was happening. Still, there's one thing about the whole situation that just doesn't add up. Dokyeol wanted to know who managed to take down such a strong boss and how they even did it. Bangu admitted he had no clue. He blacked out when it all went down and apologized for not knowing more. Dokyeol just let it slide, not making a big deal out of it. Dokyeol lets Bangu know everyone's glad he made it back in one piece and appreciates him being a team player. He points out that pulling off a disaster-level gate run with barely any damage is something nobody's ever done before. A bunch of other countries are super interested now. Not knowing what's really going on kind of stings, and Bangu totally gets where he's coming from. Dokyeol switches things up and says he's not only here for Bangu's side of the story, but he's also got some good news. Bangu gets a little tense, trying to guess what this so-called good news could even be. Dokyeol points out to Bangu that not long ago, near Goro Digital Complex Station, he actually took down an A-rank necromancer from the Anti-Bureau Alliance. Bangu tries to brush it off, saying it was just luck, but Dokyeol isn't buying it. He brings up how Bangu also helped clear a disaster-level gate, saying at this point, luck isn't really the reason anymore. Bangu sits there, kind of lost in his own thoughts. He knows Big Brother handled all the real work, and he just happened to be in the right place at the right time. He's not even sure if they're talking about him. Meanwhile, Dokyeol tells him the Bureau put together a small reward for what he did. First, he just wants his mom to get better. She's been dealing with some weird illness nobody can figure out. He finds out he can use this VIP room at the hospital, the one saved for people with special powers, and it won't cost him anything. Bangu can't believe it and just stares, totally amazed. Dokyeol mentions that Bangu and the other part-time hunters are going to get medals and cash rewards, plus some extra perks. There's also going to be a memorial for the hunters who lost their lives during the gate raid, and it'll happen at the same time as the awards. Dokyeol explains that the best perk for Bangu is that his close family gets free education forever. Bangu just freezes there, thinking about his big brother and feeling super thankful, like this is a huge deal for him. After waiting a while, Dokyeol lets everyone know that Hunter Kim Bangu made the cut for rank adjustment. Bangu didn't see that coming at all. Dokyeol points out that based on how Bangu's done lately, he's earned a shot at leveling up by the end of the year. Dokyeol really wants to see Bangu level up and get a promotion that matches his skills, but Bangu isn't so sure. He thinks sticking with C rank feels right for him right now. Dokyeol gives a respectful bow, showing that the Bureau really wants Bangu to keep putting in work for the country and everyone, even after leveling up in rank. In his head, Bangu just knows this isn't good news. Dokyeol heads out, letting Bangu know he'll catch him at the memorial. Bangu isn't really sure about it, but just nods along, kind of going with the flow. Bangu sits by himself in his room, just staring off as his mind runs wild. Somewhere else that night, two guys are chilling on a rooftop, trying to stay low-key. One of them just got the info he was after and lets the other guy know he's got it handled. The second dude wants to know what exactly he heard. The first guy says there's going to be a memorial and award ceremony in a few days for that disaster-level gate event. When his buddy asks what makes it a big deal, he points out that this is the perfect time to pull off their plan, since everyone will be watching. Both of them are on the same page now. They're set on grabbing Bangu and putting the Bureau's failures out in the open for everyone to see. The first guy is totally down with it. The second one says after that, they'll try to get Bangu to join their crew against the Bureau. He decides that if things don't work out, they're just going to take them out. Later on, Kim Bangu shows up at Kang Jun's place, hauling some bags. When he spots Errol there, he's caught off guard. He actually recognizes her from earlier and realizes they've crossed paths before. Errol stood there with a food whisk in his hand, telling him to quiet down. Bangu just stared, totally lost, not getting what she meant at all. Dalsu shows up, cracking up like he just heard the funniest joke. Bangu's over there, kind of mumbling to himself, confused about what's so funny. Dalsu just tells him to chill, saying Lady Errol never even bothers talking to people she thinks are below her. Kim Bong-gu spots Dalsu rocking a store vest and gets curious about where he picked it up. Dalsu just laughs it off, thinking Bong-gu's got sharp eyes, and admits he guessed it right. Bong-gu throws out a question, wondering if Dalsu grabbed it from a donation box. Dalsu just freezes up, totally caught off guard, and starts coughing. Out of nowhere, Dalsu clears his throat and gives a quick bow, acting super polite like Bong-gu's some VIP customer. Bong-gu can't help but think it's weird. Dalsu never acts like this, so he's just left wondering what's up with him. Dalsu lets Bong-gu know he just started a new morning shift gig at the local GU store, looking pretty proud of himself. Bong-gu gives him a slow congrats, not really sure how to react. Bong-gu remembers Dalsu talking about a job interview. He starts wondering if Dalsu's actually going to pull it off or just mess it up. Bong-gu notices Kong-jun just hanging out on the balcony and wonders why he's stuck up there. Kong-jun says there's some old, depressing story about how he ended up trapped, which just leaves Bong-gu scratching his head, not getting it at all. Saul was chilling on this tiny chair, just watching everything go down. He looked right at his uncle, Bong-gu, and let him know that his dad got locked up because he was a thief. Bong-gu wonders if Sol is messing around with her dad, like playing some cops and robbers game. Sol gets all hyped, says yeah, she's in on it, and then points out that uncle's a thief too, so he's headed straight to jail. Bong-gu just stands there, totally confused by what she means. Kong-jun stood out on the balcony, which honestly looked more like a jail cell door now. He spotted Bong-gu hanging around and wanted to know what he was up to, telling him to come inside. Kong-jun tried to make it less weird by saying hey, welcome, since it was Bong-gu's first time in a place like this. He let Bong-gu know that people actually live here, so it's not as bad as it seems. Bong-gu was hanging out on the balcony with Kong-jun, looking over at Big Brother, who was totally locked in on his game. Bong-gu wondered if Kong-jun had been stuck out here for ages. Kong-jun, trying to figure out how long it's been, asked about the time. Bong-gu thought it was probably around 4 p.m. Doing the math, Kong-jun realized he'd been chilling out here for about 3 hours since lunch. Bong-gu suddenly freaks out, thinking it might have already been 3 hours. Kong-jun just shrugs and says Sol at least lets him out for bathroom breaks, pointing out how chill she is about it. Kong-jun wondered what brought Bong-gu over today. Bong-gu said he just got back from the hospital and wanted to drop off a report. Kong-jun was curious why Bong-gu needed to be in the hospital if he seemed okay now. Bong-gu just said it was a long story. Bong-gu kept talking, thinking about how this whole thing just wrapped up without much noise. In his head, he wondered if maybe he'd messed things up and people got the wrong idea, but he figured it would all work out. Kong-jun just nodded, looking like he thought Bong-gu handled it pretty well. Bong-gu lets it slip that he needs something from Kong-jun. Kong-jun wants to know what he's after. Bong-gu breaks down what went down with the bureau chief and casually brings up that he's got a rank promotion test coming up at the end of the year. Kong-jun can tell Bong-gu's stressing about not wanting to come off as weak. Bong-gu drops his head, basically asking for help and hoping Kong-jun will come through for him. Kong-jun wonders what he's supposed to do. Should he just hype Bong-gu up, or is there something else he can actually do? Bong-gu tried to clear things up, saying he didn't mean it like that. He just wanted to see if Kang-jun could help him train for a bit, hoping he might actually get better. Kang-jun looked at him and basically told him to use his head for a second. Kong-jun looks over at Bong-gu, wondering if pulling an all-nighter and grinding last minute could really flip someone from failing to acing it. Bong-gu doesn't answer right away, looking unsure. Kong-jun quickly changes what he said, now thinking maybe he can boost his score by 10 points. Bong-gu looks at him, kind of surprised, like, wait, 10 points? Kang-jun nods, basically saying, yeah, that's what he meant. He says that the necromancer they ran into earlier is probably worth around 10 points. Bong-gu gets concerned and checks if he means the same necromancer from the Anti-Bureau Alliance, the one he beat before. Kong-jun confirms it's the same guy. Kang-jun just smirked, thinking back to the guy he ran into at the gate. Honestly, he figured that dude was barely worth 10 points. He wondered if that would be good enough. Bong-gu gets hyped and says that's way more than he even needed. Honestly, it's kind of overkill. Kang-jun just says yeah, and tells him to pull up at his place tomorrow morning right at 8. Bong-gu can't stop bowing, super grateful and hyped for the chance. Bong-gu's memory kicks in, and he brings up that there's this huge memorial and awards thing before the promotion test. He mentions it's all about paying respect to the hunters who lost their lives taking down the gate, and they also hand out medals to the part-timers who stepped up to help. Bong-gu lets Kang-jun know that everything that happened was because of him. He even says that if he ends up getting some cash as a reward, he's handing it all over to Kang-jun. Out of nowhere, Dalsu showed up at the balcony door, waving his hands around and catching Bong-gu off guard. He was hyped up, saying Bong-gu was finally making it and things were looking up. Dalsu even mentioned that Bong-gu would get a medal in front of everyone, thinking this had to be a win. Dalsu tells Bong-gu he should snap a bunch of photos with his sister now, so he can show them to their mom once she's better. Bong-gu scratches his head, looking a little unsure. He tells Kong-jun he's probably heading out solo since his sister's got her college entrance exam soon, and honestly, his mom's more hyped about his sister getting into a good school than any ceremony pics. Kong-jun checks if he's really going alone, and Bong-gu says, yeah, it's just him. Kang Jun just sits there, remembering how he was always on his own growing up. His older sister was always grinding, working non-stop to keep the family afloat, and she looked so worn out all the time. He never even tried to ask her to show up at his graduation because he knew she had too much going on. Kang Jun stands there, arms crossed, and lets Bong-gu know he's tagging along. Bong-gu didn't see that coming, but Kang Jun just shrugs and says being solo on a day like this feels off. Kim Bong-gu really appreciates Kang Jun having his back, even though he didn't have to tag along. Kang Jun jokes that if Bong-gu's really that thankful, he should prove it instead of just saying thanks. That jogs Bong-gu's memory about the award ceremony, and suddenly something clicks. He blurts out in surprise. While handing over the gift, Sol got super hyped and called out Princess Sophie's name. Bong-gu jumped in, letting everyone know that Princess Sophie was Sol's all-time favorite, and pointed out that Uncle was the one who brought her along just for Sol. Sol gets super excited and lets her uncle Bong-gu know she's ready to hang out with Princess Sophie. Bong-gu leaned forward, kind of nervous, and tried to see if Sol wanted to team up. Sol got hyped and instantly agreed, clearly down for it. Bong-gu and Sol started messing around with the new toy, totally into it. Out on the balcony, Kang Jun kept an eye on the scene, calling out to the princess, probably stressing about what was going to happen to him. Sol just stood there thinking hard, not really saying much. She just walks right past him and goes straight to her little pink chair. She climbs up on it and chills there, looking totally comfortable. Sol stands there with her arms crossed, looking serious. She lets everyone know that thieves end up in jail. Off to the side, Kang Jun speaks up, saying he never took anything. Kang Jun was stuck out on the balcony, looking like he hadn't seen sunlight in days, just giving off bad vibes. He yelled at Bong-gu, basically calling him out for being a coward because he'd slipped the prison guard, Sol, some cash. Bong-gu was still chilling and playing his game, acting clueless, and asking what Kang Jun was even talking about with this whole bribe thing. Bong-gu grinned and let Kang Jun know he should call it bail instead, not whatever he was saying. Kang Jun wasn't having it and yelled back, not ready to let it go. Bong-gu just shrugged it off, gave a quick wave, and said he'd catch Kang Jun when he finally got out, whenever that ended up being. Kang Jun shouted his name, not wanting him to leave like that. Kang Jun suddenly freezes, his face switching up as he quietly asks something. He really tries to figure out what's going on, thinking there's barely any mana there at all. He tries to figure out where the sound is coming from. Somewhere else, there's this guy chilling on a park bench. He looks around and realizes his phone's totally useless. No messages, no calls, nothing's getting through. His friend wanted to know what was up, so he let her know that the spy bug he planted got taken out. That meant Kim Bong-gu, the guy they were tracking, totally caught on that someone was watching him. Kim Bong-gu, who's always looking out for his mom, clearly isn't just some regular dude. Turns out, the guy is Kim Do-hoon, who's actually number 8 in the Anti-Bureau Alliance. He points out that even though Bong-gu is only C rank, he took out that necromancer they put so much effort into training, and he did it without even getting touched. Do-hoon thinks if they can get Bong-gu on their side, he'd seriously level up their squad. Lee Hee-ji, his teammate who's known for being brutal and ranked 12th, just sat there chilling with her ice cream. She casually mentioned she wanted the target to actually put up a fight and not just quit right away. Honestly, she thought it'd be more fun if the guy turned out to be someone lame who thought he was some kind of hero. That way, they could mess with him for a while, and when they got tired of it, they'd just end him. Do-hoon realized they totally misjudged the guy. Spotting a spy bug running on barely any mana? That takes some next-level mana sense, probably S rank or even higher. Hee-ji just laughed it off, thinking things were about to get interesting. Do-hoon thinks he's pretty stacked when it comes to his stats and fighting skills, probably on par with what you'd expect from an A-rank hunter. Do-hoon heads back for now. He and Hee-ji dipped out together, stepping through the portal and vanishing from the spot. The next day rolls around and Kang Jun shows up with some training weights for Bong-gu. He tells Bong-gu to keep them on at all times from now on. Bong-gu is kind of confused and checks out the weights, but Kang Jun just roasts him, wondering how he doesn't recognize them, and tells him maybe he should try reading more. Kang Jun looks over at Bong-gu and wonders if he's never watched Dragon Ball before. He points out how Son Goku used to train with heavy clothes and only took them off when things got real, letting him move crazy fast. Bong-gu saw what happened, but he's not sure if training like this old-school way actually does anything. Kang Jun points out that you see stuff like this in other stories too, where someone fights with extra weights, then takes them off for a power boost when things get tough. Bong-gu can't help but think his joints might give out before anything cool happens, especially since he's more about magic than brute strength. Kang Jun shut things down, saying they were done with that topic. He told Bong-gu he didn't have to wear them if he really didn't want to, but then muttered about dropping a bunch of cash on them and Bong-gu not even caring. Bong-gu tried to cover himself, acting like it's not that big of a deal. Kang Jun started flexing, saying there are tons of people out there who would kill for his training, like the line would legit circle the world. Bong-gu stands there, wrists and ankles loaded up with weights, and he's straight up shaking. He tries to act cool, but in his head, he's questioning what's actually good about this. The weights are way heavier than he thought they'd be. He figures each side has to be at least 10 kilos. Kang Jun tells Bong-gu to go hang out with Sol right now. Bong-gu looks confused, like he doesn't get what's going on. Kang Jun gives him this serious look, making it clear that if he has to say it one more time, things are not going to end well. Sol gets nervous, and Bong-gu quickly agrees, not wanting any trouble. Bong-gu crouched down to mess around with Sol. his back already complaining like he was twice his age. He realized those weights felt way heavier when he tried to bend over. He looked at Sol, wondering if she was down to hang out, and honestly, she was all for it. Bonggu then wanted to know what game she had in mind. Sol gets hyped and points straight at the cash register toy, making it clear she's all in for this challenge. Bonggu starts sweating as it hits him. This is that never-ending math game Dolsu warned him about. Bonggu, still kind of nervous, nods and takes a seat at the game, his hands shaking as he gets ready to play. Bonggu struggles to pick up a tiny toy piece, his hand shaking like crazy. It feels weirdly heavy, way more than it should. Just sitting there trying to lift it, his arm starts to feel like it might snap. He can't help but wonder if he's actually this weak. Bonggu's still got those heavy weights on him, and he's struggling. All he can think about is how he's been stuck in this game for 8,000 years, just grinding. With his body still feeling weak, he's starting to worry if he'll ever be able to help out his family or find the elixir to save his mom. A few hours go by, and Bonggu just drops to the floor, totally wiped out. Soli suddenly says she's done with the cash register game and doesn't want to play anymore. Bonggu's thinking he's finally free and asks if he can chill for a bit, but then Sol hits him with a new game idea. Bonggu can't believe it. He thought he was done, but nope, she's just getting started. The pain game for the magical girl kicks off. Sol grabs her magic wand, starts saying her spell, and points at Bonggu, making him drop to the ground. Right after, she tells him to get back up and fight, keeping the action going. The game kept going, with Sol just telling the villain to drop over and over. Meanwhile, Bonggu was on the ground, totally wiped out, basically begging her to stop. Next up, they head into this game that's so wild, even dragons would be nervous. Bonggu's out there, shaking while he tries to lift his soul up, all while the weights are seriously pushing him to his limit. Next up is this wild rocking horse game that's so scary, even nightmare horses would dip. Bonggu gets stuck being the horse for Sol, and you can tell he's not having a good time. At last, they jump into the wild centrifuge game. Bonggu grabs Sol and starts spinning her around like crazy. Sol can't help but scream, totally hyped up from the rush. Once babysitting wraps up, it's time to get into some serious housework. Sol's knocked out on the floor, totally out of it, while Bonggu, still rocking those heavy weights, gets hit with a whole list of chores from Kongjun, who's not even in the room. First, Bonggu's told to clean up the greasy mess on the stove, then he's got to sort laundry whites go one way, darks go the other. After that, he's supposed to clean the whole place top to bottom. Every time Kongjun throws another task his way, Bonggu just groans, already worn out. The next day, Bonggu just gets through it, doing stuff like folding clothes, messing around with saw, mopping up, wiping windows, and running the vacuum. He's doing all this with those heavy weights strapped on. A week later, Bonggu just looks wiped out. Every day seems to drain him more, and he can't help but wonder if Big Brother has a plan behind all this. Maybe he's just checking if Bonggu can actually stick it out and stay patient. Out of nowhere, Bonggu gets the sense that something's off. The more he thinks about this training, the weirder it seems. He starts remembering stories he's heard before, like a rookie chef stuck chopping veggies for years, or an artist's helper who just draws lines non-stop, never moving on to anything else. Bonggu realizes stories like this happen all the time, and he's honestly pumped because, just like he thought, Big Brother was pushing him to see how far he could go. A week passed, and Kongjun hit up Bonggu to remind him that the end of the month was already here. Kongjun wanted to know when the promotion test was happening, so he asked Bonggu. Bonggu reminded him that he already said it's at the start of December, which means they've got around 2 months to get ready. Kongjun looks around, realizing how fast time's gone by. He thinks about how he's been slacking off way too much, and now it's finally time to get serious and actually start training for real. Kongjun wanted to know when the memorial and award thing was happening, so he asked Bonggu. Bonggu pulled out his phone, checked the date, and remembered he had already said October 1st. That means it's actually going down tomorrow. Kongjun made up his mind. They go to the ceremony the next day, and after that, it was finally time to start some real training. Bonggu, hyped up, wanted to know if this meant he'd actually made it through the test. Kongjun didn't see that coming. Bonggu just starts flexing, saying he's always on point and that's the only reason he's made it this far, acting like he's known what's up the whole time. Bonggu's convinced Kongjun has been pushing his buttons non-stop for the last 2 weeks, just to see how much he could take. Kongjun kind of admits it, not really going all in, but deep down he knows he only did it for fun. Kongjun gave Bonggu a quick pat on the shoulder, basically letting him know he did a good job. He told Bonggu to get ready for tomorrow, but in his head, Kongjun was just going to let him think whatever he wanted. Back at the apartment, Marbus, still in his puppy form, chills on his cushion, annoyed and stuck on thoughts about the immortal dude, the one who seriously gets under his skin. While things are happening elsewhere, Kim Do-hoon is hanging out with the anti-bureau crew in Seongsi, Yonggi-do. Lee Hee-ji walks up to him, letting him know the big move they've been waiting for is about to go down. Hee-ji looks over at Do-hoon all hyped up, wanting to know if he's feeling the energy too. Do-hoon, staying chill, points out that the target is actually pretty tough. Hee-ji just grins, totally into it, saying that's exactly why she can't wait. Do-hoon checks out everyone who showed up. He lays out what they're gonna do. They're set on doing it tomorrow, waiting for the award ceremony to kick off before making their move. Right when Kim Bong-gu hits the stage, they're set to throw everything into chaos, snatch him up, and vanish before anyone even knows what happened. Kang Jun pulls up to the ceremony in a suit and coat, kinda stiff and clearly not loving it. He's just not used to dressing up like this. Off to the side, Soo-bin lets him know he actually looks pretty solid, even if he's not feeling it. Soo-bin fixed his clothes while Kang Jun checked if she was really staying behind. Kang Jun let her know he'd be heading out solo with Errol since Lord Curbsley, aka Doll Soo, was busy working at the shop. Soo-bin told him to make sure he passed along her congrats to Mr. Bong-gu, and Kang Jun was cool with that. Errol showed up dressed in a sharp black suit, looking ready for something serious. Kang Jun signaled that it was time to head out, and she nodded, down for whatever was next. Kang Jun was about to head out when his daughter Sol suddenly called out to him, full of energy. Sol shows up in a bright yellow dress with bows, looking way too cute while wishing him a safe trip. Kang Jun just stands there, totally caught off guard by how adorable she looks. Soo-bin ruffled Sol's hair and let her know she did a good job, mentioning that he picked up some greeting tips from a kids' show earlier that day. Soo-bin brings up how Kang Jun was all about those shows back in the day. He even points out that Kang Jun would write letters and actually send them in, just to see if they'd get noticed. Kang Jun kinda blinks for a second, not really sure if that actually happened. Kang Jun gives Sol a quick pat on the head before heading out. As he leaves, he thinks about how nice it is to have someone actually care if he gets home safe. It hits different when someone's looking out for you. Kang Jun and Errol pull up to the ceremony spot, and the place is packed. Kang Jun catches a kid asking his mom if it's finally safe, kind of like he's hoping they don't have to stay hidden anymore. The mom just nods and tells him they're good now, since all the hunters took care of the monsters. The kid gets all hyped up, saying he wants to be a hunter and take on monsters. Kang Jun just stands there, quiet, taking it all in. Kang Jun looked around and thought everything seemed pretty chill. At first, he figured people just didn't care about what was going on. He picks up on the fact that everyone's just acting like they trust the hunters, but deep down, they're just hoping nothing from the news happens to them. It's like they're all following a script that's already played out, just trying not to get caught up in the mess. Kang Jun looked around and sort of grumbled under his breath about how messed up the world was. Bong-gu, dressed up in a suit too, turned to him, clearly confused, trying to catch what Kang Jun just said. Kang Jun brushed it off like it was nothing, then glanced at the crowd, checking out how many people showed up, and wondered if this was supposed to be a huge deal. Bong-gu lets everyone know that taking down this disaster-level gate was a huge deal for people everywhere. It was the first time anyone managed to shut one down without things getting totally wrecked. Word is, even some big-name hunters are showing up for this. Other countries started watching too, calling out the reporters and cameras. Kang Jun scans the crowd on the hunter's side, sizing everyone up. Most of them seem pretty weak to him, and the ones who aren't barely pass as decent in his eyes. Kang Jun spots Bong-gu looking straight up pale like he just saw a ghost. He checks in on him, making sure he's alright. Bong-gu lets him know he's the only one up there today, repping all the returning hunters since everyone else is either still knocked out or way too hurt to even show up. An organizer walked over and told everyone it was time to head to their seats since the memorial and award ceremony was about to start. Bong-gu just nodded and went along. Bong-gu got up and let Kang Jun know he was heading out, giving him the heads up to grab his spot too. Kang Jun nodded and hoped things would go smooth for him. The ceremony kicks off with someone talking about how things have changed ever since the first gate showed up, and how the Bureau isn't letting up when it comes to keeping everyone safe. Kang Jun can't stop yawning. He's bored out of his mind. He looks around, pretty sure nobody's even watching him. All he wants is for them to just hand out the awards and let everyone bounce already. Once that's done, the host calls up Hunter Kim Bong-gu, who's known for always having his dad's back, to stand in for all the returning hunters. Everyone's clapping as he gets ready to give a speech for the hunters who didn't make it back. Kang Jun catches Bong-gu stepping up on stage and can't help but smile, seeing him finally in the spotlight. Bong-gu steps up to the podium, looking stiff like he's not even sure how to move. Kang Jun spots him and can tell right away, dude's up there looking like a total robot. Out of nowhere, Kang Jun's whole vibe switches up. He instantly senses something dangerous, like someone's out to get him. Errol picks up on it too and quickly tries to get her master's attention. Errol points out that it looks like someone's up to something sketchy. Kang Jun's on the same page as her. Kang Jun leans back in his chair, his mind running through who could be trying to stir things up right now. Kang Jun can't help but remember what the kid said about hiding. Thinking about it now just messes with his head. He figures these planners are the kind who just grab whatever they want and don't care who gets in the way. Their intentions are pretty obvious to him now. Kang Jun figures this whole thing doesn't really involve him, but then Sol's face pops into his head from earlier when she told him to have a safe trip. Kang Jun isn't feeling this at all. Errol just started calling him master, which is already weird enough. On top of that, Kang Jun really can't stand having to fake being a hero. He figures if something goes down, the hunters will step in. But Kang Jun thinks back to their last family dinner and can't help hoping Sol shows up with a smile this time. Kang Jun just gets up out of nowhere while everyone else is chilling in their seats. He can't sit still. He feels like he needs to do something. The people around start looking at him, confused, trying to figure out what he's up to. Someone gets annoyed because now their view is blocked, and others are whispering, wondering why he's standing. One guy even tells him to sit back down. Kang Jun looked over at Errol, calling her by her official title and letting her know this was serious. She nodded, showing she was ready to hear him out. Kang Jun lays it out for her. From now on, their job is to go after the people behind this whole mess. He tells her not to hold back. Anyone involved gets taken out right away, but the main guy needs to stay alive so they can get some answers. Errol locks in the instructions, making sure she's got it. Kang Jun tells her to go all out and not hold back at all. Everything goes wild as people start yelling out in pain. Up on the roof, Kim Do-hoon stood surrounded by bodies, blood everywhere. He grabbed his radio and let everyone know the rooftop was locked down. Do-hoon chills on top of the guy he just took out, listening to updates through his radio. The bomb squad's already set up explosives at every spot they needed, and the crew in the engine room says they've got it all under control. He checks in with the team sneaking around, and they let him know they're set too. Do-hoon lets everyone know the plan kicks off as soon as Kim Bong-gu, the guy who's all about making his parents proud, walks up on stage. He lets everyone know there are 8 bombs hidden in the building, and they're all set to go off together. After that, the elite team bursts into the conference hall, taking out everyone in their way and grabbing the person they came for. At the same time, he's got these sniper guys under his control thanks to some wild magic bugs, and he's ready to use them to keep backup away. Do-hoon's totally confident. After running the plan 100 times in his head, he can't see any way it goes wrong. Do-hoon spots the target walking up on stage and knows it's about to go down. Out of nowhere, someone's voice blasts through his radio, freaking out and yelling to know who's on the line. Do-hoon starts getting anxious, trying to figure out if the team got caught. In the background, he picks up on someone else's voice, clearly freaking out and asking for mercy. Do-hoon picks up on the voices from the engine room team and tells them to check in. But instead of a normal reply, his radio blows up with people yelling like they're legit scared, someone begging for help, and another dude telling everyone to get out now. Do-hoon tries to reach out to the engine room crew again, calling out for an update, but all he gets back is static. Word got out that the explosive squad pretty much got taken out, but somehow, every bomb got handled. Do-hoon just froze for a second, not expecting that at all. He grabs his head, pissed off, trying to process how every top squad picked for this mission just got wiped out or went totally silent in under a minute. He's stuck thinking about what could possibly be going on. Do-hoon checks out what's going on. The guy who got taken out first was actually a decoy, pretending to be event staff near the hall. Each floor in this building is massive, like 20,000 pyong big. It would take a few minutes just to get from the hall to the engine room, and if they played it safe and moved slow, it'd be even longer. Do-hoon remembers all the chaos he heard on the radio, people yelling, some straight up panicking. He starts thinking maybe the Bureau found them, but nah, that doesn't really fit how they work. If the infiltration team got caught first, it probably means a bunch of different squads were moving at the same time, but again, Do-hoon knows that's just not how the Bureau usually handles stuff. The Bureau usually goes for catching people, not going all out like this. Even if they knew about the plan, he knows they wouldn't have gone off the rails. Now he can't help but wonder who's really behind all this. Lee Hee-ji pops up next to him, pointing out they've got someone crashing the party too. Do-hoon, not messing around, wants the full rundown from her. Hee-ji, all smiles, wonders if she could just take this woman out. Do-hoon's caught off guard and wants to know who she means, wondering if there's actually a girl on the assault team. Hee-ji nods, saying, yeah there is, and she's seriously pretty, plus Hee-ji's not planning to let her go anytime soon. Do-hoon saw right away that her opponent was on another level and tried to warn her to hang back, but Hee-ji totally brushed him off, saying she'd handle it and check in later, then just ended the call. Do-hoon tried to get her to slow down and asked how many people she was up against. She just said there was only one, at least for now, and then went radio silent. Do-hoon suddenly notices that the team downstairs at the aquarium isn't answering anymore. He can't believe that just one person managed to take out the whole squad and trap Lee Hee-ji. He keeps thinking about who this person could even be. He thinks about heading over to back them up and grabs the radio, hoping someone's out there listening. The radio crackles, and someone lets Do-hoon know he's being heard. Do-hoon's not having it, he snaps back, fired up, demanding to know who's on the other end. Kang Jun's voice came through the radio, all sarcastic, making it clear he was ready to mess with Do-hoon. Hearing that, Do-hoon just froze up, eyes getting huge. He knew things were about to get real. He drops straight into the dark. Kang Jun's voice pushes him to give it a shot. Somewhere else in the building, Lee Hee-ji steps back from Errol, careful not to trip over the bodies all over the floor. Hee-ji can't help but wonder how this woman ended up being so ridiculously strong. The rest of the team gets ready to move in, and one of them points out they should handle her before anything else. He yells out that they need to take out at least one person right now, and everyone just locks in, ready to go. Hee-ji looks at Errol, trying to figure out who she really is. Errol introduces herself as the minister of the imperial household and thanks Hee-ji for basically throwing caution out the window. Errol says it's all because of her that she can finally start helping out her master again, after being out of the game for ages. Hee-ji's brain just blanks. She's never even heard this name before, so she starts thinking maybe this Errol girl is some hunter from another country or something. Then Errol mentions she's grateful and promises to remember Hee-ji's name. Errol wants to know her name and says she's going to lose it once she hears his. Lee Hee-ji steps up and says her name, letting everyone know she's the interrogation tech. She checks if anyone's heard of her before, then mentions she's actually pretty good at handling torture herself. Errol calls out Hee-ji for messing around, pointing out that it's like she totally skipped her manners lessons. She suddenly says she'll teach her herself. Hee-ji just sits there, totally caught off guard. Errol lets Hee-ji know that chasing some epic or heroic death isn't worth it. Hee-ji always pointed out that Errol could be pretty rude and kind of a troublemaker. Hee-ji charges straight at Errol, totally sure of herself. She knows this is her zone, and whips just don't do much damage when you're up close. Errol goes straight for Empire's Etiquette first form. Hee-ji did not see that coming and just freezes for a second. Errol swings at Hee-ji and lets everyone know the move's called poise. Hee-ji winced, trying to hold back a groan as pain shot through his body. Errol quickly told her to keep it down, not wanting anyone to hear. Hee-ji cries out, saying she's hurting. Errol doesn't waste a second, he locks in and fires off Empire's Etiquette second form. She lets everyone know the forum's just getting them ready for a crowd. Hee-ji suddenly notices she's somewhere else, trying to figure out what's going on. Hee-ji is caught off guard, not expecting what just happened. Errol lets her know she can't meet the king looking like that and tells her to drop any weapons she's hiding. Suddenly, a bunch of hidden blades and gadgets start falling out of Hee-ji's clothes, like she's smuggling an entire arsenal. Errol moves so fast that Hee-ji barely sees it coming. Suddenly, he's slammed to the ground, totally pinned. Lying there, Hee-ji can't help but realize just how quick she really is. Errol tells her to stay down and put her forehead on the floor, but Hee-ji isn't having it. She stands her ground, refusing to do what he says. Hee-ji just loses it and starts crying. She admits she messed up and asked for another chance, hoping someone will go easy on her. Errol grabs Hee-ji's hair and notices she's finally acting the way he wanted. He thinks she actually looks pretty cute when she listens. Meanwhile, Hee-ji just keeps begging, not letting up at all. Errol points out that she literally just told herself to keep it together. Hee-ji totally loses it and yells about how freaky things are. Errol figures she's at least kinda prepped to meet his majesty now. Errol gets set, then goes all in with Empire's Etiquette third form. Meanwhile, Hee-ji just keeps pleading. Errol lets Hee-ji know that what's coming up is called the Imperial Audience. She tells Hee-ji that when she's in front of the Emperor, she has to keep her eyes down and not look any higher than his knees. Errol calls Hee-ji out for being rude, letting her know she should actually be thankful she gets to hang out with her master today. Errol pulls her hair back, her mind wandering to what could have gone down if her master had chosen to roll with the Grand Duke Crepsley, Doll Sue, instead of picking her. She realizes Hee-ji wouldn't just be laying there with her eyes closed all calm like that. Now, Hee-ji's out cold or maybe even gone, just lying on the floor. Over in the ceremony hall, Kang-jun messes with his tie, totally bored. He glances over and, probably talking to Do-hoon on the dropped radio, tells him to just end it. Up on the rooftop, Do-hoon's face is tight with frustration. He sizes the guy up and realizes this dude isn't the kind to back down just because someone tells him to. Do-hoon throws out a cold warning. Regret's not going to save him now. Right then, his crew rolls up behind him, ready for whatever's next. Kang-jun catches on pretty quick. He sees Do-hoon's crew acting weird, like something's definitely off. It doesn't take him long to figure out that they're not just being sketchy for no reason. Turns out, there are bugs actually controlling them. Kang-jun looks at Do-hoon and starts thinking if Do-hoon was the guy who dropped those bugs at his place. He can't figure out why Do-hoon would even pull something like that. Do-hoon figures out that Kang-jun was the one who took out the mana parasite. Kang-jun lets Do-hoon know that he's not getting out of this easy. He'll have to go through some serious pain before he spills anything. But Do-hoon just looks at him, not even flinching, basically telling Kang-jun he's clueless about what's really happening and just tells him to go ahead and do his worst. Do-hoon's crew just start blasting, unloading their guns without holding back. Kang-jun just vanishes out of nowhere, and Do-hoon's left standing there, totally confused, trying to figure out where he dipped to. Kang-jun showed up out of nowhere, catching Do-hoon totally off guard. Do-hoon froze, looking scared, while Kang-jun just stared him down, almost daring him to do something. It was like Kang-jun remembered Do-hoon talking tough earlier and was calling him out, not letting him forget those words. Kang-jun basically tells him to treat his guys like tools he can use however he wants, almost like handing over a squad for him to command. He usually avoids doing anything messy himself. Do-hoon suddenly gets hit with this brutal pain and blood starts dripping from his nose. Right then, he notices the mana is way too much to handle, and just like that, all the parasites he let loose are gone, wiped out instantly. Do-hoon freezes up when he sees just how much mana there is. He looks around, and suddenly everything turns into this wild, red nightmare. Do-hoon couldn't believe what he was seeing. As he tried to make sense of it, a ton of glowing red eyes started popping out in the darkness, staring right at him. Do-hoon spots the eyes and figures out they're from skeletons, but these aren't your everyday bones. They're seriously next level, the kind he's never even heard about before. He figures out that anyone controlling those skeletons has to be on another level. He was definitely one of those top-tier necromancers. Do-hoon gets even more lost, trying to figure out how a necromancer could throw punches like that and move with that kind of speed. Do-hoon can barely breathe with all that heavy mana pressing down on him. He knows he's outmatched, and there's no point fighting back. This one's way out of his league. Do-hoon catches Kang-jun's voice, asking if he's scared. Kang Jun stood in front of Do-hoon, who was on his knees, totally wiped out. He looked down at him, almost testing if what Do-hoon was going through made everything else seem pointless, like giving up would be way less work. Kang Jun lets him know straight up that things aren't going to end easy. He's not just going to let him go out quietly. Do-hoon's totally thrown off and has no idea what Kang Jun's getting at. Kang Jun lets him know that he's not done yet. He's just going to keep bringing him back, over and over, until he gets whatever info he's looking for. Kang Jun tells Do-hoon that seeing something isn't enough, and basically dares him to try it for himself. Do-hoon's body tenses up as Kang Jun finishes him off, pain written all over his face. Kang Jun tells him to get moving and promises they'll meet again soon. Do-hoon snaps awake, totally out of breath, trying to wrap his head around what just happened. He was convinced he was done for. Kang Jun tells him to open his eyes, grinning in a way that says he's not taking any of this seriously. He throws out a comment about his first death, clearly mocking him. Kang Jun says it was lame and points out that this is how all the bodies Do-hoon gave him felt too. Kang Jun looks at Do-hoon, kind of checking if he's finally ready to spill everything and chill. But Do-hoon just shakes his head and basically says no, not budging at all. Kang Jun cuts him off, saying that doing it just once didn't cut it. He basically tells Do-hoon he's going to keep taking him out and reviving him over and over until he finally spills. Kang Jun goes over what he got out of Kim Do-hoon back on that rooftop, blood still fresh in his mind. He starts putting the pieces together and figures the anti-Bureau alliance is targeting Banggu. From what Do-hoon spilled, these guys don't mess around. They actually seem pretty sharp. He realized what they were up to. Their goal was to get the new hero, Banggu, to join them, and if that worked, everyone would be freaking out. But if Banggu said no, they were ready to take him out right there with everyone else at the ceremony. Because of that, everyone started doubting if the Bureau actually knew what they were doing. Protests popped up everywhere, with people calling them out and asking for real answers. Kang Jun can't help but get annoyed, thinking he should be chilling in a garden like Sol does in her world, not cleaning up this mess. Still, he knows he can't just let these guys do whatever they want. Most of the time, dropping a leader sorts things out, but Do-hoon turned out way different than anyone expected. He watches Do-hoon wake up again for what feels like the 15th time, barely hiding his sarcasm as he says it's the last round. He gets straight to the point, wanting to know who Do-hoon's boss is and where their crew hangs out. But then he spots that something's off. Do-hoon can't even get a word out. That's when it hits him. Do-hoon's locked under some kind of spell, completely blocked from spilling any secrets. He tells him to just go ahead and say something, even if it's risky. He lets him know straight up that if he ends up dying because he says the wrong word, he's not going to bother bringing him back this time. He's honestly tired of wasting his energy on stuff that never works out. Do-hoon's eyes started to water, but he still found the strength to nod and show some gratitude for being given an end to everything. Do-hoon leans in, trying to say something about who's really in charge. But before he can get the words out, he suddenly starts choking and just drops, gone in an instant. Out of nowhere, this huge wave of dark energy explodes and just wipes him out for good, all because the spell kicked in. Kang Jun lets out an annoyed sigh when he sees that things just stop there. He figures, from now on, whoever tries to mess with him is getting taken out, no questions asked. Right then, Errol shows up behind him and calls him master. Errol lets him know that all the other targets are already handled. He nods, appreciates her hustle, and says it's time to head back. Errol looks around at the mess and the blood all over the rooftop, then checks if the other guy plans to clean it up. He just shrugs it off, saying he has no clue and figures the Bureau can handle the mess anyway. Then he mentions they should swing by to give Banggu some props and snap a pic with him. Errol's down with the plan. Inside the ceremony hall, an official handed Banggu a medal, pointing out how rough his day had been. Banggu just gave a quick, awkward thank you, not really sure what else to do. Kang Song-hung, known as the Black Wolf, was in the crowd too. He's an S-rank hunter and runs the Solitad Guild, which is ranked number 5. Watching everyone hype up this new hero, Sung-hun didn't see what was so special about him. He figured there was no point trying to scout the guy for his guild right now. Right next to him stood his vice leader, Gu Du-yul, known as Steelman. He was an S-rank hunter, ranked number 6. He nodded along, thinking to himself that Banggu honestly looked pretty scrawny and didn't seem manly at all. Out of nowhere, Sung-hyun and Du-yul both checked their phones at the exact same time, eyes wide and faces showing they definitely didn't see whatever just popped up coming. Sung-hyun leans in and lets Du-yul know there's someone here who wasn't supposed to show up. Du-yul catches on right away. They're both clocking the same uninvited guest. A few seconds later, the two S-rank hunters show up on the rooftop. Du-yul can't believe what he's looking at. They walk in and see the place trashed, blood everywhere, and Do-hoon lying there, not moving. Du-yul just stands there trying to figure out what went down. Du-yul spots the body and can tell right away that the clothes and style match what someone from their group would wear. Sung-hyun spots the tattoo under the guy's neck and instantly knows this has to be one of the higher-ups. Du-yul just stands there, frozen, trying to process how someone could take out an executive from the anti-bureau crew like that. His mind's racing, trying to figure out who could have pulled this off. Sung-hyun's phone buzzes with some wild news. Someone tells him they just found a bunch of Alliance assassins dead all over the place. Most of them ended up in the big aquarium downstairs, which is pretty messed up, and it sounds like one of them might even be their top torture guy, Lee Hee-ji. Sung Hyung's mind is spinning as he tries to wrap his head around how so many assassins and even a top-tier S-rank exec just got taken out without anyone noticing. He can't help but wonder what's actually happening right now. Do-yul wants to run straight to the bureau chief, but Sung-hyun just lets him know they're already out of time. While Kong-jun and Errol walk back into the hall, Kong-jun sees the bureau chief up on stage, totally caught up with what he's doing. Errol sees it too and just goes along with it. Bong-gu steps up on stage with the officials. He figures they should just chill until the ceremony wraps up, and Errol's cool with it. He watches Bongo up on stage, thinking the guy really messed up this time. Now the Anti-Bureau Alliance has him in their sights, and he knows he can't keep bailing him out. For a second, he starts thinking maybe Bong-gu ended up in this mess just because of him. He just shrugs it off, not really buying into the thought. He's set on making sure Bong-gu gets stronger no matter what. After that, he figures Bong-gu can do whatever he wants. He makes up his mind to really step up Bong-gu's training starting tomorrow. He thinks about how rough this is going to be for Do-hoon, but honestly, he figures it's still way better than dying for real. Marbus, still rocking his Doberman form, couldn't hold it together. He was cracking up big time. He's chilling in his apartment, eyes glued to Nabi, this scrappy street cat, going all out to snatch a fish while the vendor loses his mind. Marbus can't help but notice how Nabi's out there, living wild, battling for every meal, while his own life feels way less intense in comparison. He's just chilling now, waiting for Subin to get back from her shopping trip with that special Yangyam galbi she promised, basically some top-tier marinated ribs. Subin, who's got that immortal big sister energy, also makes sure to take him out for a walk every day. He keeps thinking that whenever he gets dirty, she always cleans him up super carefully. Marbus figures out that being a pet actually isn't all that different from living like an emperor. Life now is way smoother than before, way better than all those non-stop fights and drama he had to deal with back when he was around other demons. Marbus knows this chill life is honestly perfect for him, but he can't ignore that there's still one thing bugging him. Saul, the immortal kid, just wouldn't let it go. He kept trying to kiss him over and over. Marbus was honestly freaked out, because if Kang-jun, the other immortal, found out, it could be game over for him. He suddenly realizes Sewell isn't bugging him for kisses like she usually does. He starts thinking maybe she's already over him. For a second, he's kind of let down, but then he snaps out of it. Honestly, he's just glad it turned out this way and decides to let it slide since she's pretty cute. Right then, Kim Bong-gu shows up and says he's covering dinner tonight. He's caught off guard, but lets Bong-gu know his sister's already making Yangyam galbi, so Bong-gu owes him a Hanwoo set next time. Kang-jun gets home and spots Marbus right at the door, tail going wild. The dog clearly couldn't wait for him to show up. Marbus is just chilling there, acting like it's totally normal to camp out for his guy to come back. He calls him out for always questioning why he acts like a dog. Marbus, obviously annoyed, reminds Kang-jun that he's only doing it because Kang-jun told him to in the first place. Then he wants to know where his sister and Sol are, and Marbus just says they went out shopping. Marbus walks after his master, letting him know something wild almost went down today. He's curious and wants to know what kind of disaster his master's talking about. Marbus remembers how he jumped in just in time to catch Sol, the kid immortal, when she almost took a nosedive off the couch. He's pretty sure she would have been hurt bad if he hadn't reacted so fast. He stays chill, sipping his drink, and just says it's decent work. Marbus can't believe that's all he gets. He was expecting more. He throws out a sarcastic comment, like he's fishing for some actual recognition. Marbus acts like he doesn't need it, but then the guy decides to hook him up with a new name as a reward. He figured he was going to call Krensley Dalsu, but honestly, it just seemed to fit Marbus way more. As soon as Marbus realized he was getting a new name, he got hyped like. He really thought this meant he'd finally earned his master's trust. Meanwhile, Errol just stared at him, surprised at how much it meant to Marbus. He's sitting there, hyped up to hear his new name, but then just drops it himself, calling himself Gaetong, dog poop. Bong-gu just stands there, totally frozen, trying to wrap his head around how a demon could have a name like Gaetong. Marbus totally gets the name wrong, but he lights up, thinking the Emperor just called him his right-hand guy. Bong-gu watches Marbus get all hyped over it, and honestly can't believe this dude is actually happy about the name. Marbus lets him know it's actually a big deal for him. Bong-gu can't help but remember how this demon used to be straight up scary when they first met, but now he's basically just hanging around like a pet. Errol can't take her eyes off the scene, totally wishing she could swap her name for Gaetong. It's got her feeling kinda left out, and Bong-gu just sits there, confused about why she's acting so weird over a name. He doesn't get what the big deal is, or why Errol's being so extra. He tries to switch things up and says he's about to start cleaning the place, but the other guy cuts him off. Instead, he tells him to head home, get some rest, and come back tomorrow at 8 a.m. on the dot. That's when the real training kicks off. Bongo gets all hyped up, ready to go all in on whatever Kong-jun has planned for him. But Kong-jun just tells him straight up that he's not the one running the training. Lady Errol's actually in charge of that special program. Bong-gu and Errol freeze for a second, totally caught off guard. Bong-gu, kind of freaking out, tries to get some answers, but Errol just tells him to chill. If anything goes wrong and Bong-gu bites it during training, Errol's got him and will bring him back, just like last time. Hearing that makes Bong-gu even more nervous, and he can't help but stress about why he might end up in a life or death situation in the first place. He starts talking about how people die sometimes, then casually says Bangu would actually pull off the whole Dullahan like a headless horseman if he ever came back. Bangu totally freaks out, not understanding why anyone would bring up something that creepy right then. Errol steps in without getting worked up, just straight up saying the problem is the guy's ugly face. She explains her master only brings back people who look rough as Dullahans, so he needs to stop complaining and listen. Bangu just freezes, not even sure how to react. Later on, Bangu is seen collapsing during training. Back then, he had no clue that things could get so real that he might actually die and turn into a Dullahan. About an hour later, Sol came back, sprinting into the house like he was having the time of his life. Subin lets Kong Jun know that Sol had been waiting on him for a while. Kong Jun picks up his daughter, holding her close in a way that just hits different, like all the tough guy stuff drops away when he's with her. Off to the side, Marbus is watching the whole thing, noticing how Kong Jun totally softens up around the kid, even though he's supposed to be immortal and all that. He keeps checking in on Sol, totally focused on her, kind of amazed that this awesome kid is actually his daughter. He watches her with a proud smile and wants to know what she got up to today. Sol gets all hyped up, telling him she just crushed it at the smart calculator game. Then she insists he joins in, but he just stands there, totally frozen and not saying a word. The next morning, with just 60 days left until the big hunter reclassification test, Kim Bangu showed up at the apartment. He spotted Elder Dalsu and Kremsley and nodded at them, checking in to see if they'd gotten any sleep. Kremsley gives him a quick sign to chill and keep it down, since Sol, the princess, is still out cold. Bangu gets the hint and mumbles a quiet, sorry. Kremsley brought up that he'd heard Bangu was about to start some short-term training with Lady Errol today. Bangu kind of nodded, not super confident about it. Kremsley tells himself that Errol's training is actually really solid, and he knows it's going to level up Bangu's mindset way more than if Bangu trained with Kong Jun. Bangu, meanwhile, can't stop thinking about how epic Errol looked in his head. Bangu honestly had no clue. All he really noticed was that she looked like someone he wanted to look out for, just seemed chill and easy to trust. Kremsley gets all serious and lets him know that in the Annox Empire, it's all about being strong. Only the toughest make it. Lady Errol was on another level, so good she ended up as one of the Empire's top 5 advisors. That's when Bangu starts to get it. Kremsley points out that most people wouldn't even survive a few rounds against her before getting wrecked, but Bangu isn't impressed. He honestly wishes he could have trained with Kong Jun instead. Kremsley just grinned, looking pretty satisfied, and let him know that the king really knew what he was doing. When Bangu wanted to know more, Kremsley broke it down. No one who trained with the king ever got hurt, so it made way more sense for Errol to take over his training. Bangu could tell that Kong Jun kept training chill and didn't really go hard on anyone. He figured Kong Jun was pretty easygoing as a teacher. Kremsley shuts it down hard, dropping the real story. Everyone actually died during training. No survivors, just gone. There weren't even any injuries, just straight up fatalities. Bangu hears this and is completely stunned. Right then, Errol showed up in his workout gear, said sorry to the Archduke, Kremsley, for cutting in, and let him know that training was about to start, so she had to take Bangu with her. Kremsley didn't make a big deal out of it and just gave the okay. She tells him to get out of the way, not even breaking a sweat, and he just goes after her, totally freaked out. As they're heading out, Kremsley suddenly gets hit with a realization. He totally spaced on telling Bangu that half of Lady Errol's trainees don't even make it through alive. He just shrugs it off, figuring it's whatever. Even if Bangu gets knocked out for good, the king can just bring him back as an undead, so honestly, it's not that serious. Later on, Bangu found himself in a park right by the base of Guanxon Mountain. The whole spot was off limits because some weird gate had popped up. He was breathing hard, totally worn out from whatever went down. Errol lets him know they'll be doing straight-up hand-to-hand combat training all day, and it's not stopping until the sun goes down. Bangu starts to speak up, trying to say he's got magic powers, but Errol shuts him down fast, making it clear that one wrong move and Bangu's done for. Bangu backs off right away and throws out an apology. Errol lets him know that magic training is set for nighttime. Bangu suddenly gets it. He's supposed to keep fighting all day until the sun goes down, then jump straight into learning magic. He thinks she's expecting way too much from him. Errol just shrugs it off, acting like today's gonna drag out way more than anyone expects. She points out that if you can't sleep, the day's gonna drag on, and by the time it's dark, he'll get what she's saying. That just makes Bangu even more nervous. Errol gets ready, standing like he's about to throw down, making it clear training is about to start. Bangu hangs back a little, not sure what's coming, and tries to figure out what kind of training Errol's got planned. Errol tells him straight up to go after her, not holding back at all. Bangu didn't see that coming and just freezes for a second, trying to process what he just heard. Errol suddenly gives off this intense vibe, making it clear she's not playing around. If Bangu keeps messing up, she's straight up ready to handle him herself, military style. Bangu can feel the pressure big time. It's like the whole room just got way heavier. Bangu suddenly focuses up, promising himself he's going to give it everything he's got. Errol tells him to treat her like a real opponent out there, not to hold back or apologize for coming at her. That makes Bangu take a breath and pull himself together, ready to face her head on. Bangu charges straight at her, totally locked in, swinging punch after punch without slowing down. Errol slips past them like it's nothing, moving so smooth you'd think he's done this 1,000 times. Bangu barely has time to process what's happening before she lands a solid punch right to his face, sending him straight to the ground. The scene switches over to a field where a cow is just chilling and eating grass. Nearby, her baby calf is struggling to get on its feet for the first time. In the background, someone's voice is cheering the little one on, telling it to stand up. The scene keeps going with the calf, and after a few shaky tries, it finally manages to stand up on its own, legs wobbling. Someone in the background shouts out a quick congrats, hyping up the moment. At the same time, Bongu starts shaking, standing there just like the calf. Then, out of nowhere, both of them drop to the ground at exactly the same moment. Errol sits back, just watching everything go down, and honestly, she starts to question if Bongu is actually human at this point. Bongu thinks back and realizes this was actually the first time he ever blacked out. Back at Kang Jun's place, he's still hanging out with his daughter Sol. He's totally wiped from playing that calculator game with her, and honestly, it's got him feeling like he's been at it for ages. All he wants right now is for this never-ending grind to finally chill. Back at the training grounds, Bongu was flat on the ground, totally out of breath. He couldn't believe he'd wiped out for the 26th time. Bongu's got nothing left in the tank, just wiped out on the ground. It hits him that this isn't some regular practice, it's straight up torture. He really just wants to pass out so he can finally get a break. Errol just tells him to get up, not even stressing. She pulls out a move called Water of Life and Death, which basically brings someone back on their feet. She pours it on him, and he's up right away, no time wasted. Bongu lets out a painful grunt, clutching his face. Errol notices his jaw looks pretty messed up, like seriously out of place, and lets him know she's got it covered and will sort it out. While she rests her glowing hand on his face, trying to heal him, Bongu starts drifting in and out, saying random stuff about the old days and saying he needs to go back. He keeps going off about how he wishes he could go back and set his old self straight, even asking Kang Jun, who's not even around, to bail him out. But out of nowhere, he just snaps, says he's done, and acts like everything's cool. Errol just brushes off how out of it Bongu looks and tells him to get back up. Bongu barely manages to stand, his mind spinning as he realizes they've done this whole thing 27 times already. Errol charges at him again, but this time he knows he has to stop the hit. Bongu managed to block her punch, but the hit was so strong he couldn't help yelling out from how much it hurt. Bongu can't believe how much power she packs in those tiny fists. To him, it's like watching someone swing a massive iron mace instead of just throwing a punch. Bongu stands there catching his breath, thinking about how it seriously felt like he just stopped a hit from some massive iron club. Errol let out a noise showing he'd had enough and called it for the day. Hand-to-hand training was done. Bongu dropped straight to the floor, totally relieved he survived. But Errol wasn't having it. She told him to get up since it was time to grab some food and recharge. Bongu just sits there, thinking there's no way he's surviving 2 months of this brutal training. What really gets him is knowing they haven't even touched the magic part yet. After chilling on the couch for a bit, Bongu hears Errol tell him to go crash for the night. He's caught off guard, thinking for a second that maybe magic practice is off the schedule today. He shuts his eyes, figuring she probably doesn't want to go all out right away, and he appreciates how chill she is about it before he drifts off to sleep. Errol hangs back, making sure he's actually out cold before she moves. Once she's sure he's knocked out, she quietly puts her hand on his head and starts up her magic. Bongu blinks and realizes he's somewhere totally new. He grins to himself, thinking he's finally done with all that training. He suddenly finds himself standing in his old school, totally thrown off. Right in front of him is Lady Errol, looking straight up to Monik. Before he can even process what's happening, Errol lets him know it's time to start magic training. Bongu smacks his own face, kind of expecting it to sting, but nothing happens. He's honestly surprised it doesn't hurt at all. Right away, he thinks back to what Errol said earlier about today dragging on forever, especially if you count the time spent sleeping. It suddenly hits him. This whole thing might be a nightmare, and he starts to seriously wonder if he's stuck in a dream. Errol nods, letting her know she got it right, and mentions that everything around them is built from his own mind. He can't help but be surprised, wondering how any of this is real, but she just stands there all confident, making it clear she runs the whole show here as the Queen of Succubi, basically the boss of this dream world. She shuts him down quick, letting him know it's time for nighttime magic training. Just like during the day, it's all hands-on, no breaks. Bongu starts freaking out, thinking he's about to be grinding magic even while he's asleep. Errol just tunes the guy out and starts giving her directions. He tells her to go all and use her whole body to land hits, throw in some magic, and keep her moves unpredictable so nobody can guess her next play. Bongu's mind is racing. He can't believe Errol actually set this up. The schedule is just brutal, not letting him catch a break, not even when he's trying to sleep. Errol just brushes it off, kind of mocking him, basically saying not to stress. Since everything happening is inside his own head, he's just going to respawn forever no matter what. Bongu freaks out inside, thinking this is way more messed up than he expected. Every night, Errol jumps right back into training inside Bongu's mind, where everything looks just like his old school. She doesn't waste any time and tells him to go all out and attack her, no holding back. She launches a spear made of bright blue magic, blasting it straight ahead. Bongu takes the hit straight on. He's hurting, trying to figure out how he's even supposed to dodge something like that, let alone fight back. Bongu hits the ground hard, totally confused about why it hurts so much when he knows he's just dreaming. Errol, staying chill, points out that if Bongu didn't feel real pain, the training wouldn't actually work. Bongu drops to the floor, annoyed that she didn't say that sooner. He's just sitting there, drained, seriously doubting if he's got what it takes to make it through all this training. She gives him a command, just one word. Instantly, she goes after him again, hitting him so hard he gets launched into the air, yelling out from the pain. He drops to his knees, pain hitting so hard he honestly thinks dying might be easier. She just stands there, glaring down at him, saying the same harsh thing like she's got zero chill. Bangu's first day of training finally wrapped up, and honestly, it was rough. He got put through the ringer, and by the end, he was just done. Over at Kangjun's place, his sister Subin pulls up and hands him a brand new phone. She tells him it's about time he had his own. He's hyped, super grateful, and lets her know he's been wanting one for a while. Subin lets him know she already put her number in his phone. When he checks, he sees she saved it under Big Sister. About a month and a half before the exam, he wanted to know if Bangu had leveled up at all. Errol let him know that Bangu could actually handle himself a bit better these days. He didn't really see that coming. She never usually says stuff like that about him, so it definitely caught him off guard. Errol points out that just yesterday, on day 21 of training, Bangu somehow blocked one of her attacks without even thinking about it. He wanted to know if it was a real attack, and Errol nodded. That got him thinking. Bangu's skills had seriously leveled up, and he couldn't help but respect that. Bangu walked in looking straight up wiped out. His face was pale, his beard was all scruffy, and his hair looked like he just rolled out of bed. He gave Kangjun a quick nod. He stares at him, totally thrown off, while Bangu asks Errol if they're heading out soon. Errol's mind starts racing like, it's only been 3 weeks, so what went down with Bangu's face? He points out that maybe Bangu should clean up a bit like shave and get a haircut before they head out. Bangu just stands there kinda lost, thinking, wait, do I really look that rough? Later, while they're riding in the car, he brings up why he suddenly wanted to book a gate. He says it's all about training, but in his head, he's really focused on making cash too. Honestly, the real goal is stacking up money while he gets stronger. He thinks back to when he talked with his sister Subin. He had asked if it was tough for her now that the house felt cramped and a bit too busy. Subin just smiled, saying she was good with it and actually liked all the noise. For her, the chaos made the place feel alive and fun, not lonely at all. He figures she's just saying that, but deep down he knows it's not real. She actually left her job because of him, and now he can't shake the feeling that he owes her big time. Like, buying her a house is the least he could do. Bangu starts thinking back to those brutal training sessions with Errol. He can't forget how he kept asking her to just give him a break. Now, even thinking about going into another gate has him seriously on edge. They show up at the Bukansan gate, and he's already planning to head in as a porter again, hoping to make some quick cash and bounce when he's done. While they're riding in the car, he checks if Bangu's phone is back on. Bangu nods, saying it just started working again, so he hands over his number without thinking twice. Bangu grinned and wanted to know what name he should use to save the contact. The other guy just stared, totally straight-faced, and said to put him down as Dullahan, the Headless Horseman. Bangu's grin just stops, and he gives him this icy look. He stares him down and, copying Errol's vibe, wants to know why the guy won't just look away. He adds the number to his phone, realizing he's got 2 people in his contacts now. Bangu spots Kangjun on KakaoTalk and gets curious, so he checks out Kangjun's profile. When Bangu scrolled through Kangjun's profile, he couldn't help but pause. Kangjun had this intense profile pic looking all business, and his status? It was wild, like a whole paragraph. He went off, listing his name, calling himself Seoul's dad, and even claiming he ruled the Annex continent. Kangjun complained about how raising a kid these days was no joke, basically saying it was tough work. He even threw down a challenge to anyone thinking about stepping up, warning them that if they tried, they wouldn't make it. Bangu just stared at the screen, kinda thrown off by how hard Kangjun was going with it. Bangu's face says it all. He looks straight up annoyed, but he just acts like nothing happened and keeps it moving. Somewhere else, 2 secretive guys from the Anti-Bureau Alliance were checking out a report together. One of them let the other know that High Command had already said the mission to snatch the target didn't work out. The second guy started thinking if this was that mission where 2 of the 12 top officers and the best agents got sent out. Not only did it flop, but everyone on that squad got wiped out. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Alliance officers, even the lower-ranked ones, were supposed to be tough, but somehow they all got taken out. He kept thinking about what kind of people could actually pull that off, and honestly, it was kind of wild to imagine. The first guy explained that the brothers got direct orders to go after Kim Bangu themselves. The second guy started thinking if their leader just cared about the target because he was trending and everyone was talking about him lately. The first guy backed it up, saying the leader lost 2 of his top guys because of him. Now, the leader's basically locked in on catching him, way more than before. The second guy wanted to know when they'd actually get started, but the first one just brushed it off, saying the target wasn't a big deal and nothing to stress about. He said they'd handle it fast and get it done, ASAP. At the entrance to Bukansan, Kangjun and Bangu were getting ready to head in. Bangu started rubbing his ear, saying it felt weird, and tossed out a joke about people probably talking about him or plotting something. He didn't really find it funny though, and made it clear he hadn't given anyone a reason to talk trash about him. When Mr. Kim Bangu showed up at the checkpoint, the guard wanted to know if he had anyone else in his crew. Bangu just told him it was only him and Kangjun, the porter, rolling together. The guard paused for a second, saying it's risky to go through the gate solo, even though it's technically allowed. Bongo tried to talk him into letting it slide, but Kong Jun wasn't really focused, he just wanted some food. The guard wasn't having it, letting Bongo know that, rules or not, he couldn't just walk in, even if he was the guy's son. Bongo glanced over and noticed a tiny convenience store, figuring the whole debate was about to get dragged out. He tried to explain he was good, even offered to fill out whatever paperwork they needed. After that, the guard finally gave in and told him to follow so they could double-check everything. He told him to hang tight, promising he'd come back with a solo entry permit just for him, so Kong Jun could keep up with his training. He stepped in front of him and asked if he could use his bank card to grab some food, totally catching Bongo off guard. He tried to explain himself, saying Bongo dragged him out of bed for early training and he missed breakfast, throwing in a jab about whether Bongo was being cheap. Bongo got a little embarrassed and tried to deny it, but ended up mumbling that he'd already downed 2 bowls before. He switched gears fast, remembering he wanted to mention the reward he got after the medal ceremony. Hearing anything about rewards or cash, he instantly zoned in, super curious about how much he could actually get. Bongo told everyone he got 100 million won for taking out the A-rank assassin at the Guro Digital Complex gate, and another 200 million for helping shut down the gate near Silim Crossroads. That put him at a total of 300 million won. The amount honestly blew his mind, he'd never seen cash like that before. Bongo knew none of this would have happened without him, so he tried to hand the cash back. The other guy just stared him down and shook his head, not taking it, but Bongo kept pushing until he finally accepted. Out of nowhere, he grabbed the guy, clearly annoyed, wanting to know why he waited until now to say anything. The other dude got a bit anxious, wondering if this meant the money deal was off. He raised his voice, demanding to know why the other guy wouldn't just take it. In his eyes, it seemed like the dude was trying to keep all the cash for himself. Bongo straight up denied it, saying he was planning to come clean but just never got the chance. Right then, the guard called Bongo over. He looked serious and said when people are close, money stuff has to be even more clear. Then he said he'd just take 200 million and let Bongo keep the rest. Bongo felt weird about the whole thing. He kept thinking he hadn't really done anything to deserve that kind of money. But the guy just told him to chill and take it, saying it was a thank you for all the help getting around. Then, with this sneaky grin, he tossed in that Bongo shouldn't get too comfortable. He'd be putting him through enough training to earn another 100 million won for sure. Bongo felt something when the guy told him to go finish signing up, so he went ahead and did it first. When he finally had some time to himself, he started thinking about the whole 300 million thing. It honestly felt like making cash in this world was way too easy. He remembered how the money he snagged from Bongo before kept him going for 3 months straight. He started doing the math in his head, wondering if the scrawny necromancer he just took down was really worth 100 million won. So, if he takes down 10 others like himself, he'll hit his target, 1 billion won, and get to live like an absolute king. He grinned to himself, thinking that even taking down 1 a day would be a massive win. From now on, he figured he'd need to grab 3 gates daily to keep leveling up. As soon as he stepped through the gate, the system let everyone know he'd made it to Lizardman Forest. He realized he wouldn't have gotten in at all if he hadn't signed that waiver first. He stepped through the gate and instantly felt the cool air hit him. It woke him up, but even with that, something felt off, like there was a weird energy in the air he couldn't ignore. Not long after, a bunch of lizardmen with weapons showed up in front of him, so he knew he'd made it to the right spot. He lets him know that he's the pro here and will show how it's done, so Bongo should pay attention. Bongo didn't expect this. It's not at all what Elder Dalsu talked about. Errol goes in with the first move, but the way he explains things is actually super chill. He walks through the forest, thinking about how swords aren't really meant to take someone out face to face. He comes through with a nasty flash punch, dropping one of the lizardmen on the spot. He lets him know straight up that, for now, the main thing is leveling up his game so he can throw punches and kicks without holding back. Bongo pushes back, letting him know he's got magic on his side. In his head, he's annoyed. Errol made him do all that combat training before, and now this guy is pulling the same move. He tries to make it clear why mages get called glass cannons. Once things get up close, they're pretty much toast. He keeps going with the demo, dropping more lizardmen with quick, hard hits. He points out that if Bongo picks up some basic fighting skills, he'll stay chill and not panic when enemies pull up close. He keeps taking down monsters one after another, thinking that learning more weapons is the move if he wants to get even better. Bongo can't help but stare. He's honestly impressed because every swing and dodge just looks way too smooth. He takes down another monster with a final hit, wrapping up his point. When you gotta level up fast, sorting out your weak spots works way better than just stacking new skills. Bongo stands there, watching as the monsters drop one by one. He can't help but think it's actually insane, seeing all this go down right in front of him. He stands over the lizardman he just took down, acting like it was no big deal. Bongo just freezes, totally caught off guard. Now he looks over at another squad of monsters and signals that it's this guy's shot now. Bongo's head is spinning, he can't believe what just happened. Deep down, he's freaking out, thinking, is this guy for real? After a second it hits him, this dude is actually even wilder than Errol. Back at the apartment, Sol was just sitting around, clearly bored. She turned to her aunt Subin and said she wanted to see her dad. Subin let her know that her dad had gone out with Uncle Bongo to handle something important. Subin tries to keep her mind off things, telling her that her dad's coming back with chicken and tofu snacks later. As soon as she hears chicken, Sol lights up. She grabs her phone and texts her dad, wanting to know when he'll be home. Subin flashes back to that rough execution scene, realizing Sol is repeating the words she picked up from her dad. That hits Subin hard, and she gets annoyed, wondering if Sol still has that memory stuck in her head. Sol grabs a banana and holds it up like he just won something, glancing over at Subin to see if she's impressed. Subin gives him a smile and nods, but in her head, she's honestly starting to wonder if her niece is actually some kind of genius.